I believe in round 3 almost got over the top of Vermont there. Vermont was a 3-point win, but I think again, so that's the only 2 scares, but they came out and then pumped Norwood the next week. So Vermont have, after a slowish start and still being 3-0, they've clicked into gear straight away. No, they've fallen off, Ray, but that's expected with the side. They're expected with the side that they had a bit more youth. They haven't got the experience of Division 1 and the bodies like that to play it through. So let's look ahead to Division 1, Damo. And of course, it's a big round. I was just talking to the assistant coach of Vermont, Marty Pask, about the round, and it's a round that could really sort out some positions on the ladder. We've got, of course, 1v3 here today. South Croydon, of course, it's basically 1v2 with just percentage separating Doncaster and South Croydon. We've then got Norwood and Doncaster. Of course, Norwood have to basically win, you'd say, majority of their remaining games and take scalps like Doncaster and South Croydon. North Ringwood and Baldwin play in what's a game that I think the loser will probably be right out of the race for finals, whereas Baldwin might be able to, the winner would be back in the race, of course, with Blackburn and Roeville playing. You'd expect Roeville probably to slip up there to allow Baldwin back into the 5. East Ringwood play Noble, and it's a big chance for East Ringwood, of course. Gav Casey's underdog during the week. East Ringwood a big chance to get a win that it's not expected on them, of course. If you can get a win outside of that bottom 3, it helps your relegation fight. And Montrose and Knox, this is Knox's big chance. It's another big chance for Knox to come back into it and try to get a victory and maybe surprise someone. Exactly, and that's what it's all going to come down to. You'd say South Croydon and Doncaster, of course, both playing finals, but if they want to finish top 2, they've got to figure something at the top. If South Croydon want to finish top 2, this is a big chance to. If they win today, you'd say top 2's sewn in because it's a win that they weren't expected to get. You'd suggest Vermont would be the bookies' favourite if there were bookies taking bets on the EFL. South Croydon, I think there's a lot of people out there that want South Croydon to win, but I think your head would probably suggest Vermont. But we'll, of course, spend a lot more time talking about this game, of course, during the day, but also leading into it. But Norwood and Doncaster out at Mullen Reserve. We saw Norwood last week. They played one brilliant quarter, the second quarter, where they kicked 7 goals to 2 against Blackburn. Lee Williams kicking 4 of them in that quarter, of course. Then there was another one straight after that where the third quarter was quite tight and hard fought, with both sides playing putting a lot of physical pressure on, and then that last quarter, Blackburn performed what they did in the first quarter and just kicked a lot of goals unanswered and just were able to put Norwood to the sword, and it's probably been that game probably typified Norwood's season. Good in patches, but can't seem to put it all together.
That's right. And do you think they're Lee Williams conscious, Norwood? Do you think that they are a little bit one-dimensional when going forward? Because as you mentioned, that one quarter only last week where they had goal-scoring efficiency was when they basically had Lee Williams in full flight, and then they struggled to find another avenue. I mean, that really probably is their main deficiency at the moment, isn't it?
It's a big problem, isn't it? Because I think Lee Williams has kicked 39 goals and David Johnson has kicked 8. And he's the second best. So it's a big differential. There's a few other clubs that have that issue. Waverley Blues in Division 3. Ben Turner's kicked 16 and Jay O'Connell's next with 4. But that's not as big a differential. And it's in a division where you can get away with one goal kicker. I think in lower grades you can get away with just having one goal kicker. We've seen Forest Hill in recent times with Matt Carnelli. Surrey Park are doing it with Chris Smith. It's not exactly working that well out there for Surrey Park, but he's kicked a half a century. Division 3, Trent Farmer's kicked 48. Dale Hare from Scoresby. But as you go up the grades, you need more than one goal kicker. It's gone to the days where one man's going to kick 100 unless your side absolutely puts them to the sword every week. So I agree there. Norwood have to find a different goal kicker. And Doncaster, on the other hand, are actually doing pretty well. They're known for their defensive pressure, but they're going pretty well going forward as well.
Well, I think they're one of the most consistent sides on the board when it comes to the amount of contributors they have right across the ground. And they also are more efficient in providing a four-quarter performance. And Norwood, as we saw last week,
they're the antithesis of Norwood to an extent. They are.
I like that word.
It's not often sprouted on AFL game day.
Yeah.
It is. I've got my school teacher on it, but both the top 3 have all got A's for mine, and Blackburn I think I gave a B+ or an A- around that mark because their slow start it was the Doncaster loss would have hurt them because they outplayed them, I think, for the first half on Good Friday. And then round 2 and 3, the loss to Noble Park away was lost to Noble Park away.
3 points, I mean.
Yeah, as well. So losing Noble Park is probably not expected with the list the way they are, but also to lose by 10 goals is hurt. So after that slow start, they've been fantastic. I think that's 5 or 6 on the trot now for Blackburn, 5 on the trot leading into today. So if they can beat Rowville today, that's a big one. So I think this round will be shaping the ladder a lot in Division 1, of course. Nord and Doncaster, we better get back to that one. I'm tipping Doncaster. I think the conditions today as well suit Doncaster. I think they're quite a tough side that likes it. Like you said, they're workmanlike. They get the job done. They do it week in, week out. Andrew Tranquilly, they've built on years of consistency in the coaching box, and moving on with that, they know what to expect from their coach, and that's where they've got them. So I'm going Doncaster.
Yeah, I think they're learning a lot from last year and the way they faltered in the final, so I'm going to go with Doncaster as well, flying under the radar. No Carlton draft slab bet required here.
No slab bet, of course. Yeah, well, that'll definitely come up later today. It's just North Ringwood and Baldwin. Baldwin, they're going all right. They had a win against Noble Park a couple of weeks ago, of course, which is much needed, after faltering for a bit there. North Ringwood at Quamby are a very good side, and like I said, I think, Baldwin probably allow one more loss, but they can't afford losses to sides like North Ringwood. You'd say any team that's around or below them, they have to beat from now on to make finals. I think top 3 is out of the question now for Baldwin. Yeah. They're not going to make it. They're 2 games below these two sides, well, South Croydon and Doncaster, and of course 4 games behind Vermont, but you don't see them reeling in either of them unless they slip up, and even then Blackburn's ready and waiting to take that spot. So I think Baldwin really need to focus on winning all the games with teams around them, and then hoping to pinch a win against a Blackburn or something like that.
Well, it's not necessarily a mini-elimination final yet today because Rowville could easily
Is it an 8-pointer, Damo?
Oh, potentially down the track, but Rowville could easily slip up, so I wouldn't say this is the do-or-die encounter for the season. But it is an important game, there's no question about that. Look, I have faith in Baldwin here. I think they can get the job done. I just get the sense North Ringwood are sliding a bit after their very good start and promising start to the season. But there was almost an expectation that it might happen because they are a relatively inexperienced side when it comes to Division 1, this current list, so there was always that possibility.
Fading a little bit, and that's probably what's happened. But Quamby Reserve is the ground they play very, very well.
True,
as we know.
It's conditions today.
Well, conditions today make Quamby Reserve even more difficult to play because we talk about fast grounds and slow grounds. It's a slow ground, isn't it? The grass is that little bit longer than every other ground. You know, it's a big ground. It can get chopped up and quite muddy and hard to run on. And to be fair, Baldwin aren't a side with extreme pace, and we haven't seen North Ringwood this year so far. But I'm leaning towards North Ringwood. I don't know what it is. I've probably been tipping Baldwin's demise for a long time, so I've got to stick by my word.
Okay.
I think North Ringwood at home. That'll help.
All right, this could be our Carlton draft slab.
You're going to go? We're going to go.
We'll go for it.
Okay, there you go.
Baldwin.
So you've gone Baldwin.
Because it could go either way.
It could. Oh, I'm not saying it'll be. I'd be surprised if the margin's more than 5 goals. Baldwin showed a bit more on Queen's birthday, but Noble Park are very inconsistent because of how young they are. So when they got it right, Baldwin looked second best, but they couldn't get it right for long enough. Moving on now to the next game, East Ringwood and that side, Noble Park at East Ringwood, which plays into their hands. But Noble Park, like I said, very, very young. They've got some good players. Dylan Gordon at fullback provided a lot of dash as well and had a long kick. They've got Sketcher and Mart in the middle, but they're probably lacking anyone below that. It drops from A grade to sort of CB.
Yeah.
So I think there's no one else in that B plus A minus sort of category. I'm using a lot of grades. I'm in a rhythm.
Mid-semester report.
Yeah, in their side. So there's Sketcher and Martin are their best players by a mile, and then it sort of drops off.
So I agree with you there. I think Noble Park will win today. Again, I have a lot of sympathy for East Ringwood. I was talking to one of their assistant coaches there during the week, and I think they just struggle to find a big forward target because they're relying a lot of their smalls in the pocket. So I think Noble Park probably have more variety in terms of goal-scoring avenues, and I get the sense that they'd be favourites today, but I'm not sure whether either of these sides. Certainly East Ringwood can't make finals, and Noble Park probably a little bit behind the barometer at this point as well, even though they're only 2 games out. So certainly if Noble Park lose today, they are definitely out. You can rule them out and rule the line through them for season season 2018.
Well, we're joined by a special guest here, Damo. We started it last week. We got a playing player in there. We had Ben Danaher in the box last week before the game. Unfortunately for this guy, he's not playing out there today or probably for the rest of the season. Lockie Johns has joined us in the box. Vermont star. Lockie, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, boys. How are you? And I'll just stop you there. I am planning on getting back.
You're planning on getting back out there? What is the injury, mate? You got the moon boot and the crutches. What's the official diagnosis?
So I injured the syndesmosis. It seems to be all the rage in the AFL at the moment. You've
popular injury.
Heard a bit about it, yeah. So it's just a bit of a slow healing one. That's the problem. Waiting for the ligaments to heal. So it's got to take your time to get back into it, and I just keep taking it slowly.
Have they got an ETA, as it were, on when you can start running and getting back involved?
I'm sort of hoping I'll see the surgeon this week, and I'll no doubt find out more then. But I'm sort of hoping to we've got a bye around 15.
Yep.
And it'd be nice to try and get back sort of pretty close after that.
And how many games in the resis do you reckon you'd have to have before you can sneak in?
I hope one or two just to get going, and it'd be nice to get back out there, that's for sure.
What role are you performing on game days? Obviously, someone who's as good as you and had a bit of experience at the VFL and stuff like that would be able to offer a bit of insight. Has Harmit got you working with the midfielders and anyone like that on game day?
Yeah, so I'm sort of on the bench there, hanging out with Brad Cullen, and we sort of do it together, the midfield section. And it is quite interesting seeing it probably from the other perspective. Like you see a few things when you're out on the ground, and then you get the other side of it in the coach's box. And I think they're a bit unreasonable with some of the things they point out.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing with an oval-shaped ball and stuff, and I have to mention that sometimes. But no, it is good seeing it from the other side. And I reckon once I do get back out there, it's something that I'll definitely have benefited from.
Of course, your side playing against the grand final opponents from last year. I mean, some sides would try and block out the grand final loss when they take on that particular opponent the following season. Some sides use it as a spur, of course, particularly given you were favourites going in. What's been the attitude amongst the club here in regards to South Croydon? Is it burnt within you all season long?
Yeah, it's definitely burnt. I think a lot of the guys sort of marked it in the calendar when the fixtures came out, and we've probably been building up to this point. You know, we brought a few new players in and stuff like that, and they obviously don't have those demons, I guess, of last year of worrying about that. But the boys have made it clear that, you know, we've come hard to play, and we've improved on some areas that we think let us down last year in the grand final. And I guess when it happens 2 years in a row, you've got to sort of sit back and start thinking, all right, look, something's got to change. And as a leadership group, we sort of took it pretty hard and sort of sat down and thought, no, we can't just sweep this under the carpet again. We addressed it and moved forward. But it should be a really good game, and I think that the moisture and the wetness out there is going to make it a bit interesting.
There's a bit of a level, and there's a bit of heat in this reserves game. As I walked in, there was a few arms flailing about there, Damo on the wing. I'm not going to point fingers at anyone, but there was one punch to the face, which was missed. So if the MRO was on that one, Damo.
A lot of physicality.
Lockie, you said that you guys addressed it as a leadership group. What was the thing that you addressed? Obviously, you can't sweep it under the carpet, as you said. Sometimes, a la Hawthorn 2012, it can just happen on the day, but it's happened a couple of years in a row now. What was it? Is it a mental thing that maybe people get a bit jittery on the big stage, or was it something where you noticed what South Croydon did to you on that game that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, no, I think we sort of went in maybe a bit too structured, and like, I guess when you come into a grand final, sometimes maybe everything isn't going to go to plan, and we sort of tried to keep doing what we've been doing all year.
Didn't
and
adapt.
Setting up right, and you know, everyone's setting up with the structure that we've been trying all year. And sometimes maybe that needs to go out the window.
Yeah.
And South Croydon were really good at that, bringing the pressure and didn't let us play our game that we've been playing all year. And we probably just didn't adapt quick enough to that.
And what about South Croydon today? Because this season, I've noticed a bit of a contrast in the way they play compared to last year's grand final, where it was tough in and under. You'd expect a bit of that today, but they've been very free-flowing so far this season. Is that something that the coaching staff and the team have taken notice of?
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of them this year, but I do remember playing them out here last year, and it sort of was a bit of a shootout. So, and that's not something that we normally have. We sort of try and start with defence and then attack off that. And I'd say that's sort of the way we're going to try to play it again today. But yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I know they've really got some really good attacking options, and they've always been pretty hard to score against as well.
On a day like today, what does Harmit and the coaching staff talk about? Is there any sort of things that become more focused on? Like, obviously, on you've got your structures that you spoke about. Do those structures change and the game style change a little bit if the rain continues like it is now, where it looks like it's going to be quite a greasy sort of day?
Yeah, no, I think it's same hold for us. It's I guess, playing local footy and on some of the grounds, they're not the greatest grounds, and you get used to it. And the last few weeks, it's probably been a bit wet.
Yeah.
So we got pretty lucky early in the season. I think we got all the good weather in the first month, and we're sort of paying for it a bit now. But the guy, like we've had some wet training sessions, some wet games, so it might be a bit more rush it forward, but we'll adapt quarter time, see how things are going, and go from there.
Liam Buxton, what happened to the whale part of his name? He was one of the double barrels that I loved getting around. What's happened there? He's just chopped that off, or
I didn't even know that. I still call him that.
Yeah, Whale Buxton, of course, he's chopping it off. And the rest of the list is there a few blokes that have stepped up in the absence of yourself and a few others, of course. Joe Fisher's come back as well this year with the Box Hill reserves folding or being got rid of. Yeah, the development league folding. Joe Fisher's been good this year as well, coming back to Vermont.
Yep, yeah, no, he's been a super pick up for us, and I guess really solid down back, and it gives us some real good rebound out of there. Obviously, the big guys up forward, Angel and Eddie, have been super for us, but we've got a lot of growth from our younger players that have come through, and I guess winning a couple of games early has given us a bit, and had some injuries to myself and some other players. It's given us some chances to bring those guys through. So, the blokes like Hamish McGowan and who else is there? Little Paddy, he's been kicking some goals down there as well. So it's good to get some games into those guys, because they're going to be the stars of the future for us, that's for sure.
Well, the whole club's going pretty well. I think the juniors are all similar sort of records to the seniors as well.
Reserve's going well too.
So thanks for coming on, Locke. It's been a pleasure to get the insight from you. Obviously, sometimes Harmon likes to keep to himself, so it's good to hear something from the people at Vermont, mate, and hopefully your ligaments heal sooner rather than later, and we can see you out there in the back half of the year.
Thanks, guys.
Lockie Johns there, the Vermont star, who's out at the moment with the moon boot and the crutches on. So he's looking forward to getting back out there after the round 15 bye, of course. And like you said, Vermont going pretty well. And it's good to hear the insight there from a man on the inside of the game, a key player in their side last year. I thought he was very stiff not to be in the top three league BNF. The Chandler, of course, but that's not our prerogative.
Just in regards to Vermont, sorry, Matt, undefeated in the seniors, reserves, under 19s.
And I checked the Division 4 19s as well, Damo. Usually they've got a team running around there with Glenn Waverley. Is that correct, or not this year?
Not this year.
Oh, they must have lost about 12 players. Oh, no. They're depleted. They're the downward spiral. But we'll get back to that.
Got to find the negative somewhere. Typical
you
teachers.
do, don't you? Exactly. You can't give everyone 100%. No room for improvement. He spoke about, of course, Joe Fisher coming back. He's been awesome. And Brett Eddy. And, of course, we'll no doubt hear more of them during the day. Back to the game we were talking about, there, East Ringwood and Noble Park. Like you were saying, it's a big chance for East Ringwood to see if they can pinch a win, which I think they're a big chance of doing with Noble Park's inconsistencies. If they win that game, all of a sudden, Montrose are in big danger for their clash in a couple of weeks.
I definitely see your point, although Noble, even though their season is most likely over given their 2 games outside the final 5, there is that sort of glimmer of hope. So, I mean, they would expect to win this game, and on paper they have better class than East Ringwood. So I'd have to go with Noble here, but certainly if they lose today, that's season over for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the finals are on their mind. Mick Fogarty probably didn't think about them at the start of the year either. I'm going to go East Ringwood, Damo. I'm in an underdog mood, okay? The World Cup's got me in an underdog mood, Damo.
You've been tipping Nunawading for the last 4 weeks.
No,
you've been in an underdog mood for the whole season.
I tipped them against Sylvan, which you could honestly see my argument, and Surrey Park. And they've been their 2 best performances.
They have been okay, yeah.
So I don't see them winning today, but we'll get on to them later. Blackburn and Rover, that's another massive game in Division 1. Blackburn, who are just going on pretty swimmingly now. Brendan Allen, who only rocks the shorts, had the shorts on last week in the Arctic conditions out there at Mullen. But that's a side moving pretty smoothly at the moment, Blackburn. And Jake Hammond couldn't even get a kick last week to the last quarter, and they still managed to put a lot of goals through.
That is a good sign, isn't it, when you're not relying on that one key forward? That was a difference between the two sides last week. It's going to be an interesting one, though. I mean, Blackburn, I think they certainly have improved after a slow and indifferent start to the season. And with the momentum, you probably have to back them against Rowville today.
Absolutely. At home as well there. The Red Jackets will probably stay on today, you'd suggest, of course, with the weather.
Yeah, but the coach wears the shorts.
He does wear the shorts.
The fans follow the coach.
You do, don't you? You follow your leader. I think Rowville, they're quite an interesting side. They're similar to North Ringwood, but slightly more experienced in Division 1. So their list, I don't think I don't see them testing any of the top 4 sides at the moment. I think
lost
they're
by 6 goals.
Exactly.
To South
So they're on that sort of brink of the 5, and they're currently holding it. But I see
as well. But do you think Rowville, given that we're at the mid-season, I think you'd have to give them at least a decent grade, because
I gave them a B, Damo, a B. So what's that, about 75%?
Well, they're in the final 5 at the moment. I think, given the inclusions they've had, even though they had a disappointing season last year, you would expect them to challenge at least for the finals, and they're doing that at the moment.
Cam Manuel was a big loss. If they'd made those additions and kept him, my predicted ladder had Rowville sneaking in the 5. I've got Rowville making the 5, but I don't. I think it's almost a bit like Division 3. There's a few teams battling out for 5th, but I don't see any of them being able to knock off the top 4.
True.
But it's interesting. So I'm going to go Blackburn today at Morton Park. At Morton Park. So, so there we go. We're going to move on again to Montrose and Knox, which is Knox.
Any chance for the Falcons?
Okay, so a few people have said, "Oh, you're getting into a Knox side with an average age of 19," and I do apologise for that, but it's. I don't know what's going on there. We had so many players leave after the premiership, which is not uncommon. It's a bit disappointing, but it's not uncommon to see people sort of go, "Oh, 1 Div 2, I don't really fancy Div 1." So I think it might be a bit too hard, and they've had to get rid of their 19s to fill the numbers in the reserves and seniors. So that's what's hurting them at the moment. We're going to get back to that game, Damo, because we're just flying through the guests here. We've now got Luke McCormack, who's a bit more rogged up than last time we were out here, of course. He had the pipes out last time
Probably
we were out
25 degrees last time.
Exactly. So he's joining us, the South Croydon head coach. Luke, thanks for coming on, mate. Not AFL 360 this time. That's only when Dan's on. How are you, mate?
I'm good, boys. I'm good. Thanks for having us on here. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's an exciting day. It's definitely not like last time. And I think with these two sides, the way we're going at the moment, it's an exciting day. Hopefully, it should be a ripping game. But it might be nicer if the weather was better. But it's Melbourne and it's the middle of the season.
Exactly.
It's what we expect, isn't it?
They always say that, don't they, Damo? It's a winter sport. But, we just spoke to Lockie Johns, who said they've noticed that South Croydon have changed their game style a little bit from last year, and there's a bit more of a variety with it in the attacking half, and a bit more of a transition game with off half back. What have you seen from Vermont? Obviously you didn't play against them last year, but what have you seen in their changes to their game this year?
Oh, look, I think the quality of players that they have and roll through, I think it's still very similar. They still attack very hard and etc. And I think they like to start their attacks deep, so they get a lot of boys back, and that takes work rate, which they have. So look, pretty similar, I would have thought. But again, I wasn't there on the last day last year, mate.
About the only bloke here, I reckon, that wasn't.
You mentioned you weren't here on the last day of the season last year. Is that a blessing in disguise in a way? Because even though that victory would be fresh in the players' minds, it is a new season, you have a new perspective. Is that an advantage, do you think? And also, can you draw on the grand final victory last year as a source of belief, given Vermont are undefeated so far this year? You can knock these boys off?
Yeah, good question. Yes is the answer to the first bit. Definitely, it's a new year, 2018. That's how we had to start it. We certainly do draw on it, absolutely, as confidence, and knowing that we have beaten the side. Because, mate, no, they're in form, absolutely. I mean, they're a great side. So yeah, look, I think it's good because they've got a new coach in front of them. So and sometimes if you have the same coach in front of you and as good as he was, they can have a similar mindset and think that things might just happen. So no way, our boys will be on our toes, I would hope.
Yeah, and it might be a new wave of things, Damo. If a side like Western Bulldogs, they probably should have got rid of Bevo straight away. Everyone's getting a bit relaxed. There's a good sign of depth out there as well today. You've got Allison O'Neill, Glenn Strawn, Jason Want, Chris Jones as well, who's come back from box here, all running around in the reserves today. Obviously, a couple of those, the last two, coming back from knee or injuries as such. But that's a great sign for a club who, in recent times, probably didn't have that greater depth last year. Their reserve side, I don't think, made the finals just. Mm-hmm. Yep. The depth is so much better this year, especially with those names. Premiership players running around in the Magoos.
100%. It's great within the club. Creates a lot of competition, which is good, healthy competition. Doesn't make the coach's job any harder whatsoever. But yeah, look, it's that just adds to where we sit at the moment, and hopefully it continues.
Exactly. Well, personally, I think everyone is sort of hoping for a South Croydon victory outside of the Vermont people. Lockie John spoke that their actual, despite being such an attacking side, being number one in attacking stats, their actually main focus is to shut the other side down first before going into an attacking sort of threat. I don't know if I'm throwing new information at you there, but do you think with your variety of goal kickers this year, of course, Jake Tucker, Michael King, Daniel Cooper, all kicking 20 plus already, do you think that'll throw something different that they haven't faced yet this year?
I'm certainly hoping so. Yeah, it should, and that's our idea. I think we've had other teams, feedback from other sides telling us that
you don't know who to man up on.
Well, yeah, and more so just the team aspect, that we've heard other sides say that South don't care who kicks their goals.
Yeah,
and that's pretty important to us and to me especially. So that's the idea, is that we try and mix it up, and they'll have to hopefully try and cover all of us.
Now, we mentioned that it's been a bit more free-flowing this year, but given the conditions, do you adjust your game plan accordingly? Obviously, you can't say too much, but do they play a bearing on the game today?
Oh, they will. More so just in terms of your composure with the footy a little bit more and your execution. I think ultimately our boys are... we play in wet weather every year. We just said that at the start.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the grounds these days compared to what they used to be, they're terrific. I mean, you know, some people might come here and say this ground's not as good as Nick as others.
20 years ago, this would have been a bog.
Oh, mate, I tell you.
I wouldn't have been the only one.
That's right.
That's exactly right. No, and in all seriousness. So at the end of the day, yes, it does, and you've got to be wary of wet weather footy, but at the same time, you can still play your game if you can. If you need to. Yeah.
Frank Anderson's a media team favourite, but he's also had some pretty good news in recent times, I believe, making the Vic Metro side, was it, or something like that, of community footballs, and that's a great sign for Eastern footy, but also for South Croydon.
100%. Great kid, great fella, great attitude, and playing some really good footy.
He's put on a bit of muscle too, I think, from last year. He looks a bit bulkier.
He runs an F45 now in Croydon, which you'll be happy for me to pump up. But he certainly enjoys that.
Yeah.
He enjoys looking after himself, which a few boys do.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's right. And yeah, look, he's made the Vic Metro squad. Still squad at this point, I think, of 34 possibly. And I think he finds out soon if that's. But that's just, you're right. It's great for Eastern footy and it's great for our club.
Well, Luke, thanks for joining us again, mate. It's been a whirlwind half an hour demo for us here on pre-game. But I know I'm hoping for a South Croydon victory, and I'm mainly, though, hoping for a cracking game of footy, even despite the conditions. So good luck for today and, of course, the rest of the year.
Thanks very much, mate. And our twos have started really well here in the last quarter by almost kicking
good, of course.
Last goal. So hopefully they get over the line too, and that'll be firm.
A nice little ring. It is. There you go.
Right, thanks, boys.
There we go.
Thanks,
Luke
mate.
McCormack, South Croydon senior coach, and as we speak there, they've kicked, and that will be out in the full. But as we say there, as you said, Vermont are undefeated in all three grades, but South Croydon lead by 12 points going into this wet and windy last quarter. We were talking about Montrose and Knox before Luke came in and rudely interrupted us, Damo. You'd expect Montrose to win. I was not saying about Knox. They've got a youthful side because of necessity, because of lack of numbers, and it's disappointing to an extent because you work so hard to get up, and then all those plans sort of fall away with a large number of players actually going to East Burwood. So someone who could have been playing Division 1 is now playing Division 4.
That's it.
But to another extent, there's no excuses because there's bound to be players in and out, and they could have had eyes on players to come in.
On the park.
Exactly. So your players are out there. That's what we can judge them on. And so far this year, they started okay early. They had a close game against Montrose in round 1, actually 8 points. They gave Baldwin a bit of a run for their money in round 3, kicking 15 goals to 19. But since then, it's been pretty poor. And Montrose, if they need to win this game, and they have to beat East Ringwood. That's the bare minimum for Montrose.
That's it. I like how you gave Knox a UG. I remember getting a UG from my
you got a UG, Dama?
From my literature. She had a grudge against me, but that's another story. Look, I think Montrose would have to be primed to win this one. Just Knox don't have the cattle. It's as simple as that, and we expected that. Yeah,
so I'm not that big of an underdog mood. I'm going to go the Demons, but they have to win it. There will be pressure on them because they have to win that game.
They do.
So there we go. So we'll move on to Division 2, of course, my favourite division. Doncaster East and Mooroolbark. In round 1, Mooroolbark won by 15 points, 11-11 to 8-14. And at that stage of the year, and just in general, everyone was thinking, here we go, Mooroolbark. Of course, there was a bit of hype in the off-season. Heath Black's coming down, Matt Polkinghorne back to the club, a couple of other recruits coming down. There was a bit of hype. And then they've knocked off the premiership favourite by 15 points at home, and you're thinking, here we go. They're off and running. Since then, they've lost to Wantirna South by a goal. They then lost to Upper Gully by 42 points. They defeated Mulgrave, as everyone else has done. They then lost to Bayswater by 16 points. They then lost to Luredale by 21 points. They then lost to Croydon by 25 points. They then tied with Mitcham, which has really hurt because it's brought them back into the relegation dogfight there. And, of course, last week they went down to Park Orchards, and since then, Mooroolbark have just been disappointing. I think I almost gave them a UG. Of course, it's the tie against Mitcham that really hurts you, of course. And you doubt Doncaster East after their loss to Mitcham last week.
What's going on?
I don't know. Well, it's something we're going to have to dissect later. But Mooroolbark, first of all, been very, very disappointing. I don't see them winning today, but they've got to buck up their ideas because their list shouldn't be in this sort of position. But if it continues on, momentum, and footy's a funny game, Damo, and momentum as it is, Mitcham are on the rise up. Percentage is their friend at the moment, Mooroolbark, but if Mitcham all of a sudden you can't say they can't beat they can't you couldn't say Upper Gully are certainties to win that game, of course, after last week. So Mooroolbark, the pressure's on.
That's it. Only 30% separating these two sides, Mooroolbark and Mitcham. But, yeah, certainly Mooroolbark season over. It's interesting. I remember after that first win Mooroolbark had over Donny East, Heath Black still wasn't satisfied. He went out and said...
Well, maybe he should have been.
That's what I mean. Maybe he saw something coming, Matty.
Maybe.
Because you said it's more about the process going forward and the bigger picture rather than how you play on the day. And maybe he saw something that wasn't quite right despite the victory. And it's come to fruition in that way.
He saw it. No one else seemed to have seen it coming, but you'd think if he'd seen it though, Damo, he might have worked on a way to fix it. Obviously, it's a problem that is bigger than they thought, and they're playing Doncaster East, of course, as we mentioned, lost to Mitcham last week. Mitcham's sort of that thing where you expect them to fade after a good opening half and fade away, but they didn't go away and got the win by 7 points, and it's massive for them now, equal on points from Mooroolbark. But Doncaster East, after knocking off Lilydale, find themselves 7-2, and I said in my report I've given them a B+ because they should be 9-0 because they've lost to 8th. They've lost to 8th and 9th.
It's almost the Carlton 95 syndrome. They beat everyone else except for some of the bottom teams for Donny
wasn't
East.
it? I think Essendon lost that game in 01, was it, or 2000, where they only lost the one game against the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs were a finals team.
Were they?
Year.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was only about 6 then, Dame. I'm not sure if I can remember. But yes, like you're saying there, that it might be the Carlton 95. It bodes well for Doncaster East if it's Carlton 95, of course. But it's interesting because they should be 9-0. They beat the undefeated side, or Lilydale, who aren't undefeated anymore, pretty easily. They harassed them and just made Lilydale look second-rate to an extent, and then have come out against the Mitcham side, who everyone else has pretty much battered from pillar to post, and lost by 7 points. The Mooroolbark loss, we almost gave them a bit of leeway round one, and everyone's a bit slow to start, but that Mitcham one is interesting, and you'd expect them to come out firing. Steve Buckle won't want a repeated round one.
Yeah, Donny East at home are pretty good. I'd have to go with Donny East here, and I think they'll be fiery after the loss to Mitcham.
Yeah, the difference between Mooroolbark and Mitcham is Mooroolbark are on the downward slope, Mitcham are on the way back up. We'll go into one more game before we go to a quick break. Lilydale and Croydon, a bit of a local derby. Of course, we spoke to Sean Toohey during the week. He spoke about their local derby with Croydon, and they've both been in the same division for a few years now. The Falcons off a big win against Mulgrave. Croydon, who were going pretty well, their win over Mooroolbark early in the year meant they're probably safe from relegation, you'd suggest. Not completely, but they've given themselves a bit of breathing room. But you'd say Lilydale at home, they've got to knock off Croydon pretty easily.
That's it. And Croydon did challenge Upper Gully last week. Only 3 goals of difference. I know it was low scoring.
Well, Croydon haven't been beaten. They may have been beaten once by more than 8 goals. So
that's
it's a good sign.
That is a good sign going forward. Look, you'd have to go Lilydale here, but I wouldn't be surprised. Certainly, I think Croydon will be within striking distance.
With the conditions as they are. But we're about to head to a break. We're both going to tip Lilydale. The conditions should level that one up. As we go to a break here, it's a goal the difference in this Division 1 reserves match, but it looks like a Joshua Allison's going to line up for South Croydon. But we'll go to a break and we'll give you that reserve score after that one.
A scent or a song or a food that reminds me of someone. Lavender reminds me of my grandmother.
There's albums, when I listen to them, I think back to my dad playing them to me.
Vanilla perfume reminds me of my mum.
The smell of Yorkshire pudding reminds me of my old man. He was a great Yorkshireman.
An Italian pasta dish reminds me of my grandmother.
Be remembered for the greatest moments in your life. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
For the best EFL rap on radio, don't miss EFL Sunday. From 10 till 12 every Sunday morning, the EFL media team bring you all the final scores, goal kickers, best players and ladders, following a big round of EFL footy. The gang talk to the biggest names from across the league each and every week. EFL Sunday, from 10 every Sunday morning on 98.1 Radio Eastern.
G'day, Billy Brownless here from The Footy Show. KFC Almost Footy Legends is back in 2018 and we're searching for the best highlights from local footy. Head to 9now.com.au/AFL Footy Show and upload your entry for a chance to win $35,000 cash plus a year's supply of KFC.
Program sponsor.
If you have ideas on how you want to be celebrated and you don't express them with others, they won't know. So you may not always get what you had in mind.
I'm just thinking for my parents. I wouldn't want to do something that they wouldn't have wanted. And I don't know if they've put these plans in place.
Even simply, do they want to be buried or cremated?
Yeah.
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones and start pre-planning your funeral today. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Nothing better than a companion to keep you up to date with all the latest when you're at the footy. Better still, one that fits in your back pocket. The Eastern Footballer is a must-read. All the latest information, team lists, feature articles and much, much more. Pick up your copy this weekend as you love it local across the Eastern Football League.
Something nice that I have done for someone, I have bought a meal for a homeless person.
I always offer to pick people up from the airport.
I went out with a friend last night. Just being there and listening to what she was going through, I think made all the difference.
I'll write like a little note and put it in the mail. Might just be like, hi, I'm thinking of you.
I took my girlfriend to dinner last week. That's pretty notable for me.
At Tobin Brothers Funerals, they know that every life is unique and they think that every celebration should be too. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
The warm-up continues right here on EFL Saturday.
Welcome to Cheong Park here as we could be experiencing Vermont's first loss as a senior club this year. South Croydon lead by a goal halfway through the final quarter in the reserves, and it could be a bit anticlimactic though if the Dogs don't win the main game. But moving on, Damo here, we've just done Ludale and Croydon. Let's do Mulgrave and Bayswater. It should be a quick one.
Oh, yeah.
You'd suggest this is a good chance for Bayswater to build that percentage and entrench themselves in the top four.
Well, only 2% separating them from Upper Gully, who are currently in 5th position outside the top four.
Big chance. Big chance.
Bayswater need that percentage.
Well, they
booster.
started the year off pretty well against Mulgrave, didn't they? 120-point win. So
that's it.
Hopefully for the Waters, they can do that. Mulgrave, they'll be setting their sights on 2019. It could be refreshing for a side who's performed well but never really finished above mid-table in Division 2.
That's it.
For as long as I can remember, it could be enjoyable for them doing the restructure to go down a division and maybe be one of the more dominant sides.
These two sides used to play the blockbuster season opener on the Friday night for a couple of years, yeah, 2013 and 2014.
Out at Bayswater?
Out at Bayswater when they put the new lights in, and I think Mulgrave won one of those games from memory, so things have changed since then, but yeah, Bayswater easily.
Well, I remember Mulgrave playing in Division 1
a
few years ago, so... But yes, for Mulgrave, they might be looking forward to the restructure and being one of the higher sides. So we're both going to go Bayswater then. Moving on now to which is now probably a pretty big game, Upper Gully and Mitcham. It's not a big game in the ramifications of the ladder. No one's going to be taking anyone's spot. But Mitcham are on the rise, beating Doncaster East last week after a tie with Mooroolbark and a defeat of Mulgrave. So they haven't dropped. Well, they haven't lost in almost a month of footy, of course, if you count the bye as well. And Upper Gully, who, as you said, have dropped out of the four for probably the first time this year.
They have, but you would expect Upper Gully to win and win easily here. I know Mitcham, as you said, are on the rise. They inflicted an upset win over Doncaster East last round, but there's too much to play for Upper Gully here. They can't afford to.
Do you think the conditions favour Upper Gully? They're a bit bigger and bulkier, and Mitcham are probably just not as experienced. Probably will favour the Kings.
Well, they are at home as well, though. Is there much difference between the grounds? Mitcham's a very
Mitcham is very small. Upper Gully is very big, Damo. So almost the opposite.
Fair enough.
Upper Gully have got that game style where they like to switch to play, whereas Mitcham probably very direct. Mitcham I gave them a D+ because of their recent form, but they've got to find a goal kicker. Jag Parenti's only got 10 this year, so you can't get away with that for very long. But Upper Gully probably need to find a goal kicker as well. They're probably one of the lowest scoring sides, I think, in that top 5. Joel Perry's kicked 25 or 26. He's number 1. Rowan Hawes got 20. But after that, it sort of drops away. So they need to find a bit more of that attacking variety.
Well, I think they're a couple of 100 points off any of the top 4 sides.
There you go. So they're probably going to have to find one more guy who's a reliable goal kicker, and they're a goal sneak, if you will. But yes, we're probably going to both go Upper Gully, I'd say.
Yep.
Moving on to the last game, Wantirna South and Park Orchards. This could be last chance saloon for the Devils, I believe. Park Orchards, who knocked them off in round 1 in their first game in Division 2, have gone really, really well. They're 6-3, have only lost to Ludale, Doncaster East, and I believe earlier in the year it may have been Upper Gully. And they're fast, they're enjoyable to watch. The weather may suit Wantirna South, who have been in games last week. Of course, they were only 1 point behind Bayswater at three-quarter time and lost the last quarter 7-0. They lost by a point to Doncaster East. They lost by a goal to Ludale earlier in the year. So their best is obviously good enough, but similar to Norwood in Division 1, they can't seem to put it all together.
Well, I would have thought with the inclusion of Jess Sinclair, they'd at least be challenging for finals. They're still in that position. I know.
But he's as a coach, Damo, so not as a player.
Yeah,
so
that's still an inclusion. He brings a lot of experience. He brings a lot of experience.
But how did we know he was a good coach?
Well, he's done some work in
Has
the
he?
Ammos.
Okay, so I was unaware of that. There you
Yeah.
go. Sorry, I thought this might have been one of his first gigs.
I think he was at Salesian from memory.
There you go. So he has some coaching pedigree. It'll be interesting to see whether Heath Black had much coaching pedigree.
No, he played a lot, of course, in the Eastern Footy League with Vermont. But with this game, though, it is a big game for Warrior South. There's no doubt about that. It would
Their best is good enough.
A 3-game gap.
It's evidently good enough.
They do challenge everyone around them, don't they?
And
above them.
And I think looking at their stats, they're better than where they are. So it's interesting. I think, but they did this last year, didn't they? They made a last-ditch effort to sneak into the 4 and just missed out, I think, with the last kick of the year or something like that.
Well, I think they had that sentimental, I think, motivation with Matt Clark, and I think that did play a factor, and a couple of the sides above them faltered. You remember Fantry, Gully, Baronia, etc., which gave them a bit of a slight chance to make the finals.
I think Luadale and Murubak sort of, were panicky a bit when it came to finishing that top 4. Yeah, so they would have been hoping this year not to do it again, but it looks like they're going to have to do it again. You'd say they'd have to beat they've got to beat at least
they have
2.
To win today.
Well, they've got to win today, and they've probably got to beat at least one of Bayswater and Upper Gully.
Yeah,
and then not drop any more games. They can't. Not that they have. So they have won. I think their 4 wins have come against the 4 sides below them, but they can't afford to drop games like that, and they're going to have to pinch a couple from the teams above them.
What about Park Orchards? You've claimed them to be the sleeping giants, and I agree with you.
Oh, well, their junior numbers, what have they got? I think their 19s, I don't think will have lost the game. Looking down, their reserves are a pretty good side. They're 6-3 in their first year up, and they've hardly picked up anyone, of course. Daniel Gorringe is a big in.
Yes.
And I think is it Jared Wright from Baldwin's coming as well, and then Wayne Wienert from Croydon, and they've had a few ins, but no like big mate. They haven't gone on a big shopping spree, as it were, Damo.
They play a solid brand of footy, though. They have a very good brand of footy.
Very exciting brand of footy. They like the open spaces. They're quick. A lot of their players are homegrown.
Would it affect them today with these conditions?
A little bit, you'd suggest. And Wantirna has such a small ground that it also brings
Auskick ground,
contested footy into it as well a bit more. But yeah, Park Orchards, and then the junior numbers. I know most of their juniors are in the Yarra Junior League. I think maybe their 17 side might be in the AFL, but there's an extraordinary amount of juniors coming out of Park Orchards, and I think if they continue to they're bound to develop good players just via numbers. By sheer weight of numbers, they're going to develop more good players than a side, let's say, like South Croydon, who might not have the same depth in junior numbers. So if Park Orchards, I think with the new restructure and the new point system and the salary cap, it's going to play into the hands of sides like them. So I think they could be in 3 or 4 years' time, we could be talking about them like we talk about South Croydon.
Well, they win today, and either Lilydale or Doncaster East drop a game. They're a game off top spot. You said they were a smoky for the flag.
Well, we've seen them in finals footy as well.
Yeah,
played last year. Probably no one really thought about them for winning the flag.
Well, we sort of tipped Ringwood. I thought they were a grand finalist potentially.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
I think we all tipped Ringwood though.
I think we all tipped Ringwood. I think a lot of people went Templestowe to sort of nut their way into it.
True, they did finish
out.
second. Yeah.
So Park Orchard's footy is suited to final footy. So if they make it, you wouldn't want to play them. I really like them. I think they'll win today.
Same.
But I'm really bullish on Park Orchards, not only for this year but for the future, and it's a really good sign there. So here we go, Dan. We're just enjoying each other's company here in the van. Of course, it's not as cold as outside, as there's a lot of tracksuit pants on the boundary line here, a lot of beaties.
No shorts from the coaches.
There's one water girl here wearing the shorts out there. I think she's made an error there, unfortunately, for her, but she's toughing it out.
She's running, so it's exercise.
She's running, but she can't run constantly, don't I?
Yeah,
I'm on the boundary today as well, so I've got my pink umbrella. Probably should have worn the beanie in hindsight, but let's move on. Round 11 in Division 3, and it's usually the division which has a big game every now and again, but I think this week there's no real juicy ones. We're going to start with Templestowe and Ringwood. Templestowe going okay. I think 5 wins, is it? 5-5, going better than we predicted. A lot of us predicted them to sort of slide down the table after they've gone a bit of transition. They've had a go at that flag for about 3 or 4 years running and eventually run out of steam. But they're going pretty well. They're a sniff for top 6.
They are. They're only a game outside, and I mean a significant percentage. And a lot of that had to do with
I'm talking about just staying in the division, finishing sixth, of course. I think that'd be their new goal. Well, I don't think finals. I think finals. The Basin have sewn that up, surely.
Oh, fair enough. Although there's still technically a chance, but there's too much of a percentage gap there.
You look at their scoring power. I don't think Templestowe's scoring power is very good.
No,
Daniel Cripps has kicked 23, but there's not many others.
But there's certainly those early losses hurt them. I mean, they got smashed by Baronia, I think, early on.
Round 1 was a horrible start to the year.
But Ringwood, I mean, Trent Farmer, he's a fantastic player.
48 goals and 7 appearances in the best from 10 games.
He is an enigma, isn't he? That's for sure for the Redbacks. When he's on, they're certainly on. I think Ringwood will get the job done today, and this would probably end Templestowe's finals chances for good if they lose. But look, there are signs. I predicted them to finish worse than what they are now. So the Dockers have improvement.
As did I. So Ringwood as well. Heathmont and Ferntree Gully. Ferntree Gully got a 2-point win over Chainside Park last week. 2 points, Damo. Of course, Heathmont, they're pretty good.
They looked like they were going to win at one stage too.
Chainside. And Heathmont were up all day before being goalless, I believe, in the last quarter to Scoresby.
That would rile them, wouldn't it?
It would rile them because it meant Scoresby probably get first dibs at double chance for the rest of the year. Heathmont have to win. They'll be wanting to resurrect themselves after last week, and I don't see Ferntree Gully as a very good side, disappointingly, because I had them being around the top 6 this year.
Yeah, they certainly have fallen by the wayside. I know Heathmont are a fast-moving type of side in the way they transition the ball, and the conditions won't suit them, but they are a class above Ferntree Gully.
And it's a massive ground at Wally Chew, so despite the ball being a bit greasy, there's a lot of space for players to get lost in and for Heathmont to exploit. So we're going to say Heathmont, and I'm going to say by a big margin.
Yep, same.
Churnside Park and the Basin. Now, usually we'd chat a lot about how good the Basin are going, but we're going to have to chat about something different here, Damo, because big Travis Cloak is making the journey down to Churnside Park to pull on the Panther jumper, of course. That was announced on the AFL Footy Show during the week.
Is that on the wheel segment?
I'm not sure. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, but I'm not sure. I know Churnside Park had put out a post during the day saying, watch the Footy Show, there's going to be a big announcement, and that was it.
There you go.
So the Panthers have got Travis Cloak down there. Now, the only problem, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, they'll be back in this one.
Well, they've got to give it to him.
They've got to get the ball to him. I know he's a long kick, but I don't see Travis running out the game on ball.
Well, where are they playing today? What's the length?
They're playing
at
Churnside, so it's not the biggest ground in the world. They probably would have preferred to play at the Basin. It's a bit smaller.
Probably kick it from half.
Exactly. So
I'm
not sure. Do you give Churnside a chance? How big a player is Travis Cloak? Is he a 10-goal player?
I think it'll make a difference. I remember when Fev lined up for Domvale when they were struggling in Division 4, and they played the Glen Waverley Hawks that day, and they were at least very competitive when they were losing a lot of games. So I think they'd certainly be competitive. But the Basin,
Barry Hall played. Was it Barry Hall played for the Basin?
But they lost that day.
To Heathmont. Yeah. Good side. So, yeah, it's not uncommon to see AFL players strutting their stuff. Brian Lake played a game
for
Templestowe last year. Of course, he demanded he play full forward, as they all do.
The goal square.
No, he didn't.
He did okay, though. He played all right.
But what do you think? Travis Cloak, is he a 10-goal player to possibly bring them into this one?
Well, as you said, delivery is their problem, and the Basin have too much to play for here. They can sew up the final spot.
Well, there you go, quickly, Damo. South Croydon have inflicted Vermont's first win of the year. Is that a sign of things to come? Because they've won the reserves by 7 points. But we better fly through this because we've just been waffling on, Damo.
That's it.
It's 150. So we're going to tip the Basin each.
Yes, correct.
South Belgrave and Baronia, not much to talk about there. Baronia will win that one by a big lot. Scoresby and Warrandyte, you'd suggest similar. Scoresby again.
Yes, but Warrandyte
are going well.
They're going well. They are going well. Scoresby have too much to play for.
Scoresby have too much to play for as well. Need to hold on to that top 3 spot. Domvale and the Waverley Blues, that's probably the closest game of the round. Waverley Blues probably have to win it to keep their eye on top 6. They dropped the game to South Belgrave early in the year, which will have hurt. But Domvale are doing okay in Division 3.
They are, and we expected them to. I know they had a couple of exclusions at the end of last year that have gone off to other clubs, but I think the Waverley Blues still have that slight chance of finals. It really is probably the last chance for them. If they lose today, they're out. But the Waverley Blues, on their day, can challenge the top sides. I think they'll get the job done over Domvale.
You say that, but they lost to the Basin by 10 goals last week, so that's a poor sign for them. But yes,
these were sides around them, but they have challenged.
They have challenged. So, but Waverley Blues.
Yes.
Okay, Division 4 now. And round 11 again, it's another big one. Wild Horse Pioneers and Coldstream. Coldstream have probably lost touch with the top 4, but they almost knocked off East Bell by a point last week out there at Coldstream. And White Horse are coming off the back of a loss to Glen Waverley Hawks. So you could see Coldstream pinching this, but at White Horse, a ground which with a weather like this would probably get... It's probably one of those grounds that will get chopped up and a bit dirty, a bit under tow. So you'd probably see White Horses playing to those conditions. Coldstream are used to the big, wide open expanses of their reserve. You've got to go the Pioneers, and they have to win this one because they can't afford to let Forest Hill back in the race.
There's so much to play for the Pioneers. And gee, wouldn't Coldstream be stinging after that loss? They could have claimed a big scalp.
They win that. There's
still a chance.
They'd be only 2 games out or 1 game out of the 4.
They would have been 2 games out.
2 games out, but still much more in touch than 3.
That's it.
It's
definitely season over for them now. So I would say Whitehorse have way too much to play for. That log jam amongst second, third, fourth. They need to win every game they can.
Exactly. So I'm going Whitehorse as well. Now, this is probably match of the round. We did this early in the year in similar conditions. There was a big rainfall before we went on air in round 2 at Glen Waverley Hawks playing East Burwood. And the return fixture sees the Hawks coming in as the form side. They haven't lost since that day.
That's right.
They haven't lost. They've won 8 on the bounce. And then defeated Whitehorse as well last week, so it's a big scalp as well. They've taken everyone before them now after East Burwood basically did the same thing early in the year. First versus second. Who are you tipping here? It's at East Burwood, but I just like Glen Waverley Hawks. They're used to a big ground, so they won't be taken aback by that.
That's it.
Of course, they'll want to beat East Burwood, of course, after waiting so long to finally play their neighbours. And they're the form side. You can't look past them at the moment.
I was going to say they don't have to travel too far.
No, they don't.
A couple of k's up the road, but
they could do the grand final walk.
That's it. But look, Glen Waverley, I mean, with the men playing very, very well up forward.
37 goals.
Mitch Potts in the middle. They're playing very, very well. I think they'd be primed. I'm going to tip Glen Waverley here. I think they can knock off East Burwood.
So am I, because East Burwood's form, they won last week, but only by a point, and before the bye, or the week off, they were beaten pretty handily by Whitehorse Pioneers. So I'm
Rams looking a little vulnerable in recent weeks.
Yeah, and they were bound to have that plateau, weren't they? After you come in on a high wave of emotion after the last few years and then go down and then win so many on shot, you were bound to plateau. But we're both going to go Glen Waverley Hawks. Surrey Park and Fair Park. Fair Park have to win that if they're any chance of finals, and Surrey Park have to win that if they're to sort of show any sort of sign of how good they could be.
Well, I know Fair Park are Jekyll and Hyde, but they simply have to win this one. They're 2 games outside the 4. A loss here could spell the end of their season. It's Fair Park for me.
Fair Park for me as well. I'm a big fan of the Lions. Sylvan and Kilsyth, again, another game where Kilsyth can't afford to drop it. They have to win again because they have to win. They have to win if they're a chance to make finals. You can't afford to drop games to a side like Sylvan.
Well, we were questioning their capability of making finals only a few weeks ago, and they have risen to the challenge in recent weeks. They beat Fair Park relatively convincingly. That's a very crucial win. They're now well within striking distance, perhaps of at least meeting Forest Hill. I would have to go with Kilsyth here.
As do I as well. There we go. Forest Hill and Nunawading is the last game on our fixture list. Nunawading, of course, I'm not going to tip them to win this week, but Forest Hill, it's a chance for them to build some percentage, get some more momentum, probably rest a couple of blokes that might be a bit sore, maybe Cardamone and Pym, a few players long in the tooth, who might want a bit of a break there. But Nunawading, if they can lose by less than 100, they'd be pretty happy with that. I know that sounds condescending, but they would.
No, that's right, and I think they have the capability, maybe not today in these conditions, to kick 8 goals, but they certainly have improved. Do you see a win at all?
Not
for
this
the
year.
Rest of the,
not this year. They've missed the 2 chances. They've played Sylvan twice now. I think next year might be the year, though.
Yeah.
Quickly though, Damon, before we go to our second and final break of pre-game, we've got South Croydon and Vermont. We've spoken to both the coaches. Vermont, Lockie Johns from Vermont said they'll concentrate first on shutting South Croydon down before they foray forward themselves. And South Croydon, Luke McCormack pointed out that their variety of goal kickers means it's hard to sort of shut down just one of them. I said I want South Croydon to win, but I think Vermont will win. Are you on the same page?
I'm on the same wavelength here. I think heart says South Croydon, but the head says Vermont, because they just haven't given us a reason, as I said earlier, to tip against them all year. And same today.
I think it will be close though. The conditions, the rain has stopped, but the ground,
don't want a one-sided game.
The ground will be greasy as well, so the ball will be sliding around. Look for Dano King to be hot and heavy after his performance midweek on EFL Insight. We're going to go to our final break here on EFL Game Day. After that, we'll come back with all the action from this grand final rematch here at Cheong Park.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mum for everything she's done.
My brother's been having a pretty rough time. I'd like to reassure him that it'll be okay.
I'm sorry that it ended up badly and we didn't remain friends.
I was pretty tough on my brother when he was younger, and I'd like to apologise to you now, mate.
It's never too late to apologise, forgive, or say something you've always wanted to say to someone. So reach out and tell a loved one what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Go live and local every Saturday for EFL Game Day.
Can he bring the house down, Robbie? They go charging into Division 2.
Stutter step, now sends it on its way. This one's going to go long. And straight through, Jeff.
Pass. Gee, that was poetry in motion, to use the cliche.
Braden Cross! Cometh the moment, cometh the man!
EFL Game Day, 1 through to 6 Saturdays on 98.1 Radio Eastern.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener. 9 News invites you to join our team nightly at 6 for Melbourne's #1 news. Tony Jones with the latest sport, including the footy, plus Lavinia Nixon's weather forecast. 9 News, proud supporter of the Eastern Football League.
Program sponsor.
You've all been to funerals of family members or friends, right? Do you start thinking about what you would want at your funeral? It's a bit like when you go to a wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
At what stage do you start planning?
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
EFL.org.au is the place to be online for all the latest on the Eastern Football League. Keep up to date by checking out the latest news and feature articles. Have your say in the EFL poll. Check out all the latest EFL videos, and best of all, you can listen back to any EFL radio program at any time. Head to EFL.org.au. The Eastern Football League. Local footy at its best. Never miss out on the latest information on the Eastern Football League through the league's social media channels. Live updates, information and scores through the league's Twitter account.
I'd love to make more time for my loved ones because they really deserve as much help as I can give them.
Because they mean the world to me.
Because eventually they won't be around anymore.
Because I don't want to miss out on watching my brothers grow.
To show them that I value them.
I don't want to regret later on just being too busy.
Apparently a very common regret is that people feel like they didn't make enough time for loved ones.
Tell those you love what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
The warm-up continues right here on EFL Saturday.
Yes, welcome along to Cheong Park for the grand final rematch of Division 1 between South Croydon and Vermont. Of course, very wet conditions, and if there's any omen for South Croydon to look on, it would be the reserves result, because Vermont haven't had a loss in all 3 levels of competition in Division 1, seniors, reserves and under-19s. Finally, the reserves have dropped one to South Croydon. I wonder if the seniors can have some sort of motivation from that today, and it'll be certainly a fantastic game to look forward to. We've been looking forward to it all week. South Croydon hosting Vermont, and the Bulldogs will be looking to draw on inspiration from their upset grand final win last season. My name's Damien Watson. Joining me in the commentary box today, 2 of the stars of the EFL media team, the accurate one, the wise man, the Bill Collins of the Eastern Football League, Brad Henderson. Good to see you, mate.
Oh, thanks very much, Damo. We usually call Ray Baird the wise man of the Eastern Football League.
I didn't say old or wise, I said experienced.
No, we call him the wise old man, that's right. I'll tell you what, Damo, there's some games you just really look forward to, and today is one of those.
Hope it delivers.
Absolutely. Grand final rematch, 2 teams in great form. Bring it on. Should be an absolute cracker. As long as the rain holds off, I reckon we're in for an outstanding game of Division 1 footy.
And also joining you in the commentary box today, a big warm welcome to Gav Casey with the beanie on. G'day, Gav.
G'day, Damo. Yes, it is in the heart of winter now, so we have to make sure we look after ourselves, but this game will warm the hearts because it's a grand final rematch. The ball is held aloft by the umpire in the middle of Cheong Park. King will go up in the ruck against Buxton. Buxton wins the tap out, but he just slaps it down to ground level. King was the first to bounce in. Here comes Buxton just to win the ball in dispute in the centre of the ground. Tackles fly in, and it doesn't go very far at all. With South Croydon going to the right of the screen, if you're watching on the streaming, they're going to the east field
road end.
Road end. Yes, I was just getting that into my head. Now it's in the hands of Cox, who just gets tackled as he was on the arc of 50 before he could kick it. He drops it to the ground, where Staples works with a teammate just to clear. They only get 20 metres out from their defensive 50. The ball's knocked out to the wing, where Marshall's picked it up, but his ball is quickly smothered, and it's out of bounds 70 metres around from the goals of South Croydon. Great defensive efforts early.
Certainly, it'll be interesting to see the contrast in game styles here. I mean, South Croydon were very tough and tenacious in that grand final last year, but they've been very free-flowing so far this season, and wet conditions may put paid to that.
Well, very shallow throw in there from the boundary umpire, but also there was a little bit of holding on going on.
I think they're repeating the throw-in.
Okay, so it will be a boundary throw-in once again. Just slipped out of the the boundary umpire's fingers on that occasion.
So a lot of things slip through fingers, don't they?
King going up in the ruck here for South Croydon.
Short again, didn't get to him.
Yeah, pretty shallow again from the boundary umpire. Quick kick there by Molnar. Tumbles it forward. Cooper was the target. Couldn't take the mark. Goes in hard again there, Birch. And Staples on hand to see the ball over the boundary line.
Be interesting to see Vermont's forward set up as well. We've seen how effective players such as Brett Eddy have been and how South Croydon can match up in the key defensive post.
So thrown in once again, no score thus far here at Cheong Park. Socket off the ground. Players dive in over the footy. King got put his body on the line. It's a hotly contested footy. No one can get a clean disposal. And it will be another ball up, so both sides getting plenty of numbers around the footy early. But Cafferty hands it back to the umpire.
Jason Pongrasic is wearing number 85. Haven't seen a number 85 for a long time.
Cooper there, well wrapped up by Fisher, and holding the ball was the decision paid. Now they have a few high numbers, the Bulldogs, running around. I think Glenn Strawn wears number 80 as well. So through the middle, here come Vermont. Long kick. Eddie the target. Hat was caught behind on that occasion. No mark taken. Clearing kick to Anderson. He fumbled it but had time to gather himself and lay it off for Molnar. High up and under kick by Molnar. But a great mark taken back there by Kyle Staples in the true centre-half back position. And he switches play to the outer side of Cheong Park.
It's in the hands of Howard on the outer side. He's looking inboard. He will go across field. It's been a bit telegraphed, so he stops, props, and goes back to the outer wing where he's got a certain pass on, and he makes sure that he keeps the possession in hand. So it's Crocker with the beard, goes back to Howard. It nearly goes to ground, but Howard slides in to take the mark. 5 metres further back from where he started only a moment ago. He goes forward, finds a man on his own on the wing. It is a good pass. So Vermont are keeping a good possession here. Another short one down the line is good. So they're definitely just slowly progressing as far as they can. And it's Parker who've got the ball on the outer side. He's called to play on by the umpire because he was not moving whatsoever. King comes in late. That's the big ruckman. Knocks it down to the skipper, Dan King, who just puts the ball on his foot. And he was so close to the line that it was a little bit ill-directed and out of bounds on the full. So again, it'll be Parker setting up on the wing, looking for options. So he's just going to put a short kick, hoping for a player to run into it. And he does find Crocker, who handed off to a runner. Howard's going inboard. He's at centre forward, goes backwards, hoping to spark something, but it's a turnover kick. And now it's in the hands of Cooper, who helps out the leading option there in Birch. Cooper's kick was just sprayed off the right, and it goes out of bounds on the bounce. And they make some territory, South Croydon. Lucky to do so from that hopeful kick of Howard, just trying to get into the set, use the corridor, and he miskicked it, and it was a turnover.
It's interesting because Vermont have been playing it straight, even down the boundary line, and when they've switched it, they have turned the ball over. So they'll be favouring that straight up movement as the transition goes forward.
Fisted towards the line then, but Anderson takes possession. He's immediately set upon by a couple of Vermont Eagles, and the umpire will ball it up close to the boundary line and just around from the Vermont interchange area.
Good crowd, Ed.
Always a good crowd at Cheong Park, Damo. They love their team out here. Free kick for a push in the back, and it will be no advantage paid, of course. On that occasion, the kick was a bit of a indiscriminate one, so in fact it's going to come back to Dan King for South Croydon. Chandler medalist of a few years ago now. Mighty player for this club. Dan King's kick. Caney had a lot of it then. Fisher takes possession on the deck, and he's all wrapped up there by Cooper. So Joey Fisher, looking forward to seeing him ply his trade this afternoon. A lot of talk about him in recent weeks. He's been in outstanding form for the Eagles. Cox was stripped of the footy. This is Fisher now. Has a bit of time, but his kick was well smothered. Cass overran the ball. No one can really get a clean disposal away. Good tackle by Shink there on Alice. And it will be another ball up. Still no score in this game after 6 minutes out here at Cheong Park, Gav.
Yeah, low-scoring reserves game, so we might have a pattern, at least for the first 60 minutes as they feel their way through the game. Jones gets a kick, and again in good position. Thought it was a mark for Staples. He was called to play on, but he didn't panic, and the outlet ball finally gets in the hands of Young, who's still in his defensive 50. He's got a short to Preto, who's got a mark there, and he kicks it out to Howard, who's getting involved. On the bounce, he'll have to grab it. Hand pass onto the runner's good, as McCafferty tried to break, and his kick just goes too far wide, and it's out on the full, so it's a turnover for South Croydon, and we'll go boundary side. It's in the hands of Jones. Let's go boundary side with boundary riders.
Hey guys, it's Andrew Preto, who's going to run with Frank Anderson all day. He's following him around.
So Matt Fodia, thanks for that. You'll be on the boundary all day, so we look forward to your comments as you see fit. And now it's a kick on the wing. This time it's in the hands of Birch, who makes his way to half forward. Kicks inside 50, goes as wide as he can. 2v1. The doggies were outnumbered, and the defence holds up quite nicely and knocks it out of bounds.
It's been a very tough in and under start to this game. There have been a couple of instances where the players have managed to break through the corridor with free-flowing footy, but for the majority of the game, as we expected so far, it's been very tough in and under physical.
What I like, Brad, is that the umpire who's going to throw it in has said, I'm standing here until someone brings me the ball.
Yeah.
It's in the cricket net area, and one of the players had to go under the rope and fetch it for him because he said, I'm not moving.
Well, what if everyone took that attitude? The ball would still be sitting there. We'd be waiting for the game to start. So umpire throws it back in now. No tap one. Parker sharked the pack nicely. Got the handball away. Close to the boundary line. Johnson there sharing it with Parker. And we cross down once again to Matt Fodia on the boundary.
The umpire can't get it, mate, because if he leaves the field of play, he's not insured by the EFL anymore. So that's why the umpires can't leave the field of play.
Very legal mind.
That's a good reason, but I still don't like it.
It's a good reason, but...
Yeah, until he slips over and there's a lawsuit, then it's a good idea.
Tucker knocked it away. Quick high kick. No mark taken by Ainger. Came off hands. Kick tumbles forward. Bounces inside the forward 50. Eddie was there with Walker. Ball spills clear. Shink did well. Laid it off for Cass. Lovely mover, Jaden Cass, and usually a good kick of the footy as well. This is no exception. Sharked beautifully then by Mallison. Handed it off. Long kick at the goal, but it will miss. Off target then, minus score. The kick was by Cooper. And the Bulldogs have the first score on the board. They're one behind. Vermont yet to score. Bendigo Bank scoreboard coming up to 9 minutes gone in the first term.
Matt Fodia, what's the legal requirements on a player leaving the field of play to collect the ball? Just get your thoughts on that.
Doesn't have the book in front of it.
No, I'm pretty sure the EFL don't have to cover the players. That'd be the club's problem. I think if the umpire leaves the field of play, he can't. The EFL then have no responsibility.
The kick out was kicked out in the full. Jones puts it back into a hot spot 30 metres out from goals. The Dogs just high up and under, trying to get a mark inside their area. Drop ball falls the way of the player in Cass, and Cass just drops it onto the left boot and left side for minor score. So it's now 2 points to South Croydon, doing all the scoring 10 minutes in this first term.
Certainly have done the bulk of the attacking so far, the Dogs. We saw in that previous passage of play, Robbie Mallison, it just exemplifies how good it is at reading the play. When he sharked the ball, he was in position, waiting for the ball to come off the hands of the pack. He just knows how to read the play so well.
He does indeed. It's one of the features of South Croydon is their crummers, him, Mallison, and also Zippy King, of course. And they kick so many of the goals that come the way of South Croydon. This is Howard bringing the ball back into this broadcast side of the ground. McDonald there slipped over at the crucial moment. Ball was fed out by Parker, who's getting his hands on the footy a lot early. Schneider, first time I've really called him. And he was taken over the boundary line there in a good tackle.
Mulder.
By Nick Molnar, veteran of the South Croydon team, member of their last, not their last premiership, of course, last year, but their 2009 Division 2 premiership. So he's been around for a long time for South Croydon. Quick kick came off the boot then of Kilpatrick. High up and under kick, and that's out of bounds on the full. And look at the throng there in front of the social club. Huge crowd gathered just where the ball landed then. So the free kick goes to Donnell for South Croydon. Stephen Donnell, another veteran for the Bulldogs. Donnell's kick, hugging the boundary. Nice mark taken by big Max King. So they
Hurt
called
the
that one
spectator.
well. Kings kicked to full forward. 1-on-1 contest. Fisher did well. I reckon he had a lot of that. Probably unlucky not to be paid the mark. The umpire felt Cooper got a hand to it.
Oh, he definitely had first grab at it, Cooper.
And it will be a ball up. Umpire saw that one the way you did, Gav. So he tosses it up now. Buxton against King. Max King palmed it down beautifully to Cooper. Handball spilled clear. Quick kick was by Molnar. Didn't quite get any penetration on the kick. Well done there by Davidson on hands and knees, and it will be another ball up just as the ball comes out. Let's cross to Matt Fodia on the boundary.
South have to be wary, though, of a bit of a slingshot here from Vermont. They've got all their players up nice and high, but they'll be able to burst quickly back towards their own goal.
Max King wins the tap. Quick out kick for the Dogs into the corridor. Mark taken by one of their forwards, and finally they get an inside. Pongracic gets an inside 50 mark. It was quite hopeful ball that someone would get in the path of it, and Pongracic running towards goal takes the mark 20 metres out directly in front, hoping to put the first goal on the board. We've ticked past 12 minutes in this grand final replay.
Oh, gee.
And he's missed it to the right. Couldn't have said it was more of a certainty in my life if I preempted, and he's missed to the right. So it's 3 points, South Croydon. That is their lead against Vermont. 12 and a half minutes gone, first term.
Well, for the first time today, let's hear from Barry Cotts at the EFL Score Centre.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. In Division 3, it's a Basin 1 behind Churnside Park, no score.
So it's Vermont. Now they won't kick it on the full because it's a tap to the self. As Howard goes as long as he can. Buxton underneath it, drops the ball to ground. He hands it off, and it's an intercept by Tucker. Tucker puts a long ball into the forward line for the Dogs, but deep into the fence. It's all with Vermont, but they don't know where the next kick can go until Buxton flies! He gets high, but he doesn't draw it into the chest, and it's roved by the Dogs through Donnell. He puts a short one in. Have the Dogs got the numbers further up? Again, it's the purple and yellow of Vermont holding sway, and they hold it in close to the boundary line before the umpire says, I'll ball it up 40 metres out from the Bulldogs' goal.
Well, you see it on replay if you're watching the street. Didn't he get a ride? Just couldn't quite take the mark.
Just hit his shoulder as he's trying to get his hands in front of it. So it was a good effort. I think sometimes the effort goes in the leap and you forget about trying to take the mark sometimes. So it was
I think the defender got a hand in there just to stifle the mark.
Yeah, it was an impressive effort. So it's a ball out of bounds and a boundary throw in about 45 metres around from the Dogs' goals.
Max King's been good in the ruck.
So closely monitored is Kilpatrick by his opposite number in Young, and running onto it is Cox. He can't get free of a tackle and is taken to ground where the umpire will ball it up. We'll get a score just in a moment because around the grounds it's deep in the forward line for the Dogs as they try to get that first goal. Had a really good chance only moments earlier. Buxton, uncontested, wins it down to his rover, but the swarming tackles, and we'll have another ball up. Quick score update from
Division 1 ball and 2-1-13 North Ringwood, no score.
So King goes up against Buxton. King wins it. Ground level, Caney's got it, but he's in like a kennel of dogs. They're penned in are the Eagles, but they throw it out in the hand pass. Staples was working it. Now it's Young. He's got some time just to run back towards goal, and his hand pass to the run at boundary line eludes him, and it's gone out of bounds.
Possibly should have just gone straight down the line on that occasion instead of looking for that extra hand pass. Just have to be more direct, Vermont, when going out of defence.
I think you never want a defender to turn around when he doesn't know what's behind him, so he tried the hand pass onto the runner. It just didn't quite work.
So boundary throw in. Still no goals in this game so far for either side. Just 3 behinds on the board for South Croydon. And they crash in hard over the footy then. I'll tell you what, if there was one thing I didn't expect from this game between these two sides, it was that it would be 15 minutes into the first term and there wouldn't be a single goal on the board. It hasn't been raining, so it's unusual. Taken over the line then was Kilpatrick, who kicked a goal last week and was named in the best players for South Croydon. Good performance by the youngster against Rowville last weekend. We'll be hoping to follow that up this afternoon. A lot of players watched the footy go past them. Ainger got the handball away. Anderson was well wrapped up in the tackle. Still managed to get the little handball away to Molnar. Molnar's one was intended for Tucker but didn't go far. Walker's quick kick was intercepted. Kick comes up towards half forward, but safely marked there by Donnell. And Donnell switches to the outer side with Marshall. Dylan Marshall, lovely kick by him as usual. Finds Pongracic. Pongrachic's kick into open space. A long lead offered then by Rosier. Staples gathered it in nicely. Handed it off to Davidson. Now with Preto, chain of handballs, that was costly, was intercepted by Kilpatrick. Little quick handball to Molnar. Molnar's kick into open space. Parker gathers it in beautifully, steadies now, and Parker's neat kick finds Cam Purdy at half-back as Vermont repel once again.
So he's got Ainger down the line. He won't take a specky this time because he's the front man of the pack. Who's going to come over the top? Oh, Ainger staying tall. He did. He draws it to ground where he's got the rover there and Ellis who gets a long ball. It's 1v2. Best nearly held it in the area. Will have a good second effort. Gets on the left boot. Doesn't muck around. Puts it at the goal square. It's going to bounce through for a minor score as it just skipped right of the post. So that's Vermont's first inside 50 and their first score. They trail by 2 points. No goals yet. 3 to South Croydon and Vermont on 1 point.
Short pass comes back into Crowell. Sweeping handball from James Crowell to Donnell. Short pass by Donnell hugging the boundary and he found Molnar. So Nick Molnar finding plenty of the footy early. A couple of the Bulldogs veterans then combining in. Well, 3 veterans really with Crowell and then Donnell and Molnar.
Oh, well done.
Great mark by Schneider. Handed it off to Howard, then through Johnson. The Vermont skipper goes laterally. Was a good kick to Young. Young's kick inside forward 50 and Crocker does really well. Just found the right spot to go to and dragged in the mark. Good build, probably the best build-up we've seen from Vermont so far.
But it came from a South Croydon error. Molnar, when he was looking to go laterally, he needed to be more precise when going into the corridor because Vermont had space on the counter-attack inside 50.
Damo, he just didn't get far off the mark because when he was called to play on, the man on the mark was closer than he wanted him to be.
He had to kick it up, forced to kick it up.
Well, Darcy Crocker wearing the number 27 of Matt Gregg. He kicked a lot of goals, of course, over his career. Crocker will be hoping to make no mistake here, and that's exactly what he's done. He's kicked the first goal of the day for Vermont. Darcy Crocker is the one who gets the first, and Vermont lead by 4 points.
Yeah, so very promising start for Vermont after what has been a tough in and under opening 15 minutes. And I'll tell you what, they'd be happy to have that first goal on the board. Let's head to Barry Cotts in the score centre.
Yes, Division 1, Blackburn 2-2-14, Roval 1 goal straight 6.
So you get all the early scores with Barry Cotts. So tune in, even if you've got interest elsewhere. You're going to get not only the scores, but the grand final rematch or replay. It's going to be an exciting day, I reckon. The win in the centre clearance was by the Dogs, but they only gained 10 metres before McComb was dumped off the ball. Now the Dogs go forward, a long kick, King's at the back, Max King that is, and he did the roving, and as soon as he picked the ball up, he was tackled, and it's holding the ball with Lehman. Really no prior, apart from he got a minute to be tackled and he never got rid of it.
Bit stiff.
So it's Lehman who'll kick it out wide, no flyers, and it's an intercept mark, this time taken by Tucker. So Tucker at half forward, wheels onto the right, spearing the ball into the leading options. There was no real leading options. The intercept mark nearly taken, but still falls for Vermont. They'll go long from centre back to centre forward. Can Eddie get in position? Best tries to help in the pack situation, but the Dogs have got the numbers and they'll run it out through Walker, who gets a long ball out wide, and Birch is the man onto it. The kick there was by McDonald. So Birch, right foot, puts it in the pocket, ill-directed. The lead was never going to get there. Ainger just sees it over for out in the full free kick.
Yeah, Andrew Ainger will look to launch Vermont forward again. No, just goes laterally to McCafferty. McCafferty's kick, he conceded a lot of ground, almost conceded it behind with that kick. Sam Wadley was able to hold the mark just inside the field of play, but it's made it a bit of a difficult outlet now for Vermont to get it out of their defensive area. So Wadley went with a long kick to half-back. High tackle on Alice, should have been a free kick, and the umpire agreed with that. No, he's paid holding the ball.
Yeah, I think that was he tried to get the kick away, dropping the ball on that occasion.
I think it was over the shoulder by Alice.
Yeah, maybe.
Matty Jones, the recipient of the free kick, and he hugged the boundary with the kick there, Jones. King, Big Max King was the target.
Rare one that didn't go out in the full.
So...
I missed your dry sense of humour, Gav.
Boundary throw in on the outer side of Cheong Park. It's Max King going up against Whale Buxton. Vermont ruckman won at that time. Handball by Cox. Gathered in by Kilpatrick, spun out of the pack and got boot to ball, but the kick traversed across the face of goal and into the forward pocket for a boundary throw-in. Let's hear from Barry Cotts once again with some more EFL scores.
Yeah, to Division 2 this time. Doncaster East 2-5-17 to Mooroolbark, no score.
Boundary throw in 10 metres around from the right goal post for the Bulldogs. King, we've held position there by Buxton. He wins it to ground level, but the Dogs have got the Rovers. Maybe they'll get a runner. This time trying to get some space was Cass. He just dribbles his hand pass out of the tackle and it goes out of bounds, and we'll go boundary side with the boundary throw in. Matt Fodia, what do you got for us?
It's too congested down there in the forward line. Michael King got the crumb there, but he didn't have any room to move onto his left boot. South need to get something here and clear it out.
That's a contrast because Vermont have been very open in their forward line so far.
So it's King v Buxton. Buxton just holding off King a little bit. No free kick seen by the umpire. So the pack jumps onto the ball and Buxton's at ground level to hold it up. And he's tagged by Molnar, who's having a great season, playing on ball. So they have a bit of a push and shove.
A few sledges.
So ball up again. King takes a run up, but holding position again. Buxton wins it down nicely to McCafferty. McCafferty kicks it long out of defence, but it's going to be the Dogs setting up again. Can they pick it up through Crow? And now helped out by Tucker. Tucker goes long to the forward line. Pack in the goal square area. The defence through McCafferty just will worry it over the line, and it's a conceded point. South Croydon 4 points. Trail Vermont, who are 1-1-7, 22 and a half minutes gone first term.
Just kicking blindly inside 50, and because it's so congested, it's hard to pick out a target, and it's a hard marking day too.
So Cam Howard, left footer of course, kicks to this broadcast side. Tucker flew high for the mark and couldn't take the mark. It's over the boundary line. So boundary throw in.
Enjoyed the ruck battle between Max King and Liam Buxton today. I think that's going to be an intriguing one to watch.
They've had a lot of work to do, haven't they, in this first term, because there's been so many stoppages, so many boundary throw-ins and ball-ups. So both of them have done a mountain of work already. Caney there lost the ball. King shot out a handball, didn't travel too far though. And Brooke Caney there a little slow to get up, but now he's on his feet. No harm done.
You like Buxton's tats there, Brad?
Not really a tattoo aficionado, Damo. I don't take much interest in
the
such
only
things.
ink you like was at your news agency when you sold the pens.
Davidson there shooting out the handball over the boundary line. And 3-point lead for Vermont. So just one goal in this first quarter.
I know you weren't expecting a low-scoring slog early on, but I suppose when you think about it, it's no surprise given it's a slippery surface today. And there has been a bit of rain around in the morning. It has affected the play so far.
It has indeed. There hasn't been a lot of open footy. It's been very congested, as Matty alluded to before. So, well, I think we'll have another ball up.
Notice the umpire retrieving the ball there.
Another boundary throw-in, sorry.
Got technicalities.
So it'll be Max King to go up against Wale Buxton once more. They continue their engaging battle. This time it was Max King who won the ruck hit out. Didn't go anywhere though, and Colopy there over the footy along with Molnar. Let's cross down to Matt Fodia on the boundary. There's not much happening at the moment, Matty.
No, there's not, but Lockie Johns did mention that Vermont's game plan revolves around shutting down the opposition before they really break out, so it could be a sign of things to come.
I'm sure it won't continue in this vein all day, that is for sure.
No, the floodgates will open eventually. It's just a matter of time.
We don't want floodgates today. It's rained enough.
Oh.
So Buxton, or Wale Buxton against Max King. Great battle between these two. Another boundary throw-in. King, give that one to King once more. Into open space. Best got boot to ball, but it was immediately smothered. No one can get a clean disposal away at the moment. It's so much pressure. What a tackle by Pretto. Great tackle by Pretto on Tucker. And that wasn't really appreciated too much.
The umpire was blindsided by the tackle getting him in the head. He didn't duck into that. I reckon that was free to Tucker.
It was already up.
Yeah, strong tackle again by King. And we'll have another ball up.
I suppose one thing this is, Brad, is sending a message as far as South Croydon is concerned, at least in the physical stakes. They're not going to be manhandled today.
So it's a big contest, this one. Tucker shakes off the bumps, goes in the ruck contest, gets it out wide where the Dogs have got the number. Here's Anderson, loves a gallop, not this time, only on a couple of steps. His kick's chopped off by Staples, who's been very reliable at centre-half back. He doesn't miss a target either. Parker's got it on this wing, close to the broadcast, and he's going to go backwards before they even think about going forwards. Caney's looking around, he's uncertain, but he's no pressure to hurry, so he finally spots up the pass, and Ainger just trots towards and takes the mark uncontested.
25, is it?
And is it a mouth? Well, I'm confused with that, but it's a short kick found Purdy. Purdy's quick to play on. Anderson nearly smothers it on the mark, but a kick goes inside 50 for Vermont. They've outnumbered, but Crocker doesn't mind that. He gets in, throws a hand pass up in the air, hoping for a teammate, but the Dogs have got the numbers, and it's held up in defence. The umpire will come in and ball it up 40 metres out from the Eagles' goal. They've got the only goal on the board. To Crocker. Ground level. Well, it was Ainger who roved it, but his kick was smothered because of the big pack. Now it's been smothered again. You can hear it in the effects mic as Purdy tried to put it on the boot towards goal, and they're going to run out of defence through Cass. Cass goes down the middle of Cheong Park, finds a teammate. Wheeling onto his right was Cooper. He's hopeful that a teammate's on the end of it. The spoil goes goalwards, and the runner gets onto it. But before King can get to it, no, the defender allowed King to come in again, and King kicks off the ground from the goal square, and it's a goal to Zippy. South Croydon on the board and lead by 3 points, 1-4-10 to Vermont's 1-1-7. I gave up on it because the defender had it covered, and then King was there to kick
in the middle. To Vermont, and it's going to be a 25 against Frank Anderson.
Yeah, just a bit of mouthing off, was it, Matty?
Looks like a bit of a, might have been a hit after the play, and then Frank's just carried on with a bit of to-do.
There you go, but gee, that was lax defence, though, from Vermont. I know the spoil came in, but it was goal-side, and it allowed Zippy to come in, and it was Zippy by name, Zippy by nature.
So it'll be Wadley, the beneficiary of the free kick there. Sam Wadley.
We've got to say which King it is all the time now. It's Michael kicking the goal, not the Big Max.
There's also Dan out there too, so
yes,
3 of them. Long launching kick. Right to the line, big pack. Eddie flew high. Anderson sharked the pack nicely, handed it off to McDonald. And once again, South Croydon just dodge a bullet there as Dylan Marshall will look to clear the defensive area. Marshall's high kick, bit of a floater. Nice mark taken, though, by Tucker. Gave it off to Cass. They're off and running here, the Bulldogs. Rosier backpedaled with the handball. Wasn't a good one. Parker did really well. Put his body over it and bumped his opponent off the footy. Into open space, the handball. Good work done there by Crocker. Little handball by Tobin, who had a quiet first term after his big game last week where he kicked 4 goals. And that is quarter time here at Cheong Park, and just 1 goal apiece. South Croydon 1 goal 4-10, Vermont 1 goal 1-7. It was still quite a long quarter, 29 minutes, but a 3-point lead to the Bulldogs at quarter time.
So plenty of stoppages in this game so far in the grand final rematch in Division 1. South Croydon holding a slender 3-point lead at the first change. We'll be back with the second term right after this on EFL Game Day.
A scent or a song or a food that reminds me of someone. Lavender reminds me of my grandmother.
There's albums, when I listen to them, I think back to my dad playing them to me.
Vanilla perfume reminds me of my mum.
The smell of Yorkshire pudding reminds me of my old man. He was a great Yorkshireman.
An Italian pasta dish reminds me of my grandmother.
Be remembered for the greatest moments in your life. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Join the Eastern Football League media team for full coverage. From 1 p.m. every Saturday, the team dissect each of the 22 senior matches on the warm-up. The action kicks off from 2 p.m. with the EFL Game Day broadcast bringing fans a full play-by-play call of the game of the round. From 5 p.m. it's back to the studio for the post-match and a full wrap of the day's games. EFL Game Day, 1 to 6 every Saturday afternoon as you love it local.
G'day, Billy Brownless here from The Footy Show. KFC Almost Footy Legends is back in 2018 and we're searching for the best highlights from local footy. Head to 9now.com.au/AFL Footy Show and upload your entry for a chance to win $35,000 cash plus a year's supply of KFC.
Program sponsor.
Bigger and better, Netball EFL is back. The fastest growing competition in the eastern suburbs continues to expand. Don't miss the fast-paced action every Friday night across multiple venues. For more information or to get involved, head to efl.org.au.
The only thing I would think about is who I'd be buried next to. I mean, that would matter to me.
Well, that's pre-planning because you'll need to get the plots next to each other.
Yeah, that's true. They're good conversations to have, aren't they? Because they give you a reference point if you've had no clear instruction or conversation.
Have an open and honest conversation. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did, with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
The only thing I would think about is who I'd be buried next to. I mean, that would matter to me.
Well, that's pre-planning because you'll need to get the plots next to each other.
Yeah, that's true. They're good conversations to have, aren't they? Because they give you a reference point if you've had no clear instruction or conversation.
Have an open and honest conversation. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did, with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Never miss out on the latest information on the Eastern Football League through the league's social media channels. Live updates, information and scores through the league's Twitter account. The latest news and views on Facebook. Don't miss EFL Game Day or the Match Footage Hub on YouTube. And all those happy snaps on the league's Instagram account. Simply search Footy EFL.
EFL Saturday Game Day continues. Let's head back and go local for your footy.
Welcome back to EFL Game Day. We're out at Cheong Park in what is a very slippery and congested game, and currently in a low-scoring encounter, South Croydon lead Vermont 1-4-10 to 1-1-7. Of course, Vermont undefeated to this point in the season. Speaking of scores, let's head to the EFL Score Centre, and here's Barry Cotts.
Yes, thanks very much, Damo. Let's start off with Division 1 progress scores. And Bourne jumped out of the block so far in the first quarter. Bourne 5-7-37 to North Ringwood, 3 behinds, 3 points. Blackburn 2-2-14 to Roval, 1 goal straight, 6. Doncaster East in Division 2 4-5-29 to Mirrabbark, no score. Division 3, the Basin 1-2-8 to Churnside Park, 2 behinds, 2 points. And Scoresby 3-3-21 to Warrandyte, 1-2-8. Back to you.
There you go, Barry Cotts at the EFL Score Centre. Well, Brad Henderson and Gav Casey, of course, calling all the action today. It was a very congested game, I must say, lads. And really, any goals that were scored, and only 2 for the entire quarter, came from a counter-attack outside of the pack where there was space on the fat side of the ground, or at least at the other end of the ground.
Yeah, no, spot on, Damo. Exactly right. Probably wasn't the start to the game we were expecting, mainly because both of these sides have had no trouble kicking so many goals this year. Like South Croydon, even on days where across Division 1 there haven't been many high scores kicked, South Croydon have been the outlier in many ways in a lot of games, and they have no problems kicking 20 to 25 goals in a game. And Vermont, of course, having been so dominant this year, they've also kicked a lot of goals most weeks. So to have a game with 1 goal apiece was a little unexpected, but then on the other hand, it's got that finals feel about it. Often in finals you get that, where goals are at an absolute premium. You've really got to earn the goals you kick. And so it's been an enjoyable game, if a somewhat low-scoring game so far.
Goal kickers so far, Darcy Crocker for Vermont, the only major, and late in that term, Zippy King, Michael King, scoring one off the ground from about a metre out, capitalising on a Vermont defensive error.
Well, I reckon Brooke Caney did really well to get back the way he did.
But it just went in the wrong area.
Yeah, he did almost everything right, but that's how good Zippy King is, that if you don't get it quite 100% right, he will punish you for it, because until the ball's crossed the line, he's alive in the contest. And even though he looked like he was out of it, and it looked for all the world like it was going to be a rush behind, somehow Michael King was able to kick a goal. So that's what he does so well, and he's done it for many years now, and he continues to do it.
Yeah, in that contest, he's almost backed off, conceded that he wasn't going to be first to the ball. So he just was ready, if anything, if the ball was allowed to go in his way, and eventually he took the opportunity. Let's cross down boundary side, Matt Fodia with the quarter-time huddles.
Yeah, so over at South Croydon there that quarter, and first of all, Dano King was very happy with his namesake, Max King, who reckons he dominated Liam Buxton there in that quarter around the ground. They were very happy with their tackles. They had 27 in that quarter. Snyder. They had outstanding pressure and locked the ball in their forward half. Of the 28 minutes they had in their forward half, 22 of those. So they want to lower their odds and show more composure going inside 50 though, and they're wary of Liam Buxton dropping deep. So watching them engage him when he drops deep and lead up the middle. And Luke McCormack just wants to make sure that they stand up for each other, and if Vermont try to get under their skins, to make sure they come in and help each other out, especially Frank Anderson, who's getting a little bit of extra attention.
Stay warm down there, Matty. Just about to start the second term, and he mentioned that ruck battle. Max King probably has had the superior advantage over his opponent in Liam Buxton, but it's been an enjoyable contest to watch given the amount of stoppages so far. Let's head to Barry Cotts quickly at the Store Centre.
Yeah, Division 4, Kilsyth 3-2-20 to Sylvan 1-3-9, and quarter time Doncaster 3-6-5-41 to Moolmark 1 goal straight 6.
Let's head to Brad Henderson now for the start of the second term.
Thanks very much, Damien Watson. It is a 3-point lead to South Croydon heading into the second quarter on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard as Schneider gets the first effective disposal. Gave it to Preto. Preto's kick inside the forward 50. Ainger did well. Was well tackled though, and that forced the turnover to Crowell. Strong tackle there applied by James Crowell on Purdy, and it will be another ball up.
Like the tackling pressure of South Croydon, as I mentioned in that first term, they have to make a physical statement to Vermont.
Yeah, tackling by both sides has been terrific. It's really hot in the kitchen today, and you just don't have much time to get rid of the footy. You've got to get rid of it straight away, and as a result, it's been probably not a pretty game to watch, but at the same time, that pressure has been what stood out. Max King won another ruck hit out that time. Marshall slipped over at the crucial stage. Tobin strongly tackled again there, and really good tackle to force another ball up. So the umpire tosses it up once more. King effortlessly palms it down, but it was straight to Purdy. Purdy well tackled then by Tobin, and it'll be a free kick to Liam Tobin. Quiet first quarter, as I said. Kicked 4 goals last week, so he's been in good form for the Bulldogs. That's a poor kick out of bounds on the full, and the free kick will go to Davidson for Vermont on that outer side of Cheong Park.
So Davidson, he'll just load up with a low burner, trying to find position, and then they do take a mark. It's a good mark there by Snyder in the pocket. He wasn't the tall option, he just was in the way of the spearing ball. So Snyder from 40 out, close to the boundary, so you can see on the live stream how difficult this kick is as he's now gone beyond the arc. And he's very deliberate approach because he knows there's probably not a pass on. He wheels onto the right, goes inboard with his running, and he puts it right through the middle. What a kick, smart player, and is a beautiful execution of the kick. Straight through the middle, Vermont 2-1-13, making the most of their opportunities and lead South Croydon 1-4-10, 2 minutes into the second term.
Well, he had to wheel around to get that leverage, didn't he, Tom Schneider? Let's head to Barry Cotts in the score centre.
Yeah, Division 1 quarter time ball, an 8-1-49 to North Ringwood 5 behind 5 points, and Doncaster just leading. Doncaster 2-3-15 to Norwood 2-2-14, and Scoresby 6-4-40 to Warrandyte 1-8.
So, 3-point lead to Vermont. Great goal then by Tom Schneider. Buxton wins a tap this time. High kick by Pongracic. Birch on a long lead. Should have held the mark. He hit him on the chest pretty much. Staples there, takes possession. He's immediately wrapped up. And you're not going to get too many easier today than that one. It was a floating ball, but it did hit him on the chest, as I said. Alex Birch, he'd be disappointed with that. A lot of players around this footy. Schneider got it out to Parker. Loose ball now. Great pick up by Ainger. Shot out the handball to Wadley. Wadley's lovely kick. And that was great footy, premiership footy from the Vermont Footy Club. Started off with the pick up by Ainger. Terrific hands by him. Wadley cruising past. Bullet of a pass. And as a result, Vermont have a chance through Brett Eddy to kick their second of the quarter.
It's a good mark too. Not easy to hold those in full flight.
He's got great hands, Brett Eddy. First time we've really called him today. Lovely kick off the boot. Makes no mistake, that is goal number 41 of the season for Brett Eddy, and Vermont just open a little bit of a buffer, a 9-point lead on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard.
Well, that's the Vermont Football Club we've come to know and become accustomed to over recent years. That passage of play right there typifies their skill level, and it's probably the difference between themselves and South Croydon so far. Although the Bulldogs have applied tackling pressure, Vermont have been a lot more polished in their skill level. They haven't kicked too many out in the full like South Croydon have in their delivery, and it's been great to watch.
Point of difference, drop mark at one end.
Yes.
And then Ainger, big boy, bends down, picks it up, just delivers a quick hand pass to Wadley, who runs through the middle of the Cheong Park and delivers the pass that finishes with Eddie and goal. So it's the skills of the game being executed can be the difference in these tight battles. King runs onto it, but he slips as he tries to run away from the pack. Schneider shares it with his teammate in Davidson, who kicks a high up and under for centre back. Wadley was caught underneath it. He didn't know what was coming. Finally, the defence come in to spoil. So South Croydon finally go forward. McCafferty's on top of the ball, but he leaves it behind, and the big pack swarms on it at half forward for the Dogs. And it's going to be a ball up as Pongracic was the tackler.
Again, capitalising on a skill error. Wadley perhaps should have held the mark given it was uncontested. I know it's slippery, but South Croydon at the attack.
He just got caught under it, didn't know where he was, so he got swarmed upon.
Free kick.
And it's a free kick for a held in too long in the tackle, and Howard picks himself up, shakes it off, and will claim the kick at centre-half back. Looks at his options. He's a very good short pass, but he decides he's just going to dump a ball to the wing, where that's cute and beautiful, because he just chiseled it to his player who's standing right next to the boundary line.
Ellis.
And it was Ellis who took the mark right on the boundary line, uncontested. Smart kick. And now his kick wasn't too smart,
so smart,
because in defence, it's all the doggies. And it's a mark to Pongracic, who looks further into the wing, drop mark. But it's at ground level where they might butter up. Rosier goes again, but it's been taken by the Eagles, who just dump it into the forward line. King runs on it. That's Max King. So he's really just bumbling his way through it. And thankfully for him, it's not intercepted and goes out of bounds at the half forward line.
It's obviously a slippery footy because a few drop marks, a few hand passes that weren't executed properly. So the players just have to adapt. Barry Cotts.
Yes, in Division 3, Boronia 3-6-24 leads South Belgrave 3-1-19, and Roval have kicked 5 goals in a row. They're 6-1-37 to Blackburn 3-2-20.
Gee.
They dive in over the footy. High tackle perhaps against Dallas. Did the umpire see it that way? A couple of Bulldogs players certainly did, and no free kick paid. So another ball up. Umpire tosses it up. King wins it down. Strong tackle by Wadley. The umpire says it was too high there. Might have been McComb who gave away the free kick then to Donnell. So Stephen Donnell just weighs up his options. Short pass to Pongracic, who's had a terrific game so far today, finding heaps of the footy. Up and under kick to a 2-on-1, which favoured Vermont. Probably wasn't the best option then, you'd have to say. Davidson, strong tackle on him, and Davidson couldn't burst his way through the tackle. Umpire to throw it up. He's struggled to break into this team this year, Shane Davidson. So much competition for places in the Vermont team. Was certainly a regular over the last couple of seasons. But there's so much depth in this Vermont team at the moment. Boundary throw in just around from the scoreboard, which shows Vermont leading by 9 points. 3-1-19 the Eagles. South Croydon 1 goal 4-10. Coming up to 8 minutes gone in the second term. You can smell the smoke wafting in from the barbecue at the social club. High kick by Kilpatrick into open space.
Good courage.
Good effort there by Preto. Throws it on the boot. Ball bypass Colopy. Donnell, I think he may have done a hamstring.
Yep.
That's had all the appearances of that. Anderson throws it on the boot. Wobbles it forward. Fisher showed good strength in the contest. Ducked and weaved his way, but he's strongly tackled by Cooper. And the free kick goes to Daniel Cooper, and then he lets Joey Fisher know all about it.
even though he ducked, the tackle was pretty high. So just because he had that ducking motion, the tackler got away with it, the first one, and then he couldn't evade the second tackle.
Steve Donnell's just gone off the ground, so we'll get an update soon. But you're right, it was a very quick tackle. I'm not sure if he had much ample time to get rid of it, but the decision may have been there.
I think he did because he got around the first tackler and sort of dodged and weaved. And there's a 25-metre penalty now. Not sure. Gee, well, that's just a fundamental error, like in a stop-play situation like that.
It's not as if it was just as he was lining up, going back to line up too. He was already set on his motion to go forward.
He did go 30 metres back on his mark, though.
Cooper walks in and kicks his first of the day. Daniel Cooper, his 25th goal of season 2018. And the Bulldogs, bring the margin back to 3 points. Let's go to Barry Cotts with some more scores around the EFL.
Yes, in Division 2, it's Park Orchards 2-2-14 to Wantirna South, 6 behind, 6 points. And in Division 4, Forest Hill 8-4-52 is leading Nuttawading, 5 behinds, 5 points.
That's my point, though. Once the player's back on his mark, there's no excuses to run over the mark because it's already set. It's easy for the players to judge where the others are.
Well, Matt Fodia would like this. I reckon he had his foot on the side screen. He went that far back, did Cooper. So maybe Preto just lost where he was.
Still.
So it's a ball up in the middle of Cheong Park. South Croydon win the tap through King, but it comes out to the wing where it might favour the kick off the ground for Young. He gets some territory for Vermont, but nicely done by Marshall to keep it in front of himself and tap it towards the boundary, and they'll reset the Dogs in defence. So let's look at the score 10 minutes into this second term of the rematch of the grand finalists from last year. South Croydon, the premiers, at home 2-4-16, trailing by 3 points to Vermont 3-1-19. McComb gets a quick kick out of the pack from that boundary throw in. Bouncing ball. It's a disputed ball, and the Dogs will run from the back of the square. They kick it out wide, hoping for Birch to run onto it. Took a bit of time to get to him, but he's got a runner in Pongrassic to get onto it. He's got time to turn around from 50. Load up from half forward. Puts it to the right post and smacks into it. 2-5-17 of the Dogs. They trail by 2 points. Big effort. Just missed.
That was a big build-up to utilising the space on the outer side of the ground. Just couldn't convert.
Oh, that kick looked good for most of its journey, and then it smashed into the woodwork. So Caney brings the ball back into play. Pretty good kick to Ainger, who got hands to it. Jones throws it on the boot. Cooper off a step, unloads at the goals, but he misses well off target. Minor score for South Croydon. 2 goals, 5 trail Vermont. 2 goals, 6 in fact now the Bulldogs. Trail Vermont 3-1-19 as we head to Barry Cotts once again.
Yeah, Division 1, Montrose 5-4-34 is leading Knox 3-1-19.
Schneider takes the mark, running with the flight of the ball from the kick out. He gets out to Ainger. He's got a runner in Young. He skirts the boundary line on the wing. Loads the ball up. The Dogs have got the numbers. And Walker, so good at the intercept mark, gets in front of the contest, and he kicks it short to his teammate in Anderson, who's deep in his own defence. He likes a run, but he gets it to Birch at half back. He'll turn onto his right side and go to half forward. He's got Pongrassic in the area, who's got some help. Good ground level there from King. He's good zippy effort. Hands it off, and nice short pass into Mallison, who takes the mark. He's quick to pay on because he knows Jones is a good kick from 40. And from pretty much the same angle, he's given it to Jones to take the kick to put the Dogs back in front.
Gee, hasn't the game opened up in the last 5 minutes? It's really free-flowing now, and we see the transition there. Great work by the Dogs, just kicking to the teammates' advantage on every occasion, and that's why they have this shot on goal.
So Jones had his time in Melbourne and has come back to South Croydon, won the premiership, and he's using experience to lead this side as a great leader, and he steps up for the moment. He puts it over the goal umpire's hat by some distance from 50, and it's the third goal for South Croydon. South Croydon are 3-6-24, leading Vermont 3-1-19, 12.5 minutes second term.
Barry Cotts.
Yes, so Division 2 scores, Upper Ferntree Gully and Mitcham. It's Upper Ferntree Gully 3 goals straight 18 to Mitcham 2-1-13. Lilydale 4-3-27 to Croydon, no score. And Mulgrave 4-2-26 to Bayswater 1-4-10.
Let's head to boundary, the boundary rider, Matt Fodia.
Yeah, guys, perfect example of what Luke McCormack wanted there, to lower the eyes going inside forward 50. Pongrassic had a chance to just bomb away, but lowered his eyes, found Mallison, who did the same, and found Jones.
Yeah, brilliant build-up by the Bulldogs on that occasion. And it's back in the middle once again. Initially, I thought Mallison might have been a better option to go back and have a shot himself. Jones, not always the most reliable kick for goal, but he made it look easy on that occasion.
You didn't see him kicking goals for your Demons?
Not many for Melbourne.
Free kick.
Didn't kick many goals for Melbourne,
Free
that's
kick.
for sure. Yep, aware of that, Matty, as Donnell takes the free kick, goes in short. Kick comes spearing in. Johnson with the fist, did well. Strong tackle on Rosier, got the handball away to Cass. Fisher backpedaled, gave it out to Lehman. Lehman out of defence. Nice kick into open space. Probably not, in the end, it wasn't a great kick by Rory Lehman. And but he did find the safety of the boundary line.
Did I hear right? Mulgrave are leading Bayswater?
We'll check with Barry in a moment on that one.
Mulgrave leading Bayswater.
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
So maybe an upset on the cards, but obviously still early stages in that one as Tucker wins the tap down. Ball was shot out, quick kick. Rosier had front position and takes the mark there in front of McCafferty, and just stumbled a little after he took the mark, but he'll go back and these are always those awkward ones. About 40 metres out, pretty well straight in front, but not an easy kick by any means.
I think you find, though, that the modern player is probably more comfortable from this distance because the pressure isn't as great as if they were closer in. So I think with the modern player these days, he might struggle to get the distance with the wet, heavy ball, but he might have a chance here.
He'll kick through the ball, so he's got that freedom to just really kick through it without too much pressure. So Rosier does exactly that. Looks okay initially, but then was just off target. Distance wasn't a problem, didn't have the accuracy. South Croydon 3 goals 7, Vermont 3 goals 1. It's a margin of 6 behinds at this stage.
It's in the hands of Caney, looking at his options. He's taking his time. He's going to kick to himself to give him just a second or more to size up options. He kicks it to the boundary side, late fly. Kalopi gets his hands in the back as he flies, brings it to ground. Ainger gets on it, and it's like a team holding the ball because as soon as he's tackled, the umpire signals holding the ball, and it'll be a free kick to Pongrassic, who will load up from 70, puts a high up and under. He knows King's in the area. Max King won't get there, but there's another big man for the Dogs who takes it 30 metres out, and it will be a shot at goal for the Bulldogs to extend the lead to 12 points. Tucker, who's trying to look for his first goal of the day and become the Bulldogs' fourth.
Well, I tell you what, the Bulldogs certainly had the momentum now. Pongrassic has been fantastic across that half-forward line, just delivering well inside 50 on that occasion. And they need to convert here just to capitalise on their momentum.
Tucker from about 40 metres out, 45-degree angle, puts it towards the right post, but this time it sneaks in for the Bulldogs' goal. 4-7-31, leading by 12 points over Vermont, 3-1-19. We've travelled past 16 and a half minutes in this second term.
To Barry Cotts.
Yeah, some Division 3 scores. Baronia 3-6-24 to South Belgrade 3-1-19. Ferntree Gully 4-2-26 to Heathmont 2-3-15. The Basin 3-4-22 to Chirnside Park, 4 behinds, 4 points. And a close game, Templestowe and Ringwood early stages. Ringwood 2-2-14 to Templestowe 2-1-13.
Great work, Barry Cotts at the score centre. The score here is a 12-point lead to South Croydon, biggest lead of the day so far for the Bulldogs. And that's what they're capable of, just getting 2 or 3 goals in quick time. They've done it again here. Strong tackle then by Molnar. Dan King, did he cop a high one? The umpire said no. And it'll be a ball up.
11 scoring shots to 4.
Umpire throws it up. Tucker leapt high but far too early. Parker got it out to McComb. Luke McComb's kick inside forward 50. Nice work done there by Schneider. Shot the handball out. Wadley swoops on the footy. Tries to beat the tackle by Kilpatrick. Young. Short pass is effective to Pretto. Andrew Pretto. He goes short
Good
as
delivery.
well. Nice kick, and he's found Crocker. Crocker there marking it on the chest. So chance here for Vermont to get a steadying goal. Important one, given that South Croydon have had the bulk of the play in the last couple of minutes.
A lot of the scoring's been completed from that pocket, though, for Vermont, so he fancy himself here, but just to stem the flow here, it's very important that Vermont can convert when they can against the flow of play, against the momentum.
He's got 1 goal today. That was in the first quarter. Darcy Crockett got a bit of advice, I think, from the spectators alongside him there, and he did seem to get a little bit rattled by it. Crocker's kick right across the face. What a mark, though, by Eddie. Brett Eddie just set himself for the ball. And
gee. Now, this might be reversed here. Yep. McComb whacked a player behind the play. Just undisciplined when you got a free kick in front of goal.
Well, a great mark by Eddie, and he'll be filthy that he's lost. His teammates cost the ball then. And a 25-metre penalty is going as well. So that's very costly for Vermont at a crucial stage. So they move their way down the field now, the Bulldogs. Birch, Tobin it was. Tobin's floating kick. Purdy works his way back. Purdy tries to gather in possession. Had King in opposition. McCafferty gave the little handball off to Purdy. Purdy floats the kick. It's a real floater. No one there for Vermont. Nobody wanted the ball. They all turned away from it. Little handball was shot back. And the Bulldogs steady now. So they dodge a bullet once again. Tucker gathered it in nicely. Jake Tucker, neat kick. Looks for a teammate on a long lead. And the mark safely held there by Cooper. And Daniel Cooper should back himself in, I reckon, here. He can definitely kick this goal.
A 45-degree angle. The distance wouldn't worry him, you would think. He's got a long leg on him, but gee, you were right. None of those South Croydon players wanted it on the outer side, but they still had the time and space to deliver the ball.
25 goals for the season for Daniel Cooper. He's kicked one today. He is a long kick of the ball. He's got the long run up as well. Unloads. Won't quite make the distance. It was fisted through for a minor score. And South Croydon move on to 4 goals, 8. Vermont are 3-1 as we go to Barry Cotts once again with some more straw.
Yep, Division 4, and Glen Waverley Hawks 4-2-26 to East Burwood 3-1-19. Surrey Park 4-2-26 to Fair Park 1-1-7. Forest Hill 8-4-52 to Nunawading 5 behind 5 points.
The kick out, Davidson taps it to himself before he gets it to Snyder. He's got good courage even in crowded situations to take an overhead mark for a small man. Gets it to Howard on the back of the square. So now they'll transverse to the outer side, and now they've got the runners going. Long kick into the forward line, 1v1. This suits the Eagles, and it's Crocker, who's good for his size, takes front position, and the spoil didn't ever come because good body position by Crocker. 20 metres out. Good judgment, got position, took the overhead mark.
Yeah, Tim Johnson just running away from his opponent in Michael King, found space on the outer side, had the chance to lower the eyes and spot up a target. Just can't afford to let Vermont runners on that outer wing just stream away so easily.
Well, the great thing about Crocker is when you've got a one-on-one, he's the one looking at the ball and the defender scrambling, looking at him and trying to get the judgment going. So Crocker from 30 metres out, he's got another goal on the board. He's dead-eye dick in front of goals. Darcy Crocker 2. That means Vermont have got 4-1-25. They only trail by 7 points. Croydon are 4-8-32. 21 and a half minutes gone, second term.
And that time he had no one there alongside him to put him off as he took his shot at goal. Let's cross to Barry Cotts with some more scores and then down to Matt Fodia. Barry first.
Yes, quarter time, Whitehorse Pioneers 9-1-55 to Coldstream 2-3-15.
Matt Fodia on the boundary.
Tom Schneider was really important there. Took a good mark backing back, and then his diagonal ball inboard sort of opened it all up for Vermont there. And his goal early in the quarter, he hasn't had that much of the footy, but when he's had it, he's done something with it.
You know, good call. He probably hasn't had, as you say, Matty, as much of the footy as we're used to seeing Tom Schneider get, but still having a big impact as McComb put his body over the ball, and he was unable to set off then.
It's important for Vermont to get that goal, Brad, just to settle the tempo down, because they had the capacity to get rattled after a free kick right in front of goal only minutes earlier.
Jones tries to take possession, was held by Young. Off the ground then by Colopy. Wadley takes possession. Little handball to Colopy.
Good
He backpedals with the handball. Got it to Parker. Parker's kick to a contest. No mark taken. Crowd did really well for the Bulldogs. Owned the front position and got the handball away to Mallison. Ball spills out to Crow. Crow gave it to Cox. Strong tackle by Wadley. Terrific endeavour shown then by Sam Wadley. And it will be a ball up.
For all of South Croydon's dominance, I mean, they're only 7 points up, so they just haven't taken their opportunities at this point.
Buxton wins the tap down. Will they get an opportunity? Comes back to Buxton, who just hands pass it forward, hoping his team up run onto it, but it's always Dan King on the spot. But under a heap of pressure, he tunnels a hand pass towards the boundary side, and McComb helps it over. So Vermont hold ground. They're 50 metres around from their goals late in this second term. They trail by 7 points, and you'd have to say they're making the most of their forward entries. 4-1-25. Boundary throw in, Buxton front position. Coming in late was Tucker. He bumped him out of the way, so that was good by Tucker. Then knocks it forward on the second F. Gets it to Rosier. Rosier shares it. Here's Jones off the back of the square. Takes a run. Takes his full complement of metres before he gets his pass down the line. The numbers are back for Vermont, and Preto just gets in the way of King. And Zippy King couldn't run under it. And bit of comedy errors there as trying to bump. Cooper comes in to give Preto just a friendly bump, and he slides off like he was going for a penalty at the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
He just slipped over.
That doesn't stop them blowing the whistle. So it's a boundary throw in. It's half forward now for the Dogs as they soaked up a lot of pressure. Preto's in there to giving it to McComb, but he's wrapped up in a tackle from Dan King.
Didn't he let him know about it?
And King makes sure he sees some of the turf before he lets him get up. So it's a ball up in half forward for the Dogs.
Is indeed. Buxton went very early, leapt way too early on that occasion. Quick kick by McComb. Little underground kick by him. Socket off the ground. Well done by Kilpatrick. Went back with the handball. Short pass is on, but Parker's there to chop it off. And Adam Parker drives it forward for Vermont. Nice work by Wadley. Used his body well. Best was at the fall of the ball. Jake Best kick across the face of goal, and the ball evades Eddie over the boundary line.
What do you think he was doing there? Kicking for goal or passing?
I was thinking he was in two minds on that occasion. He looked like he was in the open path to goal, but it sprayed so far across the face, he must have been looking for that forward option.
Barry Cotts with some more scores.
Yep, Bourne, and it's 10-minute mark the second. Bourne 8-4-52 to North Ringwood to 1-5-11, and in Division 3, Donvale 3-1-19 to Waverley Blues 1-3-9.
Ainger had front position in the ruck contest. Strong tackle there by Cass, and it will be a ball up once more.
You think Eddie and Best need to get into the game more?
Yeah, well, Best, when I saw him before, I thought, gee, he's been very quiet. We've hardly called him at all. Eddie, I don't think Eddie's been done too many favours by some of the delivery, but yeah, obviously they need both of those two firing. Ainger's been good. I reckon he's stood up so far today. Ball on the deck, holding on. Umpire says, yeah, he was held, and not happy about it, the Bulldogs then. Dan King had a few words to say to the umpire, but let's check it on our replay. And
no, I think that's there.
He dispossessed him, and then he took him to ground very aggressively.
Yeah, Birch there holding on too long onto Brett Eddy. But it's where the kick's going to be that's so costly, right at the point of the goal square. So Brett Eddy, easy as you like, pops it through for his second goal of the day. In fact, his second of this quarter. And Vermont bring the margin back to just 1 point on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard. Dying stages of the second quarter here. Let's go to Barry Cotts with some more scores across the EFL.
Yes, scores will be 7-6-48 is leading Warranite 2-4-16.
Oh, we mentioned Brett Eddy needed to get into the game. I think that's a decent return in a low-scoring contest. 2 goals out of 5 in this first half, but Vermont just have stemmed the flow at the moment. Only 1 point in it, so the Eagles will be pretty happy at this point, given that South Croydon have had a lot of the momentum in this first half.
Yeah, you can say Walker's had the advantage over Eddie, but when he's got 2 1/4, that's all his job.
Decent.
That's his job. So he's doing it quite nicely. Ball's in the middle. It's a hot contest where Schneider gets onto it. He gets bumped as he gets kicked, but as he kicks it, it goes into the forward 50. Preto's running as an option, but he's close to the boundary line before he can grab possession, and it goes out of bounds. So they just couldn't get into the open spaces, Vermont, to organise that driving ball into the deep into their forward line, but it's in a good position. 50 metres out, 27.5 minutes. The first quarter went from 29. So we'll see how long this one might be. A chance for Vermont. King there waxing between Max King and Dan King, and the ball goes to the wing now for a bit of relieving territory for the Dogs. And all the players, the scrum or the maul will move towards the wing, where Buxton Max King must be tired with all their efforts of banging bodies. King gets front position, wins the tap down. Now the runner comes. It's a long driving ball from Anderson inside 50. Tuckett nicely gets position, drops the mark. King gets onto it. He kicks it as he's tackled. Got the runners coming towards it. Purdy's under a heap of pressure. Was he pushed in the back or sat on? It's ignored, and the kick off the ground was missed from only 10 metres out as Cooper ran onto the ball. Or was it Jones? And his kick from only 10 metres out with an open goal missed, and it was off to the right for another minor score. South Croydon 4-9-33, leading Vermont 5-1-31.
Davidson brings the ball back in. Long kick out, Ainger the target. Rosier working hard there on hands and knees. And Ainger casting the role of a rover. Couldn't get it away. Let's go down to Matt Fodio once again on the boundary.
That last contest was the only time Andrew Pretto's let Frank Anderson out of his sights.
Colopy stripped of the footy and over the boundary line. And Matt, you mentioned that, but seems like Luke McComb's letting Dan King go absolutely nowhere without him by his side as well.
Yeah, they put a lot of effort into all the midfielders here, and it's pretty hard now because South don't know which one to lay a block on.
Boundary throw in. Parker somehow got the handball away to Schneider. He got the handball away just in the nick of time as the spectators called for holding the ball. Umpire said no.
That should have been a goal, though, in hindsight. I know there was that chance 10 metres out. Then again, it could have been paid a push in the back against South Croydon on that occasion. So maybe a balance out.
Sat on as he went to ground.
Yeah.
Back into play. Kilpatrick, well wrapped up there by Parker.
Rain starting to fall. Good crowd. Just an observation, not a comment, but good crowd in too.
Buxton won it. Schneider over his head. Kilpatrick, very low kick. Anderson, great pick up. Gave the handball out. Kilpatrick again had his kick smothered. There's just no room to move at the moment. And Johnson takes the ball to the safety of the boundary line.
I think Vermont would just be looking not to concede now. We're in the dying stages, but 2 points the difference. I think we're primed for a good second half here in this game.
2 point lead, as you say, Damo, for South Croydon. Boundary throw in once more. Johnson sharked the pack, but he was going nowhere. And that is the siren to complete the first half out here in the grand final rematch between South Croydon and Vermont. And what a rematch it has been so far. South Croydon, they lead, but only by 2 points. 4 goals, 9-33. Vermont have been, they've capitalised more up forward. 5 goals, 1-31. So a 2 point lead to the Bulldogs at half time.
So a very scrappy opening term, but the game did open up in the second quarter, set for a fantastic second half. Don't go anywhere on EFL Game Day. South Croydon 2 point leaders over Vermont in the match of the day. We'll be back with the Score Centre with Barry Cotts and much more in just a moment.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mum for everything she's done.
My brother's been having a pretty rough time. I'd like to reassure him that it'll be okay.
I'm sorry that it ended up badly and we didn't remain friends.
I was pretty tough on my brother when he was younger, and I'd like to apologise to you now, mate.
It's never too late to apologise, forgive, or say something you've always wanted to say to someone. So reach out and tell a loved one what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Go live and local every Saturday for EFL Game Day.
Can he bring the house down, Robbie? They go charging into Division 2.
Stutter step, now sends it on its way. This one's going to go long. And straight through, Jeff.
Pass. Gee, that was poetry in motion, to use the cliche.
Braden Cross, cometh the moment, cometh the man.
EFL Game Day, 1 through to 6 Saturdays on 98.1 Radio Eastern.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener. 9 News invites you to join our team nightly at 6 for Melbourne's #1 news. Tony Jones with the latest sport, including the footy, plus Lavinia Nixon's weather forecast. 9 News, proud supporter of the Eastern Football League.
Program sponsor.
EFL.org.au is the place to be online for all the latest on the Eastern Football League. Keep up to date by checking out the latest news and feature articles. Have your say in the EFL poll. Check out all the latest EFL videos, and best of all, you can listen back to any EFL radio program at any time. Head to EFL.org.au. The Eastern Football League. Local footy at its best.
If you have ideas on how you want to be celebrated and you don't express them with others, they won't know. So you may not always get what you had in mind.
I'm just thinking for my parents. I wouldn't want to do something that they wouldn't have wanted. And I don't know if they've put these plans in place.
Even simply, do they want to be buried or cremated?
Yeah.
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones and start pre-planning your funeral today. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Nothing better than a companion to keep you up to date with all the latest when you're at the footy. Better still, one that fits in your back pocket. The Eastern Footballer is a must-read. All the latest information, team lists, feature articles and much, much more. Pick up your copy this weekend as you love it local across the Eastern Football League.
I'd love to make more time for my loved ones because they really deserve as much help as I can give them.
Because they mean the world to me.
Because eventually they won't be around anymore.
Because I don't want to miss out on watching my brothers grow.
To show them that I value them.
I don't want to regret later on just being too busy.
Apparently a very common regret is that people feel like they didn't make enough time for loved ones.
Tell those you love what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
EFL Saturday Game Day continues. Let's head back and go local for your footy.
Radio Eastern 98.1 Broadcast here at the Score Centre here at Cheon Park in South Croydon. At half-time, it's the home team, South Croydon 4-9-33, leading Vermont 5-1-31, so a 2-point lead at half-time, which means it'll probably be a very exciting second half. Let's take a look at some scores. We'll start off with Division 1. And Montrose 5-4-34 lead Knox 3-1-19. Blackburn, they're 7-1-43 to Roval 3-2-20. And Doncaster 2-3-15 to Norwood 2-2-14. Hopefully getting a score update very shortly in that game. Turning over the cards and let's have a look at Division 2. Some interesting games in Division 2 this afternoon. And Upper Ferntree Gully, 3 goals straight, 18 to Mitcham, 2-1-13. Leadale, 4-3-27 to Croydon, 3 behinds, 3 points. Mulgrave, 4-2-26 to Bayswater, 1-4-10. Park Orchards, 2-2-14 to Wantirna South, 5 behinds, 5 points. And Doncaster East really kicking away. Doncaster East, 10-11-71 to Muralbark, 3-2-20. So some interesting scores there. With Mulgrave leading Bayswater in that game there. All right, let's turn again the card and have a look at Division 3. And Baronia, 3-6-24 is leading South Belgrade, 3-1-19. Ferntree Gully, 4-2-26 to Heathmont, 2-3-15. The Basin, 4-4-28 to Churnside Park, 1-6-12. That's still just waiting for a score update from the Scoresby Warren Dight game. Scores were in front a few minutes ago. And Templestowe and Ringwood, it's Ringwood 5-4-34 to Templestowe 4-2-26 in that game. And let's have a look at some Division 4 games being played this afternoon. And firstly to out there at East Burwood Reserve. Glenwaverley Hawks 4-2-26 to East Burwood 3-1-19. Surrey Park 4-2-26, Fair Park 1-1-7. Forest Hill 8-4-52 to Nuttawading, 4 behinds, 4 points in that game. So there are the scores at half-time. And we'll have some more score updates in just a moment, some updated scores, because this game is running a little bit ahead of what's here this afternoon, so we'll have a little bit around on. As we observe, it's pouring with rain here at South Croydon as we came back after the break, so it's going to be a bit slippery second half.
Yes, I know our boundary rider, Matt Fodia, is absolutely pleased that the rain's
he's looking very
down.
chuffed about it.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it'll make it an interesting second half because the game did open up in that second quarter. It became more free-flowing, and now all of a sudden, with the rain pelting down, we'll see a return to that tight, tough physical opening that we observed in the first quarter. But it does bode well in terms of the contest because it's only 2 points the margin, as we mentioned. South Croydon 4-9-33. Probably didn't take their opportunities when they had the momentum. Vermont have closed in 5-1-31. But I'm sure the Bulldogs would take some solace out of the fact they haven't been blown away in this first half. half, because it could have easily gone that way given Vermont's form so far this season.
And it's turned into the game we thought it would be, a close game, only 2 points at half-time.
That's it. We came out here for a reason, that's for sure. But despite the rain, good crowd in. Everyone's huddled underneath the covers, which is good to hear. But certainly some interesting results that you've thrown through, Barry. I noticed Mulgrave were up against Bayswater.
Yep, still ahead.
And even in Division 3, there were a few that I didn't expect to pan out the way it has so far. But things could change in the second half, particularly with the rain coming down.
We'll have some more scores a little bit later on.
Absolutely. So we're currently in the halftime show. South Croydon leading by 2 points over Vermont. It's been an interesting first half. And the game, as I mentioned, did open up in that second quarter, and Tom Schneider, I think, played very well for Vermont. When he did have the ball, he created opportunities. I noticed Brett Eddy did get into the game in that second quarter, kicked 2 goals, even though he was shut out by his opponent. And I think with the fact that he has scored 2 goals, Brett Eddy will be pleased, given it's a low-scoring game, that he's booted 2 out of Vermont's 5 goals. From South Croydon's perspective, I think Max King's been very good in the ruck against his opponent in Liam Buxton. That's been an interesting duel all day, given the amount of stoppages. And also, Mallison, I think, was good early on in the game in that first term, created opportunities, read the ball well off the pack. And Jason Pongrasic has also been very good across that half-forward line, presenting as an option in the number 85 Guernsey for South Croydon. But Matt Fodia, you've been witnessing all the action from ground level. It's been tough and intense, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a very, very physical game. Obviously, the conditions have caused that. And the ball was pretty much locked in, well, with the first quarter. It was locked in South Croydon's forward half for basically 85% of the quarter, and they couldn't get it out because there were so many numbers around the ball, which has probably suited Vermont's transition. As soon as they've got it out to that far side, they've been able to run and carry, and then Brett Eddy gets a one-on-one, which is what he wants, and he's showing great attack on the footy when it's gone down there. A few uncharacteristic free kicks. McComb giving away that one when Eddy took the mark. There was the one in the middle, which I think was against Buxton. So there's a few players getting frustrated, and then Frank Anderson he hasn't given away he gave away 1 in the first quarter, but I think he's brewing a little bit. He got a bit of the footy in that last few minutes, so that might ease his tension a little bit. But he was showing
bit
signs
of frustration.
Getting frustrated. I don't know how many times he's been run with by someone like Andrew Pretto, who looks like he can run all day. And he's probably heard them going the other way a little bit too. He's had a few kicks, had some nice delivery into the pocket for Eddie's goal, and Crocker as well. So he's been pretty good as well. The game, Jake Tucker's done very well. He's played a bit of a different role than what we're used to seeing. He's probably sat actually a kick off the ball.
Yeah.
Especially in the first quarter. So
has accumulated a bit of the footy, though.
Yeah, he's been pretty good. So, and Max King's probably tore it up in the ruck. So like we were hoping for a good game. We've got one here. It's 2 points of difference, but I think South probably would be ruining their missed chances because they'd like to be 3 or 4 goals ahead, I reckon, because it is Vermont and we know what they can do.
Yeah, 13 scoring shots to 6 and only 2 points up. That can be costly as the game moves forward. What about the conditions? If it pelts down with rain for the rest of the afternoon, I know you're hoping for that. Not.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Let's say it does pelt down with rain for most of the afternoon. Do you see one side running away with it and the floodgates opening for one team, or do you think it'll just be tight and tough all day?
Probably suits the forward line of South Croydon more, because I think their chaos ball sort of works a little bit.
That's true. Vermont have been very precise in that they've found a target leading out and taking the uncontested or contested mark in the air, whereas South Croydon tend to be a bit more persistent, and you mentioned that chaos ball inside 50 has been their avenue.
Luke McCormack was mentioning that Vermont always want the uncontested mark. So they started off with that, and then South Croydon were able to shut it down. And you can tell by the way Vermont moved the ball inside forward 50, they're constantly looking for an open option, which is obviously what good teams do. They lower their eyes, they take their time, they work it into the box. A la Spain, if we're talking about the World Cup game.
There's been a few references.
But I think South Croydon, it's going to play in their hands with the wet footy because it's quite hard to do that. They'll definitely try Vermont. Lockie John said that's probably one thing they need to improve is their adaptability. And they haven't done that. They didn't do that last year, but I'd be surprised if they changed the way they go about their forward entries. But I think it will suit South Croydon with players like King, Rosier, Cooper's pretty good in the air and on the ground as well. A lot of their goal, and Mallison, if they can just get it to ground and just run onto it with a bit of skid. But we also saw that Vermont are pretty good at getting numbers back and stopping that as well. So I don't see the game breaking open as such. If the rain does stop, it's not going to create much difference anymore now because the ground's so wet that the ball's going to continue to be greasy. So I don't know whether the rain's going to have too much emphasis on the play itself. It might change the way people think about the footy, but I think the ground's not going to change itself.
Just before we head to the break, Barry Cotts at the EFL Score Centre.
Yes, some score updates in Division 1. Doncaster 5-8-38 at half-time is leading Norwood 5-5-35. It's half-time with the Roval Blackburn game, and it's Roval 8-1-49 to Blackburn. Ball forward 28, and Heathmont and Ferntree Gully, and it's a lead to Ferntree Gully.
Really?
Yep, 6-7-43 to Heathmont 4-7-31. And as well as that, Wantirna South and Park Orchards. Wantirna South is leading 3-8-26 to Park Orchards 3-3-21.
There you go. So the umpires are back now out on the field, and we'll be back very shortly for the second half of this grand final rematch in Division 1 between South Croydon and Vermont. It's the Bulldogs by just 2 points. Don't go anywhere.
A scent or a song or a food that reminds me of someone. Lavender reminds me of my grandmother.
There's albums, when I listen to them, I think back to my dad playing them to me.
Vanilla perfume reminds me of my mum.
The smell of Yorkshire pudding reminds me of my old man. He was a great Yorkshireman.
An Italian pasta dish reminds me of my grandmother.
Be remembered for the greatest moments in your life. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Join the Eastern Football League media team for full coverage. From 1 p.m. every Saturday, the team dissect each of the 22 senior matches on the warm-up. The action kicks off from 2 p.m. with the EFL Game Day broadcast bringing fans a full play-by-play call of the game of the round. From 5 p.m. it's back to the studio for the post-match and a full wrap of the day's games. EFL Game Day, 1 to 6 every Saturday afternoon as you love it local. Join the Eastern Football League media team for full coverage. From 1 p.m. every Saturday, the team dissect each of the 22 senior matches on the warm-up. The action kicks off from 2 p.m. with the EFL Game Day broadcast bringing fans a full play-by-play call of the game of the round. From 5 p.m. it's back to the studio for the post-match and a full wrap of the day's games. EFL Game Day, 1 to 6 every Saturday afternoon as you love it local.
You've all been to funerals of family members or friends, right? Do you start thinking about what you would want at your funeral? It's a bit like when you go to a wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
At what stage do you start planning?
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Bigger and better, Netball EFL is back. The fastest growing competition in the eastern suburbs continues to expand. Don't miss the fast-paced action every Friday night across multiple venues. For more information or to get involved, head to efl.org.au.
Something nice that I have done for someone, I have bought a meal for a homeless person.
I always offer to pick people up from the airport.
I went out with a friend last night. Just being there and listening to what she was going through, I think made all the difference.
I'll write like a little note and put it in the mail. Might just be like, hi, I'm thinking of you.
I took my girlfriend to dinner last week. That's pretty notable for me.
At Tobin Brothers Funerals, they know that every life is unique and they think that every celebration should be too. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
EFL Saturday Game Day continues. Let's head back and go local for your footy.
And welcome back to Cheong Park for this EFL Game Day clash between South Croydon and Vermont, and the grand final rematch in Division 1 has lived up to the hype. It's South Croydon 4-9-33 leading Vermont 5-1-31 as the rain pelts down here at South Croydon. Let's head to Barry Cotts for more scores.
Yes, Division 4 half-time, Wantirna Pioneers 11-5-71, well ahead of Coldstream 5-5-35.
Fantastic. So certainly a lot of scores filtering through. Brad and Gav rejoin us in commentary. What about your predictions for this second half? Are you going to go out on a limb and pick one team to win here, Brad?
It's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely 50-50 at this stage, which is not saying much because it's a 2-point.
Go out on a limb,
lead.
Bradley.
Nah,
it's all right.
I'll tip
a draw, maybe.
I'll tip Vermont because until they do lose a game this year, I'm not going to tip them to lose. Like, I'm not going to tip them to lose until they have lost one. They haven't done that so far this year, so I'll go with Vermont. They'll find a way to win to get it done.
And Gav, your predictions for the second half?
Well, based on the first half, I'd say South Croydon, but the rain might change the way the game's played, so it might have no bearing on what we're about to see, if you know what I mean, Damo. So in that regard, I think Vermont play some smart footy, so the rain might suit them. But we'll just wait and see, because South Croydon's had 13 shots to 6, so that's a snapshot of the game.
Yeah, it is indeed. As the second half gets underway, the rain very heavy at this stage as Schneider fed it out to McComb. McComb's long, high kick. No mark taken back there by Crowell. Cox did well, got his handball away. Tobin spun out of the tackle, throws it on the boot into open space to kick. And a bit of a fumble there by Wale Buxton. And did he put it out of bounds on the full? The umpire said no. So boundary throw in true wing position right in front of the social club here at Cheong Park.
Has to lift Big Buxton against Maxi King. Probably had his measure in the first half.
Yeah, I think King's the ruck hit outs that King won were a lot more effective, had much more control over his taps. Close to the boundary line, socket off the ground. Alice was confronted and bundled over the boundary line, high tackle. So free kick there against Molnar goes to Andy Ellis.
Got to go back over the mark.
Yeah, umpire not allowing Ellis there to run around the player on the mark in Molnar.
Especially when he's explaining the free kick.
Ellis's long kick, big pack contesting. Eddie gave the handball away, was intercepted by Jones. And Jones's kick was marked by Rosier, who tried to handball along quickly, was intercepted by McCafferty, and that's a great goal by McCafferty, probably the goal of the day. Vermont get their 6th, and they lead by 4 points. Less than 2 minutes into the third quarter.
Rosier was told to play on because it was touched off the boot, so he knew straight away to spoon the hand pass off.
Let's go to Matt Fodey, a boundary side.
First of all, Buxton did kick that out in the full. The boundary umpire missed that, and Stephen Donnell's definitely not involved in the game anymore. He's got the jeans on and he's ready to take up his role as backline coach.
There you go. And that was a great goal, though, by McCafferty in the wet conditions to burrow through, find some space and get a very effective kick forward. Great effort.
Smart play by the Eagles. Nearly Parker being tackled off the ball away from that congested centre circle area where it's a crowded area and the umpire will come in again to ball it up. Buxton uses his body before he goes to the tap, taps it down, but it's Dan King who run onto it at the back of the square. Crocker spoons a hand pass off to the running teammate, and it's a long driving ball deep into the forward line to defenders. We're a bit panicked, not knowing where to punch it, and at ground level, Preto picks it up, but he's been escorted over the boundary line in the pocket.
Well, they are pressing Vermont in this term, getting it long and deep inside that forward 50. It's always going to put the defenders under pressure in the wet conditions and makes it liable for a kick off the ground in these conditions.
Boundary throw in 20 metres around from the goals for Vermont. Ainger's just trying to push Max King out of the way, but King does well to butter up onto the ball. Gets out to Dan King, who was just standing forward of the pack, and he just kicks it long into the centre corridor. The numbers will win out with Parker, giving a hand pass over to Preto. He's been pushed off the ball, so in the middle of the ground. Can Cass organise something? His short kick was well telegraphed, and coming in Davidson late, takes a good mark on the wing. Short to Snyder, on the up, gives it to Parker. Parker driving ball, Eddie just couldn't get there, and in front of him was McDonald taking a saving mark.
Great mark by McDonald in the conditions, who switches to this broadcast side. One-on-one contest. Pongaracic at front position. Crocker slid in and earned himself a free kick for a one over the shoulder. So free kick to Darcy Crocker. Goes very short, hugs the boundary and finds Tim Johnson. He goes extremely short as well to Howard. Howard runs his full measure now, floats it forward. Not a good kick though, and Marshall was back there. Had that kick well and truly scouted. And Dylan Marshall just pushes it sideways to Molnar. Molnar for the Bulldogs. High, up and under kick. King the target. Tried to get front position there, Max King. Takes possession now, throws it on the boot. And Staples there tried to knock it towards the boundary line. That's what he did. and it will be a boundary throw in.
And you hear in the effects, Mike, they say Max, Max, and that's more like kick it to Max and we'll all run towards his feet. So they're organising their kicks when they're under pressure to go to Max and they'll work off that.
Well, it's quite common, isn't it, just for the other players to draw off the ruckman, particularly in the wet conditions.
Boundary throw in. Max King knocked it down to his namesake Dan. Dan King's high, up and under kick. No mark there by Fisher. Ball was shot out to the zippy one, Michael King.
Ooh, high
and
tackle.
Free kick against Schneider. And very demonstrative, Tom Schneider there in his disagreement with the umpire.
Well, was it a bump or a tackle?
Let's have a look on the streaming replay. Bit of a bump, not too much in it. Michael King, renowned goal sneak, of course. Always terrific on the run, this time from a set shot.
Worked it back.
Worked it back beautifully. It didn't look great initially, but he drew it back nicely, and Michael King kicks his second of the day.
Well, that was a great set shot too. It's always hard to judge in these wet conditions when the rain's coming in virtually sideways, and he's worked it well from right to left, but probably a bit fortuitous to get that free kick inside 50. But you got to take your opportunities, and South Croydon on this occasion have done so after probably missing out on a few gettable opportunities in that first half, and they've regained the lead now.
Approaching 6 minutes in this third term. 5-9-39 to Vermont 6-1-37, and there's like a hush over the ground. The rain is just driving everyone into silence, but it's an absorbing contest all around the ground. Buxton does well in the ruck, gets towards Snyder, who couldn't burst out of a pack situation, so now he just kicks it off the ground, and the umpire says that's not what you're allowed to do, because Dan King had his hands in the area, and he'll take the relieving free kick in the middle of the ground. He drives a long ball with the rain driving down here at Cheong Park. Great defence there from Vermont. McComb shares it with Buxton, who shares it with Caney, and now they're trying to work it out into open space. Now they go through the middle, and Schneider's wide open, kicks along to Eddie. One-on-one contest, but Walker judges it nicely, gets the front position, drops the mark in the slippery conditions, but he drops it to his feet and kicks it off the ground. Gets it to Jones, who just spills it for a sec, but he's got composure to give it to Kilpatrick, who's open on the outer wing. His kick doesn't get the distance, and good body work for the defender. Nicely marked there from Vermont. They go the outer side, 2 grabs at it, good effort, and it's Colopy who gets the mark, goes in board to the corridor, just over the head, dogs all over it, and Anderson picks it up, takes on the tackler, gets a handball over to Jones. Jones sees a wide open player in forward 50, and they'll settle for a shot at goal on the mistake made in the middle of the ground, and it's in the hands of Cooper.
We've seen it for most of the afternoon so far. When kicking the ball laterally, you've got to hit your target, otherwise it makes it liable for the other team to attack on the counter, and that's where majority of the goals so far have come from.
There's a very stagnant 3 dogs, and very surprised, but they're quick to bounce onto the heel, onto the feet, just to run onto it as soon as they knew it was over the head of their opponent. So it's Cooper from 50. He gets some leverage by hooking the ball, and that means it misses to the left. Minor score, South Croydon 5-10-40, leading by 3 points early in this third term. Matt Fodia, boundary side.
Yeah, the rain is really set in here. It doesn't look like there's going to be a break for much longer, so this could be the conditions for the rest of the game. So we're going to have to see sides go a little less laterally and a bit more straight up and down.
1-3 for Daniel Cooper today. Davidson brings the ball back in for the Eagles. Big fly, no one takes the mark. Ellis lost the footy, so did Ainger. Quick kick by McDonald. They compete about 20 metres out. Quick kick came away for Vermont, but Anderson was there to safely hold the mark. Just outside his range, you'd think. Anderson puts it to the top of the square. In fact, it's almost going to carry through for a goal, and the goal umpire is right on the scene there to say, yes, indeed, that is a goal. Frank Anderson kicks a crucial one for the Bulldogs, and they've opened up a handy lead now of 14 points on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard.
He used Tucker as like a measuring stick. I'll pass to you, but I'll kick it over your head, and goes for a goal.
Great goal.
So we'll get score centre from Barry Cotts.
Yes, Forest Hill 8-4-52, leading Nunawading 1-5-12, and Wantirna Pioneers 11-5-71 to Coldstream 5-5-35.
So you get all the scores around the grounds of the Eastern Football League 4 divisions, but it's the best of First Division or the what will be Premier Division next year. South Croydon, the reigning premiers, in the rain, lead by 14 points, 7-9-51 over Vermont, 6-1-37. Almost 10 minutes gone. Pass goes forward from a free kick at centre forward, and Eddie runs onto it as they just opened up the forward line, and Eddie led Walker to the ball, took a chest mark just from the ball up in the centre. Free kick to Vermont, and the play on situation, and Eddie was awake to it. The opportunity, good lead, good mark, will be kicked from 40. He's kicked 2 goals in the second term.
Needs to kick it.
And he doesn't miss. It is as straight as you could kick a football, and straight over the goal umpire's hat. Vermont 7-1-43, now trailed by 8 points. South Croydon is 7-9-51, 10 minutes gone, third term.
Just have a scoring inconsistency here.
I think they gave a goal to South Croydon when it was a behind.
Yeah. So is the scoreboard at the ground correct?
No, the scoreboard. Our scoreboard's correct. Should be 6 goals, 10.
Yeah, I was thinking. So the players have got the incorrect score up.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's why I was like hesitating. I'm reading a score.
It did look a bit strange.
So we've totally thrown the score. We believe is 6-10-46 to 7-1-43.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed, 3-point lead to South Croydon. They still lead. Last goal by Eddie, of course. Good tackle by Alice. The umpire says he held on too long in the tackle, in fact. So free kick is going to Marshall. Cox, in fact, it is. Liam Cox for South Croydon. Floating kick, pretty good one. Honoured the lead then from Tucker. Tucker slips over, just couldn't quite drag the mark in. Kick tumbles forward. Nicely done there. They teamed together well, the Bulldogs. Walker, sweeping handball was effective to Jones. Jones sells a bit of candy and then switches to the other side of the ground and finds Mallison. Mallison out into open space. Tobin was his target. Tobin takes possession now. Caney sets off after him, but Tobin got his kick in. It was pretty effective looking for big Max King. Socket off the ground. Vermont had plenty of players back there and they force a rush behind. And the scoreboard at the ground has been fixed up now. South Croydon 6-11-47 to Vermont 7-1-43 on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard.
Glad they're listening to us, and Lee with on the camera and working the live stream, doing a beautiful job. Right score.
No, so, ours is wrong at the moment.
I'll try to give him a rap. Don't say he made a mistake. As the kick goes, Vermont gets out of defence, but Marshall's the man on the spot on the outer wing, gets it into Cox, who's on the middle of Cheong Park. He spears a pass in, finds his teammate. We'll just see what options do Molnar have. Kicks it long towards his leading option, and it was a spilled mark by Max King, and he'll do the ruck duties as he spilled it over the boundary line. He led that wide into the pocket. So it's now the Dogs just having most of the territory this quarter, or this last 5 minutes or so at least. 6-11-47. Lead by 4 points over Vermont 7-1-43. I've always got to check with the other guys here to see what score is correct.
It's out on the full. I think it's gone off the leg here.
And the boundary umpire right on the spot.
They're going to confer now. The boundary umpire and the field umpire.
We'll get VAR soon. It's a free kick to Vermont deep in their defence, and they'll...
Could probably do that these days. We got the screens in here.
Yeah, we'll shout out. We'll get Matt Fodia to give the official word. As Molnar chops the ball up, and he'll drive it from half forward to full forward. The pack of Bulldogs get onto it. Now it's close to the line, but can't be held in, as Kilpatrick couldn't run onto the open ball, and it's over the behind. Boundary. So it's 5 points of difference, 6-12-48 to 7-1-43. Let's go to Matt Fodia on boundary line.
I don't have my little TV screen down here, Gav, to do VAR, but what I can tell you is Andrew Pretto, even just touching Frank Anderson now right on the boundary line almost, he just won't let him out of his sights.
High, up and under kick. Tucker got hands to it. Couldn't quite drag the mark in. Nicely done by Eddie. It was a very clever little tap. Tumbling kick. Cox tries to grab it. Marshall in support did well. Marshall's neat kick is a good one, and he finds Pongracic, whose long kick to a massive pack of players. The ball carried over the back. Did someone get a hand
Zippy
to
got
it?
shepherded.
Vermont managed to steady.
Good tackle.
Great chase. Terrific tackle.
Well done.
And that was good footy from the Bulldogs. And holding the ball paid. So I think it was McCaffrey there who was well tackled.
Yeah, brilliant tackle applied there from Pat Rosier of South Croydon. Just caught the Vermont defence napping on that occasion, and didn't they let the Vermont defenders know about it?
We'll have the rain pouring in his into his face as he has this shot at goal. Very heavy rain at the moment.
11-point lead, and the buffer of that advantage in this weather would be very, very handy.
Just one behind today for Patrick Rosier. Walks in and did that very well indeed. Wasn't the easiest kick in the world, but he made it look pretty easy. And South Croydon kicked the goal. They move on to 7-12-54. Vermont 7-1-43. Bendigo Bank scoreboard as we cross to Barry Cotts with some more score updates.
Yes, Division 2 scores, and Upper Ferntree Gully 4-3-27 to Mitcham 3-3-21. Lilydale 8-8-56 to Croydon 2-4-16. Bayswater have turned around and now leading. Bayswater 5-11-41 to Mulgrave 4-3-27. Wantirna South 3-8-26 to Park Orchards 3-3-21. And Doncaster East doing it easily 12-12-84 to Mooroolbark 3-2-20.
And Damo, the presence of Zippy King, 4 defenders were more intent on keeping him away from the ball, and when they finally got their hands on it, they got chased down.
Yeah.
Yep. So the kick won by Vermont, but their kick's been chopped off, and it's Cox at the back of the square, working it to Molnar. Molnar hands it off to a runner as they try to work through Tobin, who gives it to his teammate in Mallison, who gets it forward into the pocket. Vermont have got some numbers, but the tackles are flying in by the Dogs. Good forward pressure. Heap of pressure on Purdy now as he picks the ball up, and he's happy to be tackled over the boundary line and out of bounds 40 metres around from the Bulldogs' goal.
They are looking dangerous, South Croydon, not only winning it out of the centre, but also that entry into the forward line. Even though it's not direct, they are putting the Vermont defenders under pressure, and it doesn't have to be direct in these sorts of conditions, because you're not going to get clean ball use anyway.
Well, that's an errant throw in, and Buxton just says to the umpire, we're going to have another go at this, and he says, yes, I will. I'll put the order in. Must have slipped as he's trying to get that extra distance, this boundary umpire. So we've got a bit of a stop in play. King just takes front position. Buxton uses his body well. Then he does the double fister punch. And Anderson does something similar. Only one fist though. And the kick goes long into the forward line.
Well done.
Big spoiling punch by Vermont. But it's in a congested area. And the Dogs are flying the tackles in, hoping to be rewarded with a holding the ball decision. But there's been no prior opportunity. And Vermont under a heap of pressure. Defending their back line here. 16.5 minutes gone. Ball in dispute. It's bobbling around. It's a slippery ball even if you claim it. And Molnar is tackling his opponent down to ground.
So to Barry Cotts.
Yeah, Division 1, Bourne, 10-minute mark, third quarter. Bourne 8-8-56 to North Ringwood 5-9-39.
Closed in.
Buxton wins the tap, but the Dogs will get it through Molnar. High up and under. Only goes 10 metres with 30 up. Comes back down to earth. Left behind. Kick in the pocket. What a
they're
Cooper.
appealing.
It just must have missed, because as soon as Cooper kicked, he put the arms up to celebrate, but it just went over the big stick, and it's a minor score. South Croydon a 7-13-55, leading by 11, 7-1. Well, what are we up to? I'm totally confused.
South Croydon lead by 12 points.
12 points.
And in fact, they lead by 12 behinds.
7-13 to 7-1.
So that's 1 goal for Daniel Cooper today. As the ball comes back in, Ainger the target, set himself and got the fist to it behind Tucker there. So a boundary throw in. 12 behind the margin. South Croydon 20 scoring shots to Vermont's 8, but they only lead by a couple of goals. Boundary throw in. Tucker this time will do the ruck work. Ball fell well short of the two competing ruckmen. McComb's handball was intercepted by King. Kilpatrick over the footy, and Colopy there bundled him up.
Gav and Brad, you've been with the EFL a long time. What's the worst? Which ground did you see the worst conditions? We'll get back to it in another stoppage.
I have a think about that over the many years. Handball was shot out. A lot of players crash in. Schneider fed out the handball. Strong tackle applied. Colopy, his handball backpedaled. Quick kick up towards the wing. Ainger, no mark. And a mark taken there by Shink for the Bulldogs. Tom Shink.
Oh, dangerous.
Measures the kick. Nice one. Got it to
they got
Cass.
space here.
Cass's kick, not his best effort, but Cox led the race, led the charge to the ball, was well wrapped up by Caney. Ball spilled clear. Cass over the footy.
Well done, Mallison, just forcing it forward at will.
A dive in over the ball. No one's able to get a clean possession. Purdy there was wrapped up. There's a Bulldogs player, Mallison it was, who just looked hurt for a second, but he's okay. And it's still 12 points to lead. It's going to be hard to bridge that gap because at the moment there's no clean footy.
No.
Colopy missed the tackle. Quick kick, high up and under kick by Cass. Big pack competing for it. Came off hands, handball spun out.
No.
Fisher, though, steadied for Vermont, gave it to Preto. Preto's neat kick was a good one, and he finds Jake Best on a long lead at halfback.
So Best in transition are Vermont as they go out wide. Looking for the next option at half forward. Long down the line, in good position. Held was Eddie by one arm. His left hand couldn't get towards the right hand when he's trying to mark because Walker had it by his waistline, holding it back. So he got away with one there, Walker. Smart, I suppose.
That was better ball movement, though, from Vermont. Good pass at centre half back. They could have easily blazed away, but waited for the traffic to catch up, and now the ball is on their half of the ground.
It's a 12-point lead for South Croydon. 21 minutes gone in this term. Buxton had an uncontested effort, and his tap just went back to the boundary line, and Walker allows it to go over. So we'll have another go at it. Hopefully this one won't be too short.
Max King playing a kick behind the play instead of contesting in the ruck contest, so he's going to chop.
In front of the play, Damo, they're kicking this way.
Yeah, indeed, in front of the play.
So in terms of Tucker's been using his body well, so he's not... doesn't have shortcomings against Buxton. He wins the tap by good position. Anderson gets taken down in a tackle as it came towards him, and Buxton was on the spot to claim it, but Molnar claimed him. So it'll be ball up 60 metres out from Vermont's goal. And the one-hand hold there by Buxton was very impressive as he handed the ball back to the umpire. And there's a free kick off the ball, and it's Kolopi whose tagging job has been noticed by the second umpire off the ball, but he took hold of Walker. Strange that he'd want to hold Walker off the ball. So it's Walker from half-back, relieving free kick, long driving kick on the grandstand side of Cheong Park. Vermont claim it at ground level. The quick kick goes towards Snyder's. Usually a good grab for his size. Just sort of dives out of its ball trajectory. Now the Dogs will get it off half-back through McDonald, who loads up a long kick and in good position. Nicely marked there by Crowell. So Crowell from the forward line. He just puts the ball into a dangerous centre forward, but it's been chopped off, and Davidson takes the mark, and he's been doing some good work off half-back this term, but this time he gives the job to one of his teammates in Johnson. Johnson out of the outer side pushes a kick.
Downfield free, is it?
Yeah, and it will go to Crocker downfield at half-back.
Yep, Crocker on the wing position. Still a 12-point lead to South Croydon. We haven't had a score for quite some time by either side. High kick by Crocker looking for Ainger and fisted away by McDonald.
As long as I don't have to read the scoreboard out, I've been confused for the last 3 attempts at it.
That's correct now. South Croydon 7-13, 55. Vermont 7-1, 43. So they're right on the money here at Cheong Park on that brilliant electronic scoreboard that's so easy to read in any conditions. Molnar, high handball. Strong tackle, little handball shot out to Best. Best got the handball away, and it will be a free kick to Vermont. Can they work their way back here? Not a great kick though. Marshall set himself for it, got the fist away. Preto overran the ball, goes in hard again. Pongracic did well. Just paddled it out to King. King's handball was pretty effective to Rosier. Rosier tried to scoop it up to Anderson, did it well. Birch throws it on the boot. Birch's kick inside forward 50. Knocked away though. Loose footy. Well done by Jones. Got the handball to Cass. Back to Jones. Matty Jones worked a bit of magic. High up and under. Left foot kick. And a nice mark taken. Coming in from the side there by the big ruckman, Liam Whale Buxton, who switches to the outer side, but it was a dangerous kick. Do they concede the behind here, Vermont? Yes, they do. Tim Johnson wiser heads prevailed. They concede the behind as we cross down to Matt Fodia on the boundary.
Harmon Singh's pretty disappointed then. He wanted Anger to lead up the ground so that Buxton can go down the line. Instead, he had to go across the goal and just got away with it.
Was he angry or was it Anger?
Well, he was... Harmon was very angry at Anger. He was angry at Anger for not leading up.
They've been very good, though, South Croydon, in forcing the ball forward and just persisting. Let's head to Barry Cotts with the score centre.
Yeah, Division 3, Scoresby 13-7-85, lead Warrandyte 4-7-31.
So it's now still in the Dogs area. Boundary throw in 50 metres out. Buxton wins the tap as he got front position. King's at boundary side. He'll pick it up. Just spilled it. I reckon McComb fell to ground. If he could have picked it up, might have had a chance to drive a long kick into the forward line. But it's now 60 metres away from goal for the Dogs. 25 minutes gone in this third term. Good quarter for them. They've added 3 goals, 5, to extend their 2-point halftime lead to 13. King gets in front position, but it rolls off his fist to the back of the pack where the numbers are with Vermont. Preto will pick it up, hands it off to the runner as it's the kick by Davidson is out on the full, and it's now a turnover to kick to Walker, and it was Parker that time who had the kick under a heap of pressure and kicked it out in the full. So it's Walker who'll take it at half back for the Dogs.
Yeah, Dale Walker just in front of his interchange, the Bulldogs interchange area. Walker's high kick. Big contest for it. Angel did pretty well in front position against King. Socket off the ground. Didn't go too far. Good tackle by Best. Buxton fed it out to Preto. Preto's kick tumbles into the path of Angel. Socket off the ground by Alice. Along the deck. This looks promising. Eddie, will the ball stay in? It's a great effort by Brett Eddie. The bounce just
kick it off the ground.
Eluded the goals. What an effort by Brett Eddie. One more metre and it was a goal, but it hit the goal line and then bounced away. So minus score for Vermont. 7 goals 2. That's just their second behind of the day. South Croydon are 7 goals 14 on the Bendigo Bank scoreboard.
And the luck of the bounce, there was 2 Eagles in the goal square, but the defender was able to claim it and rush it behind.
It was good defence too, because it was 1-on-2.
Yeah, so the kick out was marked by Anger, who's going to kick from beyond 50. He's just going to put a ball into a hot spot, and he's going to get there, and he hits him on the top of the chest, and he stormed into the ball and grabbed it in as he dived into it. He's come to ground holding the ball with a mark. 30 metres out from goal, which will be much needed for the Eagles as they close towards three-quarter time. They want to get back to a 6-point deficit.
That was good delivery there from Angel onto the chest of Brett Eddie, because South Croydon had filled many of the holes in their defensive 50, so the kick needed to be precise, and it was.
So what you know with Angel is that if you put a low ball in, and you're going to have a guy like Eddie who knows where to, if he can run into it, he'll take the mark. He's got 3 already. He works the goal umpire, but he'll come back to the middle of the goal square and signal a goal. Goal number 4 for Brett Eddie, and that is goal number 8 for Vermont. 8-2-50, trail by 6 points. South Croydon less goals on the board, but lead by 6, 7-14, 56.
You'd have to say Brett Eddie has done his job already. 4 out of 8 goals in these conditions is a magnificent effort, and he split the middle. And it's harder than it looks to kick the ball straight from that distance when it's wet and it's raining relatively heavily. So Vermont really did need that goal as well. South Croydon had the momentum, set for a good contest.
Let's go to Barry Cotts.
Yeah, three-quarter time, Division 4, Surrey Park, 7-7-49, lead Fair Park, 4-4-28.
Well, 4 goals for Brett Eddie today. That's a great effort. 4 out of 8 goals that the team has kicked. And in these conditions, he's certainly doing his bit for the cause. Socket off the ground. Tackle applied there by Preto, and we will go down to Matt Fodia once more on the boundary.
Yeah, Tom Schneider's gone deep forward here, guys, so he's got a bit of a mismatch. And now he's coming up the ground, but he did go deep forward. He's been doing that for most of the quarter.
No decisive winner in the ruck contest that time. Anderson chisels the kick nicely. Got it to Tobin. Tobin's thumping kick. Inside forward 50. Johnson worked back well. Tim Johnson clearing kick, and he finds Howard. Now Howard, no right foot really for Cam Howard, so he had to sort of just stop and prop then and get onto his left, and he found Crocker. Darcy Crocker.
Bereft of options.
Out on that wing, wants something to kick to. measures the kick and finds Schneider on a long lead. Tom Schneider says, just slow it down, not much time left. The siren, in fact, sounds at that moment. I think he instinctively knew somehow.
So did you.
And South Croydon, 7 goals, 14-56. Lead Vermont, 8 goals to 50. A 6-point lead to the Bulldogs at three-quarter time. In that quarter, South Croydon kicked 3 goals, 5 to Vermont's 3 goals, 1. So it was a great quarter of football to watch, and we are set for an exciting last quarter in this grand final rematch, Damo.
Indeed we are. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you stay tuned to EFL Game Day, the final term of the grand final rematch in Division 1 between South Croydon and Vermont. We're set for yet another great finish. It is South Croydon 7-14-56 leading Vermont 8-2-50 with a quarter to play. We'll be back with the final term and all the around the ground scores right after this.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mum for everything she's done.
My brother's been having a pretty rough time. I'd like to reassure him that it'll be okay.
I'm sorry that it ended up badly and we didn't remain friends.
I was pretty tough on my brother when he was younger, and I'd like to apologise to you now, mate.
It's never too late to apologise, forgive, or say something you've always wanted to say to someone. So reach out and tell a loved one what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
Nothing better than a companion to keep you up to date with all the latest when you're at the footy. Better still, one that fits in your back pocket. The Eastern Footballer is a must-read. All the latest information, team lists, feature articles and much, much more. Pick up your copy this weekend as you love it local across the Eastern Football League.
You've all been to funerals of family members or friends, right? Do you start thinking about what you would want at your funeral? It's a bit like when you go to a wedding.
Yeah,
that's right. At what stage do you start planning?
Have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones. Celebrate your life the way you want, like I did with a fixed price funeral plan from Tobin Brothers Funerals. The price doesn't change and your life will be celebrated your way. Find out more at tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
EFL.org.au is the place to be online for all the latest on the Eastern Football League. Keep up to date by checking out the latest news and feature articles. Have your say in the EFL poll. Check out all the latest EFL videos, and best of all, you can listen back to any EFL radio program at any time. Head to EFL.org.au. The Eastern Football League. Local footy at its best.
Hello, I'm Peter Hitchener. 9 News invites you to join our team nightly at 6 for Melbourne's #1 news. Tony Jones with the latest sport, including the footy, plus Lavinia Nixon's weather forecast. 9 News, proud supporter of the Eastern Football League.
Program sponsor.
The EFL is all you love about football. Standing in the outer with your mates, kick to kick on the ground with the kids, always a family-friendly atmosphere. Don't miss a moment every weekend across the eastern suburbs. The Eastern Football League is local footy at its best. For more information, jump onto efl.org.au or search Footy EFL on Facebook or Twitter.
I'd love to make more time for my loved ones because they really deserve as much help as I can give them.
Because they mean the world to me.
Because eventually they won't be around anymore.
Because I don't want to miss out on watching my brothers grow.
To show them that I value them.
I don't want to regret later on just being too busy.
Apparently a very common regret is that people feel like they didn't make enough time for loved ones.
Tell those you love what they mean to you. Visit tobinbrothers.com.au. Tobin Brothers Funerals, celebrating lives.
Program sponsor.
EFL Saturday Game Day continues. Let's head back and go local for your footy.
Radio Eastern 98.1, Barry Cots here in the Score Centre. It's three-quarter time here at Cheon Park in South Croydon, and it's a close game indeed in this wet weather. And at three-quarter time, it's South Croydon 7-14-56 to Vermont 8-2-50. Let's check some updated scores. Division 1, Bourne and North Ringwood. Bourne 8-11-59 to North Ringwood 6-11-47.
I can update you there. North Ringwood have kicked another one. They're only 4 points adrift at Bourne.
Okay. Blackburn and Rowville. Blackburn 7-1-43 to Rowville 3-2-20. In Division 2, Doncaster East 12-12-84 to Murrelbark 5-4-34. Bayswater 9-15-69 ahead of Mulgrave 6-4-40, so they've come back. And in Division 4, we've got some scores. Surrey Park 7-7-49 to Fair Park 4-4-28. And a very close game indeed between Sylvan and Kilsyth. It's only 1 point difference. Sylvan 9-7-61 to Kilsyth 9-6-60. And with that, we're across to 9 News. And good afternoon. Are you there? Corey, you there? Are you there?
That's right.
Oh, there. Sorry, there we lost you a bit. How are you this wet Saturday afternoon in Melbourne? Go ahead.
Oh, good afternoon, guys. How are we?
Not bad. Sorry. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Look, just keep an eye on this Hawks game against the Suns down in Launceston. And the Hawks, well, they're cruising to victory, 40 points up in the final term over the Suns, whose season, well, continues to go from bad to worse. For the Hawks, they will jump back into the top 8. Ed and Woolley will have those highlights, or maybe we should call them lowlights, at 9 News at 6 tonight. Also in 9 News, a pizza delivery man left terrified, caught up in a shooting that left a 37-year-old man injured at a St Albans home. 2 gunmen remain on the run. A $2 million illegal tobacco bust at Melbourne Airport leads to the arrest of 6 people. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage after a yacht catches fire near Sydney. A second man charged over the alleged abduction and rape of a woman in Carlton. And Anthony Albanese calls on Labor to engage with big business, a statement which is at odds with leader Bill Short. And that's all coming up tonight at 9 News at 6 o'clock with Alicia Loxley.
Thanks very much, Corey. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, guys.
So there you have it. 9 News at 6 tonight. Boundary.
Let's head to Matt Fodia.
Hey guys, just came over from the Vermont huddle. They're loving the challenge. This is what they wanted. They wanted a tough finals-like game. Colopy's gone forward to apply more forward pressure. They need to give Andrew Preto more support in the midfield. Wet weather footy, they'll be looking to go. They'll just keep moving the ball forward and be a bit more direct. And they've been pretty poor at ground level, so expect their forwards on the ground level to get more of the footy.
Well, it was Molnar and Cox sharing the ball then, and the kick came out to Pongracic. High, long kick by Pongracic. Big fly from Fisher. Did well. Preto, who was excellent in that third quarter, I thought, in the tough conditions. And he dives over the footy, and it will be a ball up. He's got the long sleeves on, Andrew Preto. He's found it hard to force his way into this Vermont side this season, but I think he's done a fine job today. Tucker won the ruck, hit out. Quick kick came out of the pack, but it was nicely marked there by Molnar. So Nick Molnar.
Is he a chance from here?
Probably not with the... probably not, I'd say, Damo. I reckon he'll probably put it right to the square. You can see how many players... if you're at the ground, you can see how many players are in that goal square waiting for it. He'll give it his best. Strained for the extra distance. Molnar gives it all he's got. It will fall a few metres short and easily picked off then by the Vermont defenders. Fisted away, and it did sneak through for a behind then, so rush behind. 7-point lead to South Croydon.
Could be a handy point. And just a reminder, Vermont, up until today, in neither of their under-19 seniors or reserves had lost a game up until this season. The reserves lost today, and Vermont currently behind by 7 points, so it could be an omen.
Davidson, long kick out, goes all the way outside his defensive 50, and the Bulldogs punch it just to keep their territorial advantage. So coming over the top was Shink, as Angel was at the marking contest.
You get a sense goals will be at a premium, so territorial advantage is the key.
Buxton wins the tap down, but Molnar was there, but McComb robs him. Buxton has to help out with a quick kick out of that congested area, puts it towards the boundary line, towards the wing, and it's been escorted over. Crowell doing the good work, getting in good position. And it's going to be a ball up. More centre wing now here at Cheong Park. 2 minutes gone in this fourth term. It's South Croydon 7-15-57, leading Vermont 8-2-50. 7-point lead to the Dogs, the Premiers, for 2017. Jones got tackled and hand passed it out towards the boundary, but it's still a contested ball and it still hasn't gone over. And the umpire sees as the players slide in a free kick which will go the way of Schneider. And he picks himself up. He's ginger all over from being pretty much trodden on as he claimed the ball at ground level. So from the boundary line, he puts a very stiff kick towards the middle of the ground. Still on the wing, just outside the square. And it'll be a handed over ball as the pack seems to be following the ball a bit now.
There's a blood rule, it seems. The umpire's called for it.
And it's Buxton, so it's going to affect the ruck duties, unfortunately, for Vermont. And we're going to have a stop. So Pongracic was in the contest then when got tackled. So it's interesting who we say the best players on the ground are in terms of both teams. We'll get thoughts on that now. Angel has to do the ruck duty. Coming over the top was Tucker. Pushes him out of the way. Rucks. McComb takes the kick. Gets it towards centre half forward. No possession claim. Now it's in hands of Cox. Cox dribbles the ball towards Rosario. On the bounce, he picks it up. And he hand passes back to Dan King. Dan King it's taken in a big tackle there by McCafferty. And the umpire say, give it to me. No prior opportunity for King to get out of that tackle with possession. So it's ball up, just forward of the centre circle as the Dogs go forward. McComb might get the ball that comes out of that pack situation. He fires a hand pass out. Can Preto run onto it? He's got time now to steady. Puts a long kick into the pocket. Well, Eddie nearly marks it, but he drops it onto the hands of his teammate in Colopi. Gets the ball towards Snyder, but at the back of the pack, can Vermont hold their feet as the ball goes towards goal? It's a contest for the ball. Flying kick out of the pack. It's all Dogs, though, in the last line of defence. And it's going to be Tucker handing it off to a teammate. Now the long kick out of the fence. Finds Cass. Cass at half back is quick to play on because he's got another player there up in the ground. Tucker. So it's Tucker.
Yep.
And Tucker from half back will load up to half forward. King's getting underneath it. Well, this time it was Birch, and he was put off the ball by Fisher, who takes it over the boundary line.
Oh, gee, that was steadfast defence there from South Croydon. It was a good pick-up from Preto to deliver it inside 50 for Vermont, because it's important to remain composed in that situation, and it can be very difficult when the game's on the line. But South Croydon's defence there, they just stood up and prevented any scoring.
Boundary throw in, Tucker. Knocked it further forward and once again over the boundary line, and the lights are on here at Cheong Park. It is unbelievably dark. We're only 5 minutes into the final quarter, so you...
just after 4 p.m. local time.
You can imagine how dark it'll be by the end of this quarter. Barry Cotts.
Yeah, Division 1, and it's Doncaster trailing Norwood. Norwood, 7-5-47 to Doncaster, 8-12-60.
Johnson worked his way back nicely. Got some help there. Tackled by Birch. Rosier tried to push his opponent off the footy. Purdy with the handball, but there's a free kick. And it's going to the zippy one, Michael King. And he hasn't had many opportunities today, but when he has had them, he's made good on them. 2 goals for the afternoon. And he was just held on to a bit long then by his opposite number, Tim Johnson. So King, you back him in, has great goal sense. And just hung it out way to the left, and he tried to will it to come back, but it was never going to be able to come back that far. Minus score, South Croydon 7 goals 16. Vermont 8 goals 2. It's still an 8-point lead to the inaccurate Bulldogs.
Yeah, next time you give me a tip, Brad, I'm not taking it to the racetrack.
You think King should have taken a bit longer? It was a very short run-up.
He just didn't kick straight. That's his problem in that one. As Vermont work it out to Parker on the outer side. Nice short pass. Young drops it. Allows the Dogs to come in. So now it's a disputed ball at half forward for the Bulldogs. Can they get clear possession? Jones running in congestion, wheels himself out, finds his teammate at the middle of the ground in McDonald, who's wrapped up with like a mummy there. Got a bit of bandaging underneath it there. Couldn't take the mark was Cooper, but he's good at ground level just to keep the momentum going. Rosier picks it up, hands it off to a teammate. Flying shot from Mellison. Hits the post from 40. It was a hopeful effort. Hang in the air, and it hits the right post for a minor score. The Dogs are peppering without goaling. 7-17-59. Lead by 9 points as Vermont are 8-2-50.
Gee, if they lose this game, South Croydon, you put it down to inaccurate kicking. 7-17.
More scores from the score centre with Barry Cotts.
Yes, Finsbury Gully 7-12-45, Leith Heapmont 7-9-45, and East Burwood trail Glen Waverley Hawks. Glen Waverley Hawks 7-10-52, East Burwood 5-9-39.
Cooper's shot at goal fires away, but he's off target. Minor score. 1 goal 5 for the day for Daniel Cooper. So he's probably the best example of the nature of their inaccurate kicking. Let's go back to Barry.
Yeah, Division 1, East Ringwood 10-7-67 to Noble Park 7-5-47.
Davidson to bring the ball back in for Vermont. Just kicks it to himself, gains a couple of metres, and then banks it to half back. Crowd did really well against Crocker. Just worked him out of the contest. And James Crow takes the mark and launches the ball forward. Fisher for Vermont worked his way back. Big fist, and he should be paid the mark there.
Yeah, has to be.
Even he didn't realise.
He got the first hands on it with the fist and then completed the mark. Goes short to Wadley. Wadley's kick hugging the boundary,
Well done.
and he finds Ainger, who has been the best big man on the ground, I reckon, just about today. Terrific game by him. It was a dangerous kick.
Oh, yeah, chopping of the arms.
I thought he'd bit off more than he could chew then.
And
but
25.
Purdy got interfered with, and now he's got a 25-metre penalty as well. Cam Purdy.
Yeah, it was probably there. Good decision by the umpire.
Well, Dan King came from the front as well, so to spoil.
Former East Ringwood swingman, Cam Purdy, launches it forward.
Oof.
Big pack competing. No one took the mark. Knocked along the ground there by Crowell. Found the sanctity of the boundary line. And it'll be a throw in.
The man in front of our box slipping down the hill. Sorry, Brad. And he spilled some of his drink, so poor bugger.
Didn't see that. I missed it. Boundary throw in. Little handball was shot out. Into the path of Best. Was well tackled by Mallison.
Well done,
Ball
South
spills
Croydon.
clear. It was great hustle shown by the Bulldogs. Little handball by Young to Staples. Preto off his non-dominant side. I think it's fair to say he hasn't got much of a right foot, Andrew Preto. And his kick found the boundary, but it wasn't intended, Gav.
It's just there for aesthetics and balance.
That's it.
It reminds me of Mick McGuan trying to kick the ball when he had injections in his foot.
So it's a boundary throw in. We've had a few of them today. The Dogs win out. High up and under kick. Will be the contest flying at it. Davidson couldn't take it on the chest mark. And a big pack surrounds it now.
Good smother.
No kick forward by Rosier as the smother flies in. Now Vermont get the forward through McComb, but his kick wasn't directed to anyone in particular, and the defence will hold up. So it was Marshall. Now they get out to the outer side. They've got some runners. Jones now on the wing. Doesn't waste time as he goes towards King. Zippy King.
Oh,
go for home.
He'll go for goal from 45. He puts in a Mungle punt. No! Beautifully done by Cooper with the flight of the ball. Kept his eyes on it. Took the mark and gets back to Rosier in a better angle from 30 metres out. He'll have a 30-degree angle. So kicks Mungle punt. Cooper was the only one to read it. And he quickly plays on for better position at the goals.
Oh, gee, well, King did have the opportunity to go alone, but that was a good spot up. And as a result, Rosier at a better angle, 45 degrees. Gee, you wouldn't say lights out if he kicks it, but it will make it very, very difficult for Vermont if he can convert.
It's definitely lights on here at Cheong Park as it's very dark conditions. And Rosier, could this be... Well, I won't even talk about Sealers. Let's go for goal. They've kicked 7-18, 7-19, just as it made the distance from 30, just. And now South Croydon, 7-19, 61, 11-point lead over Vermont, 8-2-50, 11 minutes gone, final term.
Davidson to bring the ball back in. Incredibly dark now at Cheong Park. Davidson to half back, big pack under it. Ellis stripped to the footy. Paddled towards the line. Crowell. He was stripped of the ball then by Wadley. And it'll be a boundary throw in.
Well, Vermont just need to keep willing it forward. I think useful skill level probably isn't going to be the way to go in these conditions. So it's just a matter of persistence in and around the clinches.
King won the tap down. Best stripped to the footy. Strong tackle by Wadley on Anderson. He was going nowhere, Frank Anderson.
Just get the sense Brett Eddy will be the barometer. He's kicked 4 goals. He's been one-on-one inside 50. Let's head to Barry Cotts in the score centre.
Yeah, three-quarter time, Division 1 and Blackburn and Roval. Roval 10-4, 64 to Blackburn 5-5, 35.
Fisher against Cooper. Fisher worked back nicely. Doesn't take the mark, but keeps the ball in front of himself.
Well done.
Did really well. Paddled it to Schneider. McCafferty. Davidson to Preto, stripped to the ball, great tackle, ball spilled clear to Jones, high kick by Matty Jones, it's all Vermont back there though. Fisher dives in the back of his opponent and the umpire was right on the scene.
Yeah, good decision.
Said that was okay, or maybe he was a little bit blindsided. In any case, it will be a ball up.
No, he shook his head, he said it was not. So
No,
he
I
saw
don't
it clearly.
think it was in the back.
Umpire tosses it up. Max King won the tap, tried to palm it down to Jones. Molnar was there over the footy. Loves it on the bottom of the pack, Nick Molnar. Let's go down to Matt Fodia on the boundary.
Dogs have got Corral and Tucker a kick behind the play.
Tap one down by Max King. Rosier gave it to Anderson. Anderson has time.
No.
Fires at the goals, but he can't quite manage it. He's kicked one today. This time he was off target. South Croydon keep peppering. 7 goals 20 to Vermont, 8 goals 2. It's a 12-point lead to the Bulldogs.
Handy point.
So the kick out was not a good one, and it's seized upon by the Dogs, but it was a rush kick at goal for Mallison, and Mallison misses to the left side. The kick in was cute in these conditions, and in between 3 Vermont Eagles, Mallison intercepts but misses.
And score check, Wantirna's Pioneers. The Pioneers 14-6-90, the Coldstream 9-8-62, and three-quarter time scores be 14-9-93 to Warrandyte 4-8-32.
Davidson's long kick went straight down the middle. They need a quick one here, Vermont. King stripped of the ball. Caney, little handball to Ainger. And the ball there held to Andrew Ainger, and he felt a bit of a knee in the back, I think, on the ground there, but the umpire to ball it up.
They'll be pretty content at the moment, South Croydon. As long as they just don't concede, they'll be okay.
Pye throws it up. A lot of holding on. Rosier, I think, will get the free kick here. And that's Tucker there strong-arming his way out of the tackle.
It's a reversal.
Oh,
and 25.
Well, I don't like the 25 because how did South Croydon know it was a turnover within a millisecond?
Yeah, I don't even like the reversal because the Schneider there was holding on to Tucker, kept holding on to him, and after the free kick had already been paid. So anyway, play goes on. It's deep in the forward line. Deep in the Vermont forward line now. Strong tackle then by Walker and also by Anderson, and they force a ball up.
They just had clean possession. They had a couple of free players over the top of the goal square. Now it's pretty congested.
Yeah, massive number of players deep in the defence there. Shink with the kick. Fisher got a touch to it, knocked further backwards. Chance here for McCafferty. How did he get rid of that ball? The fan said it was holding the ball. Incorrect disposal.
1-on-1.
Rosier's high kick looking for Birch. Pushed off the footy. King tries to swoop on the ball. Young for Vermont showed good poise, although his kick was poor, and it finds the boundary line. I don't think it was deliberate. It couldn't be. Skill error. Some umpires would pay. You can laugh, but some umpires would pay that for deliberate, but it was a skill error by Charlie Young.
You couldn't mean to kick that badly, seriously.
Boundary throw in. And last throw of the dice, you think, almost for Vermont, because they need 3 goals now, and we're coming up to 16 minutes gone in this last quarter. Ball slipped through the hands of Best. Best dives on the footy. Kilpatrick got a high one maybe from Davidson. No, free kick. Purdy, good strong tackle by Kilpatrick again. And Pongracic it was there with the tackle. So another ball up.
King wins the tap out. Max King. It's at ground level. Jones got it, but he's tackled. Now he's got some help.
There he goes.
Big opportunity for King. He runs around him. He took about 20 metres, but everyone knew if King can get around his opponent, it's Rosier, was it? Rosier kicking the goal from goal square. He was in the pocket, ran towards the only defender who was stagnant in amazement that he just ran around him, and Rosier gets the goal. So South Croydon are 8:21.69, leading Vermont 8-2-50 at the 17-minute mark of this final term.
Well, you get the sense that's the ball game, and Rosier atoning for that misset shot earlier. And really, it's going to be very difficult for Vermont now. 19 points in these conditions. It'd be almost curtains.
Well, that was a massive goal for South Croydon. 19 points to lead now. And Vermont, they haven't haven't scored in this last quarter, as a matter of fact, in 17 minutes. So needs to start now. McCafferty fed it out to Tim Johnson. Johnson steadies, kicks it back in board, but a nice mark by Shink. And Tom Shink, one of those unfashionable defenders, but he's pretty reliable. Goes down the line. Not a great kick. Parker was in the box seat. Came off hands to Cass for the Bulldogs.
King.
Cass's kick was a beauty for Big Max King. Bounced off his chest. Fisher shared it with Davidson. Davidson's clearing kick to centre half forward. Ellis bumped off the footy by Shink. That was good use of the body. Eddie throws it on the boot. Can he kick goal number 5? No, the ball trickles across the boundary line in the forward pocket for a throw-in.
Well, at least it's deep in attack, but the Vermont players on that occasion probably didn't read the play at their best opportunity. They still have a chance to score here. I just think it's a bridge too far. Barry Cotts.
Yeah, quickly in Division 3, Heathmont are coming back. It's only 3 points. 3 points the difference. Ferntree Gully 54, Heathmont 51.
Wow.
Tucker from back position does win the tap down, so at ground level the Dogs do a clearing kick, but it's still inside 50. Kick off the ground, gets it out of the area for the Dogs, and now big booming kick. No one home for the Bulldogs, so first one in defence. Again, it's to Johnson. Says Preto picked it up, and that's encroachment by Pongracic as he just ran over the mark, but Johnson wasn't going anywhere yet. So it's going to be a 25. Quick play on from Vermont. Nice pass. It's into the hands of Best. Best is knowing he wants quick movement. Kicks it long as he can. Who's he got up the forward line? Angers in the area. Young at ground level. McComb picks it up in the pack. He quickly kicks it towards the goal. It's bouncing and missing to the left side for a minor score. Vermont closed the gap to 18 points. 8-3-51, trailing South Croydon, who are 8-21-69 at the 19-minute mark of the final term.
Vermont's first score for the quarter.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, that's for sure. As the kick comes to the outer side. Big pack camped under it. Cox sharked the pack nicely. Got it to Cass. Birch. Chain of handballs. Finishes up with Liam Cox.
Well done.
Clever inboard kick to Molnar. They just seem to be finishing off, full of running.
Well
the Bulldogs
done.
here. Cooper drops the mark. Soccer's off the ground. Lot of holding on. Gee, seemed to be held without it then by McCafferty. Thought it was almost a professional free then from McCafferty just to stop the certain goal. But he got away with it, and it will be a ball up in the goal square. And Daniel Cooper cannot believe that he hasn't got the free kick there.
Neither can the fans in the kennel.
So everyone arrives on the scene now. Umpire throws it up. Deep in the heart of the South Croydon forward line. Paddled towards the line there by Parker. And despite his heroics today, hasn't been quite able to inspire Vermont to a win, it would seem. They're 18 points down, headed for their first senior loss of the season. Barry Cotts.
Yeah, halfway through the last quarter, and it's Roval 10-6-66 leading Blackburn 7-7-49.
So the Dogs just looking for that sealer if they need one. It's King in a lot of congestion. His kick is smothered, so it goes into the heart of the defence for the Vermont, and Staples couldn't get his clearing kick out as that was smothered. So it's still only 30 metres out from the goals for the Bulldogs, and they're tackling hard as I think they realise they're going to inflict the first senior loss for Vermont in 2018, and it's going to be on the back of winning the premiership last year. What a great moment for the South Croydon Football Club in September last year. But maybe they're a better side this year.
Probably have the psychological edge too, don't you think, Gav?
Well, I think the conditions are a different story, but yeah, it's only compounding that day. And if they can go in September, they'll have full belief that they can win on the day. Anderson tries to get on the end of the punch down, but he won't beat the boundary. And it's now a throw in from 70 metres out from South Croydon's goal. It's no good Vermont just getting territory and getting it further upfield. They need to open it up and get a shot at goal soon. McComb can't do the roving, slips through his hands. Molnar's at ground level. Now it's worked into McDonald, who's wrapped up. His head's wrapped up with bandages, so you can certainly notice him as he dribbles a kick, gets it back towards the forward 50, but it's out of bounds once again.
I think the main feature and attribute of South Croydon's win today has been their tackling pressure. We noticed that they've played more free-flowing football this season, but they've almost harked back to their grand final victory last year and just been more physical.
McComb's quick kick. Straight to the boundary line and over, and Vermont they certainly don't look like it at the moment. 18 points the margin, just one behind in this final quarter. South Croydon have kicked 1 goal, 7 for the term. Quick kick, Anderson, who's really stood tall in this last term, got a high tackle from McCafferty. No free kick paid there to Frank Anderson. In fact, it's gone the other way.
It was Molnar on McCafferty. the free kick.
Connor McCafferty, the recipient of the free kick. Taking a fair bit of time here. They need to move it on pretty quickly, you'd think. Ainger set himself, fisted towards the line there. Wadley can't keep the ball in play. And over the boundary line to Barry Cotts.
Yeah, halfway through the last quarter, and it's Bourne by 18 points. Bourne 79 and to 61.
It's against North Ringwood.
North Ringwood, correct.
So boundary throw in. King and Buxton continue their battle. Little handball shot out then to Parker.
Throw.
Free kick was paid for a throw, and it will go the way of the Bulldogs. So nothing working out at the moment for Vermont. And Dan King, in his long sleeves, as he always seems to be, will just take his full allotment of time here. Seconds are precious. This is a pretty similar scoreline, I guess, to that grand final last year. Not. I think they kept Vermont to with a score in the 50s in that game. As it's fisted over the line by Fisher. He's stood tall in defence, but South Croydon at the moment they're looking good. 18 points in front.
Well, 8 goals, 21. You just have the suggestion they could have won by more if they were a bit cleaner, but the conditions probably have an allowance in the sense that it is difficult to get the ball through the big sticks in the rain like this.
Yeah, I think they've missed a few gettable ones, but it hasn't been like they've missed really easy shots.
No.
So it's more been a product of the conditions and the pressure of Vermont. But in any case, they've been by far the better team today. Fisher's long kick deep into the forward line. Came off hands. Chance there for Colopy. Had it spent before he'd got rid of it. Pongracic. Clearing kick, and he finds Cass on a long lead. And the Bulldogs, once again, Gav, will just steady things down.
So it's Cash who'll just get it towards Birch, who just slides in on his knees, tries to take it in on his chest, but it bounces off and goes out of bounds. But he'll be content with his day as we tick past 25 minutes in this final term. I reckon that hit up, lead up, forward, Birch is a good option for South Croydon. Gets him out of a lot of trouble if he can provide a contest. So King wins the tap down, but it's Snyder picking it off. Hands it off to a teammate, gets it back, but he'll have to prop before they play on. Howard was involved with Alice. Kick around the corner quickly inside 50 for Vermont, but they're being swarmed upon. They might claim it, but they get tackled as soon as they do so. And it's the umpire saying, yep, I'm going to have to ball that up now. 30 metres out from Vermont's goal. It's an 18-point game. South Croydon have had 18 more shots, though, at goal today. So they're well deserved of their victory to come only in a few moments' time. Another ball up as the ball went forward for Vermont, but they can't claim possession. McDonald will hand it back to the umpire.
Great defence all day too for South Croydon, with the exception maybe of Eddie. They haven't allowed too many goals through.
So the kick off the ground for the Dogs, charging through. Now it comes out to the Eagles will have a shot towards full forward, but the defence again for the Dogs is good. Slapped out defensive spoil. Goes all the way over the line, and it was close to the boundary line, and it's been handed over back to the boundary umpire. Let's get some scores around the ground at the Eastern Footy League.
Yeah, Division 4 final score was Surrey Park 11-11-77 have defeated Fair Park 5-6-36.
It's probably the end of Fair Park season almost.
You would think so, as Anderson, strong tackle once again on Preto, and dying stages of this one. You wouldn't think there'd be it won't be a long quarter as Fisher races in, tries to get a quick consolation goal. Was well smothered though, and the Bulldogs at the moment, they can do no wrong. That was looking like a goal for certain, but some great work in defence there by South Croydon. So the margin remains 18 points. Umpire tosses it up, and you think they'd force a behind here some way, somehow. That's exactly what they've done. So a minus score then to Vermont. 8 goals 4 to South Croydon, 8 goals 21, a 17 behind margin, 17 points to the margin, the way of South Croydon. As the kick comes out of defence to half back, massive pack under it, over the back. McCafferty calls for it, then fumbled it. Birch socketed off the ground to Kilpatrick. Liked his game today, went short to Cooper. Cooper's handball to Cass. Cass runs in. Lovely kick. Will it get the desired bounce? No, it won't. Across the face of goal. And Jaden Cass 2 behinds for the day for him. South Croydon 8 goals 22, Vermont 8 goals 52.
There was one guy running gunshot there. If they played a bit of overlap, they might have run into an open goal there, the Dogs, but I think they've had the energy sapped and it's almost game over as the kick out finds Howard on the outer side, who just drives it along as possible. Angel gets underneath it, and there is the siren. Some validation or another reaffirmation of the Bulldogs, how good they are. The premiers for 2017 have won the rematch and have defeated Vermont in round 10. It's South Croydon 8-22-70, defeating Vermont 8-4-52, and that was or is the Eagles' first loss of the year.
Yes, both for the reserves and the seniors for Vermont going down today for the first time this season in 2018. And South Croydon, the reigning premiers, have inflicted another surprise defeat on Vermont, it must be said, this afternoon. Just recapping that final score, South Croydon 8-22-70, defeating Vermont 8-4-52. Brad Henderson, you have some of the goal kickers there.
Yeah, absolutely, Damo. And today we'll start off with South Croydon. Rosier kicked 2. Michael King, the zippy one, kicked 2 goals as well. 1 each to Tucker, Cooper, Jones and Anderson. And for Vermont, obviously 8 goals were kicked. Brett Eddy kicked 4 of those. 1 each. Darcy Crocker kicked 2. And also goals to Tom Schneider and Connor McCafferty. 8 goals for both sides, but it was those 18 behinds extra that South Croydon kicked that was the difference.
And it really was that final term in the end where South Croydon broke away. It was relatively even throughout most of the afternoon. I think South Croydon probably had their noses in front in most stages of the game. And aside from Brett Eddy up forward, I think Vermont were bereft of targets. I think Best probably didn't go and place his imprimatur on the game as much as we've seen so far this season. They had a number of players missing. I think Liam Buxton was defeated in the ruck against Big Maxi King, so they didn't have that normal domination throughout the middle with the centre clearances, and as a result South Croydon capitalised on the scoreboard. So a great victory, and they'd be very satisfied. I think that supporter base, that very loyal supporter base here at the Kennel, will be very, very pleased with their side's performance. Maybe not having the same party as they did at the end of grand final day last year, but there'll be some adulation, that's for sure, amongst the South Croydon supporters this afternoon in the wet, in the dark, and they'll be very, very satisfied. Vermont will be licking their wounds. Gav Casey, where do you think the game was won?
I think South Croydon had an even spread of contributors, and they're the 1%ers, their pressure acts.
Tackling was very good today, I think.
It was enormous because they only conceded 12 scores when they could have easily rushed or had scores against them. They smothered a lot of balls, hands in. The tackle that held the ball in the contest or released it to one of their own defenders. All those small acts what makes this South Croydon team great. They might zip away from the contest with speed, and they might have, those passages of play where they light it up. But it's the small pressure acts around the ground that every single one of them contributes is the reason why they are the premiers, and they defeated Vermont again today.
Yes, and as obviously you can see Dan King, if you're watching the live stream, leading the team off the ground to the applause and the plaudits of their supporters. And we'll hear the song very shortly, but the Bulldogs, just recapping, defeating Vermont, inflicting Vermont's first defeat of the senior season for 2018, and all of a sudden their invincibility is not necessarily present at the moment. There are some challenges to that top spot that Vermont hold at the moment in Division 1. So South Croydon, 3-goal winners, will try and capture their song from the rooms. Matty Fodia will be down there, and the Bulldogs will be singing that song in full gusto, that's for sure, amongst their supporters. We probably can't get a reading on it, but it was certainly a satisfying victory as far as South Croydon is concerned. And I think where to from here is probably the discussion we had. I think Vermont, even though they'll be disappointed with their game this afternoon, I mean, they are a top spot for a reason, and I guess it is conceivable that they could have a loss this season, whereas South Croydon will take a lot of confidence and adulation into the rest of their season, and they suddenly have that belief once again that they can defeat Vermont come finals time. I think it's fair to say, and so we can hear this South Croydon song in the background. Matt Fodier is down their boundary side. He'll grab some interviews as the afternoon wears on, and you can hear the cheers all the way from the South Croydon rooms this afternoon. They played in front of a big crowd, and it's very dark conditions down here, but they'll be lapping it up, the South Croydon supporters. Where do you think South Croydon will go this season? I mean, they were trying to compete for that second spot, Brad. Doncaster, of course, challenging as well. Rowville with a potential victory over Blackburn today. That suddenly throws the cat amongst the pigeons, and I think South Croydon will be challenging Vermont because at least, unlike those other sides in the top 5, they have claimed the scalp of Vermont, and none of those other sides have this season.
Oh, I think now, like the least they're wanting double chance, but really there's no reason why they can't finish on top. They've beaten Vermont today, so they've shown they can do that. Vermont, we now know they are beatable. Up to this point, they haven't been this season, but they weren't all that impressive today in that loss. I mean, as we've mentioned a number of times, the margin really could have been a lot more. So I think South Croydon, absolute top double chance has got to be the minimum, and then top spot obviously would be even better.
Indeed, and Gav, I mean, as far as Vermont is concerned, probably the one bit of solace they can take is that in springtime we're probably not going to face the wet conditions that we did today, and perhaps that is maybe a vulnerable point for Vermont. They may not like and may not thrive in the wet conditions that we saw today, because they were beaten around the football as far as the tackling and ferocity was concerned in and under in the scrimmages.
I actually think they had some of the best contributors on the field, but the spread of good players was very limited, and the spread of the football away from the contest and the impact points was very limited. I think they were not able to run away from a contest. They were corralled even when they did get open, and I think the Bulldogs, their ability not only just to get to a contest but to get numbers to it is what defeated Vermont. I think physically Vermont never were able to clear it out of congestion efficiently as they usually do. I think on a dry weather day they might have the skills to hold onto the ball and then reload. But today, because the ball was just bundled forward haphazardly at times, it went to the next contest. And I think the fact that South Croydon were winning most of those contests, it meant that it played into their hands today. In dry conditions, it could be a different game. But the Bulldogs had 18 more shots. So that means they're getting the ball forward a lot and they're creating chances. Maybe they would have had more easier looks at goal if the conditions were much more. I think in that second quarter, when they started to get on top, it was dry and they hit up some targets. They
were able to deliver really to Brett Eddy, who could take those marks out in front, and he had the space to lead into, whereas it wasn't as congested in that second term. So he had the opportunity to lead into space, and as a result, had the opportunity to convert.
Yeah, I think Vermont like to play with an open forward line, and the Bulldogs like to have numbers at everywhere they go. But when the Bulldogs get it flowing, I think they generally took control. But around the contest, they were still very strong, weren't they?
They were, and I think the Bulldogs, not only were they strong around the contest, they probably had a better capacity compared to Vermont to find space on the outer side, and as a result, they had a more direct path to goal. And I think we saw that right throughout the 4 quarters, and that was probably one of the assets they had, particularly early on when there were plenty of scrimmages. A lot of the time, the ball was moved forward and transitioned forward on the counter attack, and that's where South Croydon punished Vermont in that game. And as you can see, 22 behinds in the end, 30 scoring shots to 12. That certainly bodes well for South Croydon, because they had a lot more scoring shots, more than double the scoring shots of Vermont, which we haven't seen this season.
I think also what panics opposition is the diversity of options that the Bulldogs can create. You've got Tucker that can go into the ruck so he can get his hands on it, but he's also a forward marker. They've also got the same thing can be said about Max King. If he's not rucking, he's in the goal square. And players like Rosier and King, that being Michael King, they can work off those tool options. So in terms of dynamic options, and then you've got guys like Jones and Anderson. If they get the ball in open spaces off half back, it's exciting what the possibilities are, because the defence are scrambling and they don't know who to man up against. So I think the Bulldogs, having the ability to stretch them in height and at ground level, is fantastic.
I thought Max King won the ruck contest quite comfortably over Liam Buxton, and we know how much of a barometer Buxton is for Vermont, particularly in the big games. And not only was Max King very competitive in the ruck and won that duel, but he managed to find space and present a marking could feed off in other areas of the ground. And I think that was very, very crucial, particularly in the second half.
I think Buxton was a disservice to him that he was the one buttering up his own ruck contest a lot of the time. McComb was trying to get under his feet, and he did some nice things in terms of getting his hands on the ball.
I thought Schneider was okay too as a small midfielder.
I think Vermont like to get that one hand out of that congestion so they can create the space where Schneider and Parker, if they can step away from that initial impact. But I don't think Buxton was able to clear that initial ruck contest, and he was actually getting involved 2 or 3 efforts, and that was very tiring for him because Ainger not often went into the ruck. So I think having King, Tucker and various options go against him, it was a very tiring day for him.
That's it, and it probably impacted upon the centre clearances as well, because South Croydon, particularly after half-time, it'll be interesting to see the stats, of course, but they seem to win the centre clearances more and win it out of the middle on more occasions, whereas Vermont, you often saw that the attacks that they had involved rappelling off that half-back line and trying to find an avenue to goal either through the corridor or utilising the outer wing. So I think Vermont was stifled in their opportunities as far as the transition to attack was concerned. Barry Cotts is just collating some of the around-the-ground scores. Have we got some final scores that have come through, Baz?
Yes, they're slowly drifting through. Let's start with Division 1 and Norwood and Doncaster. In the end, Doncaster came away with the win. Doncaster 9-16-70 to Norwood 7-5-47. Balwyn won over North Ringwood. Balwyn 12-14-86 to North Ringwood 10-14-74.
They were challenged.
They were indeed. East Ringwood were winners today. East Ringwood 14-10-94 to Noble Park 9-9-63.
That's going to look bad on. That's probably the end of Noble Park season then.
You would think so. And Rowville 10-8-68 to Blackburn 7-8-50. Division 2. Doncaster East easily won today. Doncaster East 16-16, 112 to Mooroolbark 5-8-38. And Bayswater came over the top of Mulgrave in the end. Bayswater 13-18-86 to Mulgrave 7-6-48. Division 3, Ringwood were winners today. 12-8-80 to Templestowe 7-6-48. Division 4, Surrey Park 11-11-77 to Fair Park 5-6-36. And finally, Sylvan winners over Kilsyth today. Sylvan 15-11-101 have defeated Kilsyth 10-7-67.
Well, Kilsyth were fighting for a final spot, and Sylvan are a lowly team with nothing to play for. So
Davo, in the last couple of years, Kilsyth has had an ability to knock themselves out of contention.
They did last year, didn't they?
They seem to get themselves back in contention. See the finals.
Because they've been good the last couple of weeks.
They close the gap and then they seem to lose, which no one else is losing to Sylvan, and they lose today. So I don't know what happens with Kilsyth sometimes.
Yeah, and a big win also to Rowville over Blackburn. That certainly makes it interesting in the top 5 as far as Division 1 is concerned, because Blackburn were playing well in recent weeks after an indifferent start to the season, and Rowville all of a sudden placed their imprimatur on the competition.
It's a very interesting. We'll get all those scores because I think the top 5 will change a little bit today.
Yes, and Montrose claiming the win over Knox, Barry, in the end. 35 points the margin.
Yes, that's right. 15-12-102 to Knox 9-13-67.
Well, at least Knox were more competitive this week, that's for sure. Well, we'll start to think about our best players as we head closer to our finishing time at 5 o'clock.
I just wanted to say, Dan, remember we did that podcast on EFL Insider? I said East Ringwood was my roughie.
he got the points up, that's for sure. Well, East Ringwood have been waiting for a win for a while, haven't they? They've been challenging, they've been very close, and against a team like Noble Park, it was an opportunity today, and they took it.
Yeah, I think momentum and morale will be lifted because sometimes you don't get reward for effort, and young groups trying to lift their levels. And just like Mitcham had a good win last week, I think East Ringwood would take a lot of pride out of lifting their game to get a win today.
It's good to see the level of support out here today at Cheong Park. The South Croydon team, and Brad, you've been around the Eastern Football League for a long time, they have a community-oriented fan base, don't they? And they always turn up to their games, and we've seen it in full stripe today, not only with the ladies' game earlier on, but right throughout the afternoon.
Oh, for sure. Like, even when they're not going that great, South Croydon, they always have a big supporter base. So I think, when they're going like they are at the moment, the reigning premiers and playing really well again this year, they do come from everywhere. Unfortunately, I mean, anytime you get conditions like we've had today, it does have a little bit of an effect on the crowd. And there's always a few who decide to think, maybe I'll go next week instead.
Probably watch the stream here.
Yeah. So I think the crowd was down a little bit on what you'd expect for a grand final rematch, but that was purely because of the weather. And obviously, as we said, come September, if these two sides do battle again, we won't have conditions like this, hopefully. Pretty safe bet to say. But as I mentioned earlier, the scoreline in this game pretty similar to what it was in that grand final last year out at Bayswater on what was a sunny
25-degree
day. So South Croydon, you've got to say that at the moment they seem to have Vermont's measure. And over the years, they've beaten Vermont a few times, even when South Croydon weren't that great a side. They've upset the apple cart a couple of times against Vermont. So they, especially here at Cheong. So they're doing well, the Bulldogs and Vermont. Some people will say, oh, well, it's a loss you have to have. It doesn't hurt to have a loss sometime during the year, and come the end of the season, it won't matter that they lost one game. But it's probably a little bit of a concern that now 2 times in a row against the Bulldogs they've come up short. And their structure, which we heard Lockie John speaking about in the pre-match, that very, not basic, but very... they
were probably too structured in the grand final last year.
It's a very structured game plan that they have, and it generally stands up well. But now 2 times in a row against the Bulldogs, it's come up short. And obviously, in these conditions, it throws a real variable, doesn't it? Because it rained a lot during the game. We haven't really had that much this year where we've had a few days where it's rained in the morning of the game or leading up to it.
It's probably the first big downpour we've had.
Yeah, during the game.
Yeah.
So that definitely played into the Bulldogs' hands, you would think.
That's it. And I think Vermont very quietly would be wishing that they don't have to play South Croydon in the finals because, as you said, it'll be interesting to see whether they do beat in the final series and whether that mental element will stack up. Maybe a few doubts will creep into the minds of the Vermont players because they've lost 2 in a row now.
Yeah, and Doncaster won again today against Norwood. So really the top 3 look really strong. I think it's going to be hard for anybody else to grab the double chance this year in Division 1. Those 3 sides, Vermont, Doncaster and South Croydon, really haven't put a foot wrong all season. So it's looking like it's wide open for the premiership this year, which is good.
It is very handy that South Croydon won today, given Rowville also prevailed. So it sets the top 3 apart now from the rest, you would think, as far as Division 1 is concerned. Barry Cotts, we have a couple more final scores filtering through, particularly in Division 3. Heathmont just got the job done.
Yes, Heathmont were trailing for most of the day, and it was on the last quarter that they came back to win. The final score was Heathmont 9-16-70 to Ferntree Gully 7-14. 56. Ringwood and Templestowe 12-8-80 to Templestowe 7-6-48. And the Basin won today. They certainly did. And the final score was 13-11-89 to Churnside Park 3-9-27. And Donvale and Waverley Blues. Waverley Blues won in the end 7-13-55 to Donvale 4-7-31.
We'll start thinking about our votes and the number of the prizes that are to be claimed today. Of course, we have the Trojan Workhorse Player of the Day, and there was certainly a need for workhorses out there in these conditions here at Cheong Park. Of course, the winner of the Trojan Workhorse of the Day, they claim a $150 toolkit, a tradie toolkit, thanks to Trojan, and that will come in very handy. There are a number of workhorses to choose from. I might put it into the hands of yourself, Brad Henderson. I mean...
we usually go with the other award first, so Damo, because if there is a tie...
I'm trying to set it up for the top 3.
If there is a tie, we tend to give the workhorse award to the guy who doesn't win on the countback, sometimes, if they're worthy of the award. So we probably should do the best on ground first and then... Work that way. If that's
okay. Thank you, Brad.
That's how we've rolled.
We'll move on to the Tobin Brothers Player of the Day, and of course, the winner of that particular award will claim a $50 gift voucher as far as Coles Myer is concerned. So certainly very handy when it comes to groceries or any purchasing of that nature. So we'll start off with your good self, Gav Casey. You have your 3, 2 and 1 for the best player of the afternoon. And Brad Henderson will also provide some votes, and myself.
Yep.
So, Gav?
Normally I don't struggle to find 3, 2 and 1, but almost clueless today. It was one of those games where I was concentrating so hard to pick the players, I didn't observe as much as I would like to. So I'm sort of going to work off a feel here that I thought Pongracic was involved a lot. So
particularly early.
Yeah, and he put himself in the into the game just when there he is on replay taking a mark in the forward line. So Pongracic gets 1 vote. 2 votes, I think, clearly for Vermont. Best player they had was Shane Davidson because he took some. He did some nice defensive acts and he got some run off the back line. It didn't always work out for him because the options didn't seem to appear that often for Vermont today. But my 3 votes, and I'm not sure if you guys are going to agree with me, but it's Nick Molnar. I thought he was always involved and he created a lot of good momentum. So I'll give him the 3 votes and I'll see if you guys agree with me at all.
That's it.
Yep, we'll certainly discuss that in a moment, Gav, but it looks like we're going. Matt's brought us a couple of guests to discuss this afternoon's game.
Yes, we've got a couple of South Croydon boys in, obviously enjoying the victory with a cold beer in hand on a very cold day, of course. A couple of South Croydon boys who certainly start today. Of course, we have Jason Pongracic. I think I pronounced that name correctly, is that right?
Yeah, not bad. Pongracic.
Pongracic, sorry.
Not the worst one I've heard.
And, of course, Liam Cox, another contributor, solid contributor for South Croydon today. Congratulations on the win. I'll start with you, Jason. You were very effective in that first term. You'd be pretty happy with the way not only you played individually, but the team throughout the 4 quarters, even when Vermont challenged up until 3-quarter time.
Yeah, thanks for that. Obviously, coming back from VFL, I've probably played about 5 games with South Croydon this year and just really enjoying being part of the group. And, these conditions, I guess, suit me. Not too fast and don't get too much ball around the ground, but if there's a contest there, I'll like that. So, definitely enjoying the group. And we played really well today, so it's good.
And Liam, of course, Jason mentioned the conditions. Do you think it suited the whole team today, given that it was very in and under? Your tackling pressure was fantastic throughout the entire 4 quarters. You seemed to catch Vermont on the hop. Do you think maybe the conditions suited you today more than anything?
Yeah, I think they did. We talked about it during the week. We said as long as our pressure's good, we're always a chance to win. So, as you said, the weather sort of made the ball sort of be more contested, and we felt we put the pressure on, and we just didn't really convert our chances. Probably missed a few shots and goals, and maybe could have been a bigger win. But at the same time, it was a great win, and everyone played really well.
Jason, what does this do for the confidence of the side, given you've knocked off Vermont, who were undefeated to this point, looking almost invincible in a way, and you've knocked them off in a relatively convincing fashion, given you had more than double the scoring shots for the entire game? That must give you a lot of belief if you meet in the finals once again.
Yeah, I think definitely the group will take a lot of confidence out of the win today. I said to a few boys, I was listening to Dan talk on the radio during the week and gave me a bit of an idea of the significance of the game and, where South Croydon and Vermont have sat in the last couple of years and obviously with the history of last year's grand final, to come and knock them off mid-year and just build on the form that we've been building over the last few weeks, it gives us massive confidence going towards the end of the year. But in saying that, we're realistic that it's round 10 or round 11 or whatever it is. So a lot of footy to be played and, we'll look forward to meeting them later in the season.
Yeah, you mentioned the grand final last year, and I was going to ask, how much was that talked about this week, particularly in regards to what you guys did well against Vermont in that game, the things that came off, and trying to repeat that this time around?
Yeah, so it was discussed a bit. Thursday night we talked about it a little bit, but we just said in that grand final, me and Jason didn't play in that, but we said our pressure was elite. That's what sort of, our first quarter was a really good start as well in grand final, so if we started well and that pressure was high, we're always a chance.
And guys, I'm just so impressed with your pressure acts, the smothers even in defence, the selfless acts. I think you can actually rely on your teammates. You're that even that you can actually do all those things because the next guy's going to do that as well. So actually the spread of effort is fantastic for you guys.
Yeah, I think there's massive trust within the group to back your teammate in to do that, to make that tackle, make that smother, and I suppose that's just infectious within the group. So one person does it and everyone else wants to go with them. So there's a lot of boys leading the way with that, and I thought Maxi Molnar was just unreal today with his attack on the footy and his tackling, his job on the bloke from the other team. What's his name? Schneider.
So you would agree with me giving him best on ground was a wise decision?
Yeah, very much so.
Thank God. I was struggling with votes. Yeah. So I was wondering who to give the votes to, so I'm really relieved you said that. Yeah. But what about the midfield effort? It seems like Vermont can get their hands on it, but they weren't able to get it out of the contest. You were the ones who were tackling and getting the ball out of the contest and able to spread today.
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about that sort of like trust your mate. So like one, go to the ball carrier and beat him on the inside, get him on the outside sort of thing. So and with our back set up, we're sort of more attacking. And that allows our mids to attack the ball a bit more, knowing that they've got that safety net down back. So if they do lose the contest, we've got numbers down back as well.
And Jason, just lastly, I know the celebrations won't be as rapturous as they were after a grand final win last year, but as well as taking in confidence, it'll be important for the team to be complacent because there's still the second half of the season to go. It's a long season. So how do you go about stifling any form of complacency?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're well aware that it is mid-season, and it's a great win and great for our confidence. But by no means is the job done this season. So I think the last few weeks we've been really working on the quarters we win and how many quarters we've won in a row. And I think until last week it was 16 in a row or something. So we're just keeping it simple and go out and try and win the quarter, win 4 quarters each day, and just trying to keep getting better and better. And I think if you look at our side, there's a lot of guys running around in the reserves that senior players and have come in and played really well this year. So there's a lot of depth there and a lot of competition. So it's a really positive environment at the club at the moment.
And what do you think of the VFL development squad's gone out? So a lot more players are now at Suburban. Is that good for football in Victoria, that you're going to see talent back at local level?
Yeah, well, me and Jace have both been through the VFL system, and we've both played a bit of development. So it does create that pathway, but it makes it hard for a club like us where we are sort of pushing the points a bit because a few boys that we wanted to play in the ones have to play twos and stuff. So it makes the club stronger, but it makes our depth stronger. And being a good community club, everyone's happy with that. So but it doesn't eliminate that pathway. So I'm not sure if they're going to bring that in the future. But
so you guys juniors of the club, but do you get the lower points coming back?
Yeah, so I've been playing since under 10s and then played about 50 senior games before going to Box Hill. So I'm a 1-pointer, but Pongo's from Williamstown.
Yeah, 5 points for me.
Right. So who are you keeping out of this team?
A few blokes, probably Hamo, who's been good and unlucky. So Lucas O'Neill there, yeah. But I'm sure he'll come in and play his role when the opportunity comes up.
Well, you're keeping out a guy that Dan King said could have got the medal on grand final day. Yeah. So keep up the good work though.
No, we'll always have Pongo.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you're from Williamstown. You would have enjoyed the slipping and sliding because they had that last week, I think, down at the old Seagulls ground.
I said to a few boys, I was a bit disappointed I missed out on playing last week. But got to run around in it today, so it worked out well.
Well, we'll let you boys go and celebrate with a cold beverage and the like. Fantastic effort today, and congratulations on the win. All the best for the rest of the season.
Thanks for having us.
Boys.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. Of course, a couple of great players coming into the side today and making an impact from that VFL development level to win and contribute to South Croydon's victory today. Of course, Jason Pongrasic and Liam Cox. We'll continue on with our votes, boys. Gav Casey has given his 3, 2 and 1.
Nailed it.
Yes.
I named them and then they said beautiful.
I'll go to Brad Henderson next.
Okay, thanks very much, Damo. Well, I went with the big ruckman, Max King, for 1 vote today. I thought he took the honours against Buxton. We said that throughout the day. He seemed to be having the better of him. He won a lot of taps, but also he won a lot of them down to his team's advantage. And those two guys had so much work to do today. There was so many stoppages and so many boundary throw-ins and ball-ups. And Max King was absolutely tireless. Didn't really get a lot of chop-outs in the ruck today either. He pretty much had to do the work himself, but he was terrific. I go Frank Anderson, 2 votes. Every time I see South Croydon, he seems to deliver. And I thought in the second half he really came into it, probably a little bit quiet early, but in that second half when the game was there to be won, he was on fire, clean, skillful, great balance, uses the ball well, good decision maker. And as Gav mentioned, it was a day where it was really hard to find players who deserve votes. It's probably mainly because South Croydon was so even across the board and they were the winning team. So you generally like to give the votes to the winning side for the most part. but they were so even and they had so many good contributors that it was hard. So apologies to a couple of their players like Kilpatrick, who I thought was terrific game by him. But the guy I gave the 3 votes to, you sell yourself short, Gav. Don't doubt yourself. I thought Nick Molnar. I gave my 3 to Nick Molnar as well. I thought he played a mighty game today, so well suited to those conditions, and he was just absolutely tireless and tenacious all day on the bottom. So many times on the bottom of the pack there he was, winning the ball out, extracting it. And he played a huge game and a big 4-quarter performance as well.
Yeah.
So I thought he was best on ground as well. Not by a clear margin, but just shaded everyone.
Just the fact that Schneider didn't influence it in the second half was big as well. And the guys appreciated that effort on Schneider because he could have easily been... Schneider was working his way into the game.
Condition suited him, didn't he, Schneider? Because he's a very... Especially in the manual, you see how... He doesn't look like he's the quickest player, but he's built... He's very, very well built. Would have suited the wet. So it's a good point.
I'll just give my quick 3, 2 and 1. I gave 1 vote to Brett Eddy. I think 4 goals out of 8 in a losing side in these conditions is a fantastic effort, even though he didn't have a great deal to do with the play. 2 votes to Max King, who was tireless in the ruck all afternoon, and I gave my 3 votes to Nick Molnar as well. Matty Fodia, I'll throw it over to you.
1 vote I'm going to give to Andrew Pretto. So this probably goes against what Brad said about Frank Anderson, but I thought Pretto did a pretty good job on Anderson, considering the skill and prowess that Anderson has, and also probably in the second half he was Vermont's best midfielder himself. So he was able to double up being a tagger and playing a aggressive role. 2 votes go to Max King. Absolutely dominated the ruck. A man who was dominant for the EFL in the interleague game and was one of the best players in the interleague and talked up as a prospective, maybe mature age recruit, and they pull him out of nowhere. And today he was second best to Max King everywhere he went, and then even was able to contribute down forward in that third quarter.